This man is too strong to detect zero roots. But his master, Qingmai, has an unrivaled level of training. The woman actually chose to give up rest for her and stayed with her in the Red City and changed. But the man is because the level of the withdrawal formation is too low. The specifics of his being Xianzuan cannot be compared with Ji Wei. Everyone thought he was flying, but it just released a drop of 0.0. Xi Ling in the movie almost burst into tears. We were all dumbfounded when it was repeated. They only heard about this kind of movie spirit among those top-notch movies. In just a few breaths, they then saw the rise of the Chinese language. The man's name is Yun Qingqiu. That is the strongest in the Xiuxian world. He is invincible in the world all his life. Just the content about Du Jie becoming a god. Unexpectedly, his soul penetrated into the body of a boy with the same name, and this boy was in the middle of Xinzi's bath. Bring Yun Qingqiu back to divine love. These girls have already met and are ready to kill her. At this moment, the originally calm lake surface suddenly shot out huge snowflakes, and several female cultivators were blown away on the spot. Which one of these has a 4th level yang shou that has been practicing for thousands of years? Every girl's eyes are full of fear. I am afraid that only the elders in the establishment of shares can unite with the people who are determined to. One of the women made everyone cry and went to invite the elders in Chinese. And he is leaving Duan Hong. But how can he be an opponent with such a thin waist? Even if I'm beaten to the point of being helpless, a woman bites. First choose to spray out the gradually losing consciousness. Just as he fell, a young man held him in his arms. The red stone will have a strong internal pressure on the little gallbladder. Yun Qingqiu turned around, looked at her waist not far away, and clenched her fists. Finally, the joy of refreshing spring shoes has passed. The next second, Jing, who was suffering from waist thinness, couldn't run anymore. In the end, even should Ji Yu would leave a piece of it, I forgot to put it away. I still wanted to eat grilled fish. Yun Qingqiu checked the grill gas. Just before leaving, suddenly he saw the face of a young man from the lake. The next time, a burst of giant sound came from his head. He felt like there was some kind of memory that was constantly entangled with him. After a while, he realized that he was the young god who had traveled through Qingqiu in the famous teaching camp. The boy went out to show off, but encountered a monster in the picture. In the end, the two fought for 3 days and 3 nights, causing him to die. Thrown to weightlessness, Yun Qingqiu first checked her body. The current state has officially entered the state of transformation into gods, but strangely, there are no symptoms of non-Chengfa. While he was in trance, a girl ran away. He is the Qingwei master of this prime minister. Ma is very narrow-minded. When the girl sees her change, she wonders where she has been these past few days. The recruitment address for returning to the original architecture is coming soon. Who here doesn't want to set foot on the immortal map and become the best possible existence for all people? Next, I have a high repair line. The corners of Yunqing's mouth are drawn out after autumn. I have been practicing for thousands of years. When the show is over, I have to start over again. Finally got a chance to make a fool of myself. Let people come to the Mr. Gui Yuan stock building. If you pass the test here, you will be qualified to take advanced courses. Lin Xiaoya jumped and looked at the mountain top in the distance. If she could be chosen to stay here, she could fly to those grooms in the sky. It was just an expected flight. Yun Qingqiu told him that it was actually very simple, and the woman thought she was bragging. Yun Qingqiu Nai is a man at the top of the world. The selection of a small sect like this, even in trouble, is easy for him. But in the eyes of women, he can't even get into the top position of the class, let alone think about it. Yun Qingqiu was extremely unhappy about this. He was thinking about whether to smile or not to smile insincerely. Testing must begin soon. A fairy is registering the distance to go. Take her to see Yun Qingqiu. It turned into this lamp group at a glance. He dared to rush to pull his senior sister over. Raw score difference. How he survives being injured in the world. On the surface he wrote that he was very happy, but he hopes that Yun Qingqiu will stay and teach this guy a lesson in the future. Accounting materials. Xiaya saw the big shield stone. Yun Qingqiu can only attribute it to his handsomeness. After the names of all the people in the same period are completed, the test officially begins. A single attribute with 0 roots will pass the test. A dual attribute will become a genius cultivated by the middle school. Only one person with 3 attributes has been tested so far, and 2/3 of these people failed to pass the exam. Yun Qingqiu looked at Lin Xiaoya's back with a smile. His qualifications had already been discovered by Yun Qingqiu in advance, and he would shock everyone later. Sure enough, the moment I brought Lin Xiaoyao into Lin Town, Lin Li's desire to act quickly spread, and in the remaining time, 3 different colors of light covered his whole body. Sanlingen, a member of Tonghong.com, the head of stock construction, can be chosen as one genius in 100,000. We looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. After Lam Zheng's light disappeared, Lin Xiaoya nervously waited for the announcement of the result. He is a cultivator. The real master smiled and said, Lin Xiaoya, you have outstanding talent. You came back to the sect with us in advance. As soon as these words came out, the important people were extremely surprised. But after Lin Xiaoya hesitated for a moment, she asked Nagato to let him wait for the test to do the trick. Leader Jiangu is in a good mood. Naturally, he agrees to this simple request. Yun Qingqiu walked up with a calm expression. He stood blankly on Lin Zheng and waited for a long time, but there was no movement at all. Jiangu Changning looked at the girl's disappointed look, so he persuaded him, "Don't worry about me." Time flies by like a blank sentence. Decades have passed in the blink of an eye. How can I miss this mortal? Lin Xiaoyao's eyes flashed with inner light. He didn't want to leave this man. Just when he was about to tell Chang Wen to give up rest and grow old with this man, he suddenly noticed that Chang Lun's expression was extremely pale. Lin Xiaoyao turned around and took a look. I was so surprised and helpless that I opened my mouth. I saw that Yun Qingqiu's body was emitting a medicinal light, and the powerful fluctuations almost blew the test spirit out of his face. All the elders were dumbfounded. This is the legendary mutant spiritual root, but Yun Qingqiu was helpless. This test, Lingzhen's level, was too low to test his spiritual roots. In desperation, I can only take the initiative to release a little bit of spiritual energy, just enough to attract attention. But he accidentally detected and leaked the ice attribute spiritual root. Now the director will explode in the face. Dual attribute mutated spiritual roots, this level of talent has never been heard of in the top midfielders. Faced with the rise of mid-career wearables, they immediately gathered together to discuss who could know such a peerless foot. Yun Qingqiu, who originally wanted to keep a low profile, was instantly dumbfounded. He just wanted to attract attention, but he didn't expect that he would become a hot commodity in the end. Zhongzhang Lao and Nagato didn't care about the following test. They started scrambling on the spot. The leader is the first to accept the two of them as disciples. A group of elders suddenly tried to transform their machine eyes, and they began to fight against each other, provide various benefits to people. Lin Xiaoyao's choice is where to go with Yun Qingqiu, and Yun Qingqiu, the most obedient of the four elders in the same hall, is a disciple. He was accepted without saying a word. All the elders were dumbfounded at this moment. They never thought that the biggest winner would be the fourth elder who had never appeared before. Seeing that the two of them were determined, it was hard for them to say anything more. Then the two Shijie players played it again. They visited Zhongmen together. Maybe no matter what Qingqiu is afraid of, I always want to eat it. Kai Io Yinxiao, press his head and apologize to the world. I didn't expect that this guy in the world is also a fire eater. It didn't take long for the two of them to arrive at their residence. There's only one room with this place. Shi Jianwen thought they were right, so he handed them the cultivation axis and stood up to leave. Lin Xiaoyahong is so busy with the leader and sister. After some explanation from him, the world finally understands. So in Yun Qingqiu's hobby, Lin Xiaoya followed the two worlds out of the hall. As they walked away, he turned around and made a grimace to Yun Qingqiu, thinking about the things he was holding in his mind. Early the next morning, they arrived at the agreed training location. When Yun Qingqiu mentions cultivation, his brain starts to ache. He has just graduated from the cultivation path and is about to start it again. When the world saw the two people arriving, it started the most basic lecture. The realm of modification from low to high is divided into chi training and single clicking to solve the single, the reason for the single distance, the speed of movement and the formation of the knot. The head of Gui Yuan Jiangu is an overhaul of fine elixirs. Standing next to Lin Xiaoya, everyone in the hall was boiling with excitement. Yun Qingqiu, as the elder who turned into a neurotic, was actually being blown up in front of Qi by a little scumbag. He was really suffering and couldn't tell, and practicing Qi is actually the beginning of practice. After more than 10 years of explanation, Lin Xiaoya immediately closed his eyes and tried to practice. It didn't take long for the zero energy of those ethereal floating birds to become residual and circle around him. After Lin Xiaoya entered the state of Mingxiang, the world couldn't help but praise her. However, the anti-official Qingqiu was lazy on the sidelines. Lin Xiaoya was like a nuclear pool facing her, and the two worlds also believe that although his talent is outstanding, it is never a good thing to be too high and far away. Yun Qingqiu was a little helpless about this. In his understanding, absorbing spiritual energy is like breathing. It is a skill that comes with birth. He didn't expect that he would have to learn such a thing. In order not to be the director of the girl, he immediately entered the Mingxiang state. The world shield suddenly changed and they were shocked. They didn't expect that this junior brother's physical advancement was so high. An hour passed, and Yun Qingqiu still didn't look like he was awake. It's the sisters who haven't recovered from the shock yet. Next time, they were dumbfounded. Is this in Xinnan Lingqi? They felt that their worldview had been impacted. In all my years of living, I have never heard that beginners can absorb spiritual energy modifications. The amount of Yun Qingqiu Sinai's zero energy episodes can be compared with the master. Where did this Tianzhong equipment come from? In order to avoid causing unnecessary thoughts about heaven and earth, Yun Qingqiu quickly opened a channel for spiritual defeat, and there are more than one such spiritual defeat. Xie forced to suppress the shock in his heart. I can't help but praise Shan Dao. It's really difficult to apply the land. His talent comes from cultivation. He can have a profound influence on people all over again. He can also succeed in the Southwest Festival without anyone's guidance. He tried his best to calm down and then asked his junior brother how he did it. Yun Qingqiu spread his hands helplessly. In his knowledge, there has never been such a thing as practice. He can only attribute everything to his handsomeness. But the result of being cool is not the next 3 days. Lin Xiaoyao was hit and concentrated on practicing, but no one paid attention to him. Yun Qingqiu was very bored. No one could squeeze his body at that time. Writing ink alone was the most tormenting thing for him. Lin Xiaoyao was also very happy that Yun Qingqiu could master the practice method so quickly. But it was he who had been protecting this man in the past. She didn't expect that men would surpass her so quickly. This made him determined to practice big and thoroughly. So Yun Qingqiu could only find 24 players. If you wish to refer to Taizu Huang and Liu Yanjingqi's Yun Qingqi, the princess, who was eating one dish after another, said, "I'm afraid it's not the rice legs that have been turned into gold." If my sister looks at the newly satisfied girl, she feels a little uneasy. This junior fellow student completed the exercises and advanced study in one morning. Every day I write so hard that I don't blame myself. This isn't cultivation at all. It's just being a big boss. Now Yun Qingqiu wants to go out to play again after eating. If the world suddenly remembered that the peeping battle was not over yet, then a trace of bad thoughts appeared in the corner of his mouth. World Emperor Liubu, come over and have a chat. He deliberately pretended to be a little angry, but Yun Qingqiu didn't think too much and changed into the past. But next time I can lie down and wait for the Lord. The plump legs under the group are in place and the white color is original and tough. The lines are also very perfect. A layer of tendons is peeling off. Just when it is fascinated by it. If you are willing to point out the dense warmth, does it look good? Yun Qingqiu blurted it out. Of course it looks good, it's really cool. But when he saw the eyes of the world's nose, his shoulders changed and he said it was the white of the floor. The world asked him, were you the one who lost money that day? Faced with this kind of thing, Yun Qingqiu would certainly not admit it. He said sweetly, who can be so indifferent to the incident of escape? Liu Yuan only didn't respond to it. Instead, he opened his clothes and saw the blood-white bow and NVSU. Zero Qingqiu Federation dances each other and Jian Yun Qingqiu look like this. If you are willing to use your skills to hold the Yun Qingqiu giant Buddha, then you see now, Yun Qingqiu is a bit stupid. Can it be so late? I am more than 10,000 years old, but I can't play with a little girl in her 20s. I have changed after trying it for real. Yun Qingqiu, he can hug the world's lobby and tell the world that he didn't mean it and he doesn't know why he is there. If the world is built here and touches its head, it would be rude for you to come before us. If I peek later, I can sense your presence. After all, I am in the late stage of the flight. Yun Qingqiu Lenghen DC he praised the world. Ruo Wanxi then asked him, even the midfielder couldn't have alerted him that time. Did you see some expert coming? Yun Qingqiu lied without mentioning both sides and just talked about her wedding. Liu Yuan only had no doubts about this and saw that Yun Qingqiu was planning to escape. He can cultivate a spiritual relationship with the general throughout his life. I didn't say I would forgive you. Whether it was intentional or not, you have already failed him. Now a group of ice sapphire girls who robbed golden people have been captured by you. You respect them deeply. These words are like the mutual evil grass of Yun Qingqiu. Until he enters the lottery list. The world actually allowed this man, who once traversed the 4 paths and 12 reigns, and still swept hundreds of high-level waste sweeps, to manipulate female workers. The first thing I saw when I was being teased was that I felt so fast. I just hummed Koizumi when I was in the courtyard and left happily. Yun Qingqiu looked at this wave that was difficult for Emperor Zhu Jiayao to deal with, even if you follow the same group as the world. At this time, among the big books, Luo Yuanji and Mu Yun were showing some old secretaries with sad faces. Yun Qingqiu was so moved that he was willing to help them plagiarize but was unwilling to do the work. Implement decoding tone. Wash your body and point to the bookshelves in the room. Have you seen these books? Do you think it is easy? Why won't Yun Qingqiu use his spiritual power in the future? The world told him that it was extremely difficult to get started with Zero Ju like Feng Ju, otherwise the Great Elder would not have set such a punishment. After the explanation, Shi Jiebian prepared to super-manifest again. Nan Qingqiu told them in embarrassment that he actually knew how to deal with Feng Ju. After saying that, it walked up to Shujia to make sure it was right. So you use your spiritual thoughts to control the blood-thinning devices that are captured by hairy bones. You personally have more than 20 books to show off the blood thinning at the same time. Next to him, Luo Yuan just looked at him in disbelief. He felt a little wronged in his head, as if he was in a dream. This little junior brother only took a few days from being a mortal to cultivating, so he gave them too many positive shouts. In the 6 years since he started working, he has never heard of anyone from the electrical group fund who can learn and appreciate the scenery. How did that domestic product do it? Did he do the overhaul from the list? Damn it, your clothes look like the address for a newbie. The whole library was punished to write the address. I just feel like there is too much world. After the end of bringing clouds to Qingqiu, Dian saw what the two of them were stunned at. Shidi, When did you learn the mayor's pre-blocking technique just now? Facing the world's inquiries, Yun Qingqiu casually pulled a yellow line to deal with it, but the world was slightly excited as it listened and kept praising it as a cultivation equipment. This matter will surely cause a sensation if word spreads about it. As soon as this flower appeared, Yun Qingqiu was dumbfounded. Cheng Ni Madwa could cause a sensation. She was afraid that the impact would be too great, so she only controlled 20 sticks. He also used the pre-sealed technique as an excuse, otherwise he could borrow a trace of his spiritual thoughts and become able to control the entire library's books. Only a ghost would know that no one could successfully practice the pre-sealed technique. Yun Qingqiu dares to explain that he is a fox without trying to learn, but the world's reaction was even more intense. They had to notify the commander of the change. Yun Qingqiu is going crazy at this moment. How can this thing get bigger and bigger? Coffee essence is not warm enough. Using his mutated wind spirit as an excuse. Finally, it took more than 12.5 weeks to persuade the two of them. The three of them rested for a while and continued to read. However, those fellow disciples who were watching did pass on the real version. One by one, they chose the goods. Looking at these scrolls, this guy is still a little dull. They are preparing to pack up and go home for dinner, but Yun Qingqiu directly told them not to rush. Just hit the sailor and those scrolls will be lifted up automatically. Then they were placed on the table in full order. As of now, my heart is full of no pressure. 3 people came to 500. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, in order to keep a low profile, they pretended not to be able to fly. It was successfully completed with 0 effect from Shijie. The courtyard is only for those who drive in front. And Mu Yun was worried that Yun Qingqiu would be scared if she had never done Ling Qi, so he came to Yun Qingqiu and gently supported her. Yun Qingqiu originally planned to put his hand on the pre-reduction finger of Luo Yuan. Unexpectedly, Shisha grabbed his hand and placed it on his waist. It's easy to lose balance when flying, isn't it? After saying that, he just changed control and moved forward. Mu Yun behind him saw Yun Qingqiu's body moving and thought he was afraid, so he hugged him tightly from behind. In the front is Sister Yu with a good figure, and in the back is the cute and crazy girl. Yun Qingqiu stopped unconsciously. As the speed of the car increased, it would have been as if it had been checked. He immediately turned red. 3 happy flight captains. After the belt landed, Lin Xiong returned to his original size and returned to Luo Yuan Yixia's Hong. Kihara originally wanted to care about Yin Qingqiu. Unexpectedly, the faces of this family were so angry. Shijie also thought it was because of the strong wind. Luo Yuan only looked at Yang Yin Qingqiu with all the eyes in the courtyard. And then forcibly suppressed the flying tiger on his face. Since entering the hall, I tried my best to find out that Ling Xiaoyang was still cultivating. So I moved to another house. After leaving the hospital and returning to the room, I suddenly saw Yun Qingqiu's beautiful face dripping from the bed. After seeing it, he liked it very much. Abstract things can also make women like it. Yun Qingqiu is a bit dull. At this moment, I heard Ling Xiaoya's joyful voice. The world heard that he had reached Jinqi and respected him and was happy for him. Lin Xiaoya thought that this time she finally felt like she had defeated this idiot Qingqiu. What he said made you feel proud all day long, but the next second he heard what the world said about today's events. He was completely stupid for the blind time. It's not easy to learn how to practice qi. I thought I was sentimental about this education. I didn't expect that he had already learned the qi skills. Zero Xiaoya was deeply hit. Holding the power against Yun Qingqiu, he was going to go back to his room to watch the department's follow-up film. This time it couldn't eat the food cooked by Ling Xiaoya for 10 days. And if you wish to go out for something, Small World Mu Yun organizes it every day and clicks hard. There are only the sizzling horns of its strings. Those who are bored can only come and read the levels in the tube and pretend to be busy. However, for Yun Qingqiu, these books are still very attractive to him, especially the set of Ghost Fathers about the daily love between real people and apprentices, which he read carefully and moved. It was completely invisible in his time. Unknowingly, he had been in the library for 3 days. His body was already a little overwhelmed, and when he saw that Jingjing was in position, the little senior sister and Lin Xiaoya wanted her to come over. Lin Xiaoya was very different about this and didn't hate opening books. Faced with the woman's doubts, Yun Qingqiu Alliance hid the loss behind her back. She told the woman that these were just some spiritual books about corruption. After reading them, she could temporarily feel nothing but nothing. Out of curiosity, Lin Xiaoya also wanted to turn the devil away. How could Yun Qingqiu let him see her own fate? It stores books and opens images at the same time. Fortunately, Lin Xiaoya didn't think too much. He gave Meng Yun a color, and he didn't want to let it slip. It seems that several Yuan has a little secret in his heart. Mu Yunqi begged Yun Qingqiu to go to the mountain with her to use it because her pre-sealed seal was so useful. Yun Qingqiu thought it was boring, so she agreed. The 3 of them came to Baidao Peak. Mu Yun took out a map and looked at it carefully with an extremely serious expression. Yun Qingqiu glanced at the map and didn't expect that except for one soft spot, it was almost all pointing lines. Do you still need to watch your horse? With the help of Yun Qingqiu, required efficiency plan, I quickly collected the needed medicinal materials. When the leader left, Yun Qingqiu deliberately stepped on the precious battle beads because of the little junior sister. This is mainly because he is very invisible. If it weren't for his powerful original god, it would be difficult for ordinary people to find him. But I didn't expect that this small world would be filled with an innocent brother without any brains. The first time he fried the fruit, Yuan Qingqiu was a little speechless. The second time I dug out the country half a year ago, Yun Qingqiu has a headache. The third time I finally looked up at the number, Yun Qingqiu finally breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't expect him to go through CAIMO. Yun Qingqiu couldn't bear it anymore. He passed Mu Yun and came to the tree. Then I jumped up directly, and directly on the tree there was a collared grass emitting a faint silver light, asking to take it off and put it in front of Mu Yun. Mu Yun looked at the blue forest grass with excitement. Suddenly in the same house, this is a zero-level transformation. It takes 10,000 pigs to transform one pig into one. Junior brother, how did you find it? Yun Qingqiu remained silent. Then he turned around and took out his two small red eyes. This is 300 years of eating Britain. Lin Xiaoya stood aside. Although she didn't know what happened, she could tell from Mu Yun's expression that something terrible had happened. After several repetitions, Mu Yun had filled a bunch of precious medicinal materials. Yun Qingqiu patted the soil on his palms. Nian Wu's expression was well received, and Wen remembered their taste and made mistakes later. Yun Qingqiu took them around a few turns. When he came to a dying old book, he saw that there was nothing special at all, and when he opened up the pane, Envy Liang was immediately attracted by the strange medicinal fragrance. I didn't expect that a 0-year plan would actually grow in this dead tree. He is so secretive that he can be found by his junior brother. Did you find him like a dog? Just when they were suffering from new injuries, suddenly, there was a burst of extremely fast footsteps. The righteous girl and the boy wear good clothes and look good, and belong to Zhong's old family. Their master and the fourth elder have always been at odds with each other. And these three people are all hosts who are practicing meditation. After seeing them, Mu Yun had some wild rumors in his heart. The man wanted to take action but was stopped by the wolf of the world. Because in their eyes, Lin Qingqiu is just a weakling who needs their protection very much. But not only does this senior brother not have him, but he also has to do double cultivation with Lin Xiaoya. Lin Xiaoya's eyes were filled with coldness at this incident, and General Qingqiu was firmly behind him. This is a habit he has developed since childhood. Every time Yun Qingqiu is in danger, he always ignores the party at the front. Feel the inner part. The man then planned to face these new Ouchi. Do you think that such a talent of 30 roots can be lawless? Today I will teach you the rules for your world. The moment he rushed forward, the woman in red caught a cold. Lord, please don't do anything harsh. After all, he is the future genius of the sect and they don't dare to trust him. Something that no one expected. The man's fist that rushed forward had not yet landed on Lin Xiaoya's face. The backhand hit was strong. In the end, Lin Xiaoya took advantage of this opportunity, stomped the air on the ground with one foot. There were expressions of incomprehension on everyone's faces. This new student had only been in school for a few days and he actually learned how to sleep coldly. The man got up angrily and removed the picture on his face. He was so powerful as a resident, but he was actually videoing it in the hands of a new student. Just when he was about to take action, senior sister Mu Yun also rushed forward. With the cooperation of the two, Fang Tu was beaten back and even became disadvantaged. Lin Xiaoya just started working for a few days. Mu Yun, on the other hand, came from Shengmen Darby's shop. A man was spanked by two girls. It was so embarrassing. The woman in red asked her junior brother to go up and help. This man rushed forward like a ferocious wolf, feeling the powerful spiritual power within him. Mu Yun felt that it was not a good idea to pin him down. The two of them worked together to deal with Fang Tu. They were exhausted and had no chance of winning against multiple opponents. The man threw out a memory that directly dispersed the two people's attacks. Human fire spreads a vicious treasure. The hot air made Lin Xiaoya and Mu Yun low and red. The moment they were about to be swallowed up by the flames, a small voice blocked in front of them. When Lin Xiaoya saw that this person was Yun Qingqiu, she was so excited that she shouted desperately. Can be downloaded. I saw Yun Qingqiu's palms gently questioning. The flames of sweat on the chest spread out in all directions. Then the tiny flames of the painting disappeared into the ground. The man hasn't had time to clear up the chapter yet. Then I saw a figure coming out of the smoke. Last time he was completely stupid. Yun Qingqiu said lightly, "You are very crazy." Silver steel fall fell directly onto his chest with such speed that he had no time to defend himself. This terrifying scream made Fang Tu's soul freeze. That guy is a stronger being than him. How could he be recorded by a new disciple? He saw that Yun Qingqiu didn't take him seriously, and was ready to sneak in from behind. All they are waiting for is one skill to restore his blood body. He kicked him directly next to He Ning, and the two lay together. Two monks who lived in Jijin were beaten by a trustworthy person who had just started. It was embarrassing to spread the word. The woman in red is just about to take action, but he found that the young man had arrived in front of him at some point. Then there was a strong incoming wind that directly knocked it away. Yun Qingqiu then used foam wren to destroy 3 pieces of bamboo. The grey hand painted them neatly on a tree. Many of them were in different walks of life. This red-bellied one fucked 2 girls. When they returned home, they still couldn't believe everything that happened during the day. Ling Qingqiu, who had just started practicing, had entered into a new chapter of strength and easily defeated 3 masters of the host mirror. I just raised my head and wanted to say something, but I saw Ling Sonia sleeping vigorously, as if she was about to fall down at any moment. Yun Qingqiu hurriedly stepped forward and exposed him in her arms, and then carefully felt the golden spiritual energy inside. But when it identified the box, it directly placed 1. This is the legendary Tianyu Shengtai. Yun Qingqiu was so shocked that she rushed to report him, then put it on the bed. Use the power of Daolin to control his style, for fear of causing the world to. When he looked at Ming Xiaoya, who was playing the role of Chen Shui, he felt a little stupid. This system is originally the innate system of the ancient 777 Western Friends. Those who possess this system are enlightened by the disease of heaven. And finally practice for no reason to the peak of the world of cultivation, becoming the forerunner of the people's consciousness. If Yun Qingqiu had such a system, he might have become a god 2,000 years ago. But now Ling Xiaoya decided to wake up too early. With its current body, it is impossible for it to mature. After thinking about it, Yun Qingqiu, take off Ling Xiaoya's coat. The girl's blessing can be smooth, very pure and charming. But Yun Qingqiu couldn't step forward to appreciate it, and a gleam of eagle-white light ignited in his hand. Then the woman died in the yin formation on the island. Confirmed that Wu Wu no. Yun Qingqiu used 0 power to move the magic circle into. Next time, Ling Xiaoya's soul and body will generate heat. He felt a strange surge of energy stimulating the 4 animals, reaching deep into his soul. The woman was so cold that she froze Yun Qingqiu's neck. Some unknown things happened after school. Yun Qingqiu pushed him on the bed. After controlling the heartbeat, Yun Qingqiu's cold floating body examination method symptom mark. It's okay if you don't look at it, but you'll be shocked when you look at it. The magic mark pattern turned out to be your own supernatural power. This is the principle that only dual cultivation can have mutual sensitivity. But he and Lin Xiaoya did nothing. Yun Qingqiu sat on the steps of the courtyard, carving a blade of grass in her mouth and thinking about life. After being single for 10,000 years, I suddenly found the principle of dual cultivation and the content of having my own profits. Because this kind of spiritual seal function can pass, even if we have been together for thousands of years, the probability is only seconds, let alone forcibly occupied. This is a name that can only be recognized and blessed by heaven. After possessing the spiritual seal, the spiritual power obtained by the 2 of them through double cultivation will increase tenfold. This 01 cannot be captured, and the body cannot be escaped by a man other than 01. This is a constraint from heaven and cannot be changed by strength. What makes Yun Qingqiu even more strange is that this spiritual seal is one-sided. He doesn't have Lin Xiaoya's supernatural powers. It's just that Lin Xiaoya has unilaterally identified herself. In other words, Lin Xiaoya will only belong to him from now on. Although Yun Qingqiu was a cool person, he still complained about it. Later, Lin Xiaoya found out that he had his own spiritual seal. How could he explain it? At the same time, Lin Xiaoya knew nothing about Lin Yin's knowledge. She had a strange dream, dreaming that she and Yun Qingqiu were married, doing indescribable things on a big bed. The dream is extremely realistic. How big is his whole body? He doesn't understand why he would do that. They talked about it for a while until he woke up. I checked the bedsheets and there was no red stain on them, but I was still the son of a prince. Put on your clothes and go out the door. When Yun Qingqiu saw him suddenly asking, the woman's retreat seems to be going on just overnight. At this time, the young man comes out to fight, and he wakes up from the wonderful play of evil. Lin Xiaoya, without saying a word, electricity vomited into its arms. The uncontrollable images in its mind are still scattered. This made his heart beat extremely fast. Yun Qingqiu noticed the woman's expression. I also know in my heart that this is what my spirit started to do, but there is nothing he can do about it. Who made this a wealthy place? In the next few days, Lin Xiaoya dreamed every day. Every time he thought about it, he would cry out and wish he could dig deep in the ground to dig in, even if they are childhood sweethearts who grew up in one period. But what I teach is really too restful. In recent days, Yuan Qingqiu's body has become weak. Because the supernatural relationship is too similar to Ling Xiaoya Jingyun, a lot of supernatural energy and vitality will be sucked away every day. Although his original body is extremely powerful, his body is too weak. Bing Qingqiu had no choice but to take the time to continue the boring physical training. The world of characters has been angered by Ling Xiaoya. He completed his 1-year training journey in 3 days. Who can bear this? Tuho Lin Xiaoya took Yun Qingqiu to the sex book collection room. Isn't Yun Qingqiu afraid of this place? But Ling Xiaoya couldn't leave him for a moment. Seeing the woman's evasive expression, Yun Qingqiu understood what this little girl was thinking. Yun Qingqiu, who had the same virtue as his female apprentice, had been entangled with him when he first started, and wanted various oxygen grinding techniques. But after being spanked by Yun Qingqiu, he became more honest. Unknowingly, 1,000 years have passed and he has become a stunningly beautiful person that everyone in the acupuncture world knows. Time passes like a drama in a blank sentence, but if you think about it, there is still some drama. When the two of them walked to the library, all the male disciples suddenly saw a car in front of them. Then I accidentally discovered that there was such a pure and beautiful girl in the sect. Some people even think about their children's civil supervision, but when they saw the woman holding the boy next to her with her arms, they immediately looked at Yun Qingqiu with all kinds of hateful looks. Yun Qingqiu was really speechless. She couldn't understand what these spear-headed boys were thinking. Look at the appearance of their self-cracked mouths, just like this puppy. Yun Qingqiu stopped walking unhappily. Have you ever bullied a small animal? Lin Xiaoya looked satisfied with her words. Yun Qingqiu smiled evilly and glanced at his classmates. Today I will teach you how to bully singles. This young man kissed the fairy that everyone dreamed of as soon as he got married. There were dog teachers and students with various hobbies around him, but he didn't pay attention to them. The school responsible for registering and introducing books. He often criticizes the girls he seduces with privileges. She started showing off beautiful women like Lin Xiaoyo again. Just when Yun Qingqiu was having a fight with a woman, he immediately rushed forward. After going in and watching, the money was even heavier. I have to adjust my skills to you. Although everyone was unhappy, no one rushed to stop him. If he offended him, they would never want to borrow Yu Linghuan from now on. Right here is. Yun Qingqiu grabbed the prominent hand. This senior brother didn't notice that the girl is very unhappy with you. If you lose her, you should get out of here. As soon as this flower appeared, everyone's expressions turned pale. The school didn't expect that a young man wearing a newbie's clothes would dare to smile like this. Good boy, do you dare to tell me your name? Yun Qingqiu said his name. When everyone heard this, they all looked at each other. Isn't this the new genius with 2 cheap forest lanterns? Although the school was very thoughtful after hearing this, it was also a little wary of his background. But this new disciple seemed to give him no face at all. Shuxiu had to take action in order to save Zunian. He immediately grasped his fist and rushed over. However, Ren Qingqiu was one of the number 4 who did not dodge. He just wanted to create a singing club for the stage, so he took this powerful blow. At the microscopic level, everyone's mouths were wide open and they couldn't believe what they saw. Even the eyes of Xiaoya on the side are filled with worries. Only the school has serious faces. How is this possible? Although he knew about Yun Qingqiu, he didn't expect it to be so strong. But when things got to this point, he could only use his scalp and rushed forward again. Anyway, I'm going to welcome him this time. This is a very powerful dose of power. He was hit hard and pushed to the spot. Yun Qingqiu patted Cheng Tong lightly. Brother, haven't you eaten enough? How can you attack the soft one? You don't have any strength at all. At this time, the school was very concerned about cultivation. He, an elite who invaded and recruited disciples, was knocked to the ground by a newcomer. This is simply great discrimination. He didn't care about anything else as promised by Nao Shou. He took it directly and stood up quickly. As the zero air spread, Jushan formed a handle with a handle, and the symbol of his search, Yun Qingqiu, flew over. Everyone in the microcosm was shocked. The second grade spirit lives in the water. Does senior brother Shu want to kill that Yun Qingqiu? The ship of water of trees and rocks shuttled to Yun Qingqiu's side. Only its hands were red. The body exuded a faint clear air. There was a trace of ancient magic in Yu Jian's body. Aoki Huang. It only took an instant to change the formation force that he thought was Australia and wave it away. Before Shu Xiu could react, he activated the sound wind palm again, and the wind pushed Shu Xiu's voice back and forth until the scroll changed it. Just when Xiaoya came to care about Yu Qingqiu, the restoration is also broken in every way. I feel relieved when I see him on both sides. At the same time, the third elder who heard the commotion came over. He made trouble for all his disciples, because he is very interested in the nature of the two of them. So I took them to test one. Bao asked Mu Yun to do experiments for them. Mu Yunchue came to count the money in despair. I don't bully him, he is just my brother's brainless daughter. Please give Ding Qi autonomy. After all, the high level of autonomy is just a pretense. After 5 years of entry, I only have AD level and almost a bottom level in Chinese TV. But Mu Yun was not his disciple, and Kong Ming didn't say much. Lin Xiaoya thought that she had only been in school for a few days, so how could she be in such a tight situation? But I didn't expect that he was actually a member of Pingji Autonomous Region. This is the point where most of the people who have reached the residence fund can only achieve the result after experiencing the improvement of physical properties through cultivation. And Lin Xiaoya's first month as a landscape architect has surpassed most of the addresses that have been in Zhongmen for more than a few years. She is indeed a genius of Sanlingen. Ozhang's website has always been in love, and he is a respectable mayor in the eyes of all his disciples. But if he can't sell it to anyone, Xizhang's website is lucky. He squatted down directly in the circles drawn on the ground. At this moment, only Yun Qingqiu knows that this silly girl's talent is not just that. It's just that this test speed is not at the level of Tian Yushengti, right? Zhang Laofu calmed down his desire to serve guests. Next is Ling Qingqiu. Ling Xiaoya was looking forward to it very much. He thought that even if Ling Qingqiu wanted to hide it, he would not be able to hide it in front of the zero-number test. Yun Qingqiu sighed and hurriedly compressed his spiritual veins again. She finally stayed in the small sect and was safe and sound. If she messed up, it would be all over for them. But the moment he put his hand on it, I was so stimulated when I tested the study room service that I killed the entire light and captured the whole earth. The sight before my eyes was too golden. Mu Yun was so surprised that she didn't know what she was doing wrong. And Lin Xiaoya said from generation to generation that he is so handsome. If it weren't for his advanced cultivation, the second elder would almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. Holding the groove, this is a first-class qualification. Yun Qingqiu has reached the highest qualification, because the first level of test number can only be reached by distance management. Your qualification is the highest level that a disciple can obtain. Basically, you can borrow all the Dharma enlightenment in the entire book collection. Even the genius Han Yu, who is known as the middle sect and has been in the Nanjian area for hundreds of years, only reached the first level within 2 years of entry. For words is probably not as good as for. At this moment, only Yun Qingqiu looked at the shining trees in a daze. It has obviously been defeated by netizens. Why is it still like this? After I took it back, the whole number was still on. Yun Qingqiu almost couldn't help but kick him short. Impulse is the devil. How dare he tell the elder that if it's over, he still wants to go back for lunch. As an elder, he certainly knows what it means to be a first-class envoy. Reason Jing, even the terrifying cave Jing, can completely lead Showman Fei out of the land of clothes. Such a major incident cannot be ignored and must be reported to us immediately. He took the support and told Yun Qingqiu that the number of qualifications would automatically drop the corresponding level. Wait for a while for the machine to arrive. Not long after the elder left, the entire test data suddenly exploded, all the data industries lit up instantly, and a piece of paper fell into Yun Qingqiu's hands. Yun Qingqiu broke into a cold sweat. The alliance hid the amount representing fake qualifications in the show. Shipling Xiaoya and Meng Yun didn't notice, so they let out a sigh of relief. This amount of light shines. Lin Xiaoya's fairness also fell apart. After contacting Yun Qingqiu, he changed his mind and waited for it in advance. Then several people discussed how to find some exercises. Although Mu Yun's appearance is not qualified to go to the combined district with the district, but this does not affect Ying Qingqiu's ability to worry about all the wind methods they want. Qi Yun Luwei made a small comment, slowly raised his head, and received a positive answer. Lift it directly. Holding Yin Qingqiu's neck with his hands to express his wishes. This scene happened so suddenly that Ling Xiaoya stood there and scratched her mouth. Soon he came to the library compartment. Yun Qingqiu recalled the scene just now, as if he had entered heaven. Who would be lucky enough to get this little thing? He shook his head vigorously and took away the ambiguous picture. Then he looked down at the note in his hand, which recorded the exercises they wanted. Its curious future skills are revealed. The Jade Body Scroll can cultivate the body, lose weight, and nourish cancer. The White Lotus Immortal Technique can whiten the skin, remove scars and remove body appearance. Yun Qingqiu almost vomited blood. No wonder the two girls impatiently urged her to move away quickly, just to look good. He continued to look down to persuade Mei Huju to increase Mei's gravitational pull on the Nanxiu system. The high temperature was invisible. The 72 practical postures for Mei Huju cultivation were suddenly reduced. Yun Qingqiu suddenly blushed. I wonder who chose this technique. After calming down for a while, Yun Qingqiu secretly wrote the reporter about the practice. Such a good practice, you must take it back and talk about it carefully. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly came across a strange book about. The other bookshelves are basically full. Only the bookshelf in front of me stores a single group of one-day zeros. Although it looks like it is unbreakable, no matter how hard you give in, even a fool knows that this thing has consequences and is not counterproductive. And the C version is placed so high, so that it is not only curious. Before he even got close to the bookshelf, he suddenly started to have a blast of Brahman's normal mood. It seems that only those who are ashamed to a certain extent are allowed to meet. But of course this ordinary thing can't stop Ying Qingqiu. He just touches it lightly. It usually turns yellow and slowly recedes. He immediately picked it up and started reading it. Although it was Kantian, it would not affect his cultivation, so he decided to take it back and give it to Xiaoya. At the same time, in the Zhongmen Square, dozens of disciples were still practicing in Huihan, complaining constantly about the violent spiritual power and the broken weapons. At this moment, an apology image suddenly appeared in Hongzhou. His words are like words, his temperament is excellent, and he is a descendant who walks out of his words. The moment he arrived, he caught Chongduo Nunxio's attention, and he came here to take out the 0 volume on the shelf. I didn't expect that when he came to the bookshelf again, he found it empty, because there are very few addresses that can reach this level. After taking it step by step to check, nothing happened. Then it came to the place where the answer was recorded. When the man here saw that it was Fairy Handler, He was so nervous that he almost lowered his hands. I also want to ask him who came to this floor recently. The man could only answer as before. He was a disciple of Qing Yufeng who taught Yun Qingqiu. Han Yu has never heard of this person since he started working. Could it be that he is a low-key genius? Hearing Hanle's question, the internal disciple's nervous memories Yuan Qingqiu is a new disciple this year. As soon as this flower appeared, Han Yu was dumbfounded. How could he enter the Yu district from the Heart Gate? Did some elder bring him in? The disciple's sister and father told a little about what happened before. After listening to this, Han Lexi felt fat. What kind of person was this Yun Qingqiu, a Qingchuan disciple who could defeat the elders within 1 month of his entry? Han Le, who had always ignored the facts, suddenly became very interested in him and got the idea to take a look at the mysterious boy. At the same time, Yun Qingqiu is enjoying the joy of the heavenly wheel. Under the sunset, a fairy massages Xi Chang. Who do you think my late daughter lived for? Yun Qingqiu remembered the words of Senior Xiuqian. The path to Xiuqian is to experience all kinds of suffering, and pursuing great treasures is all nonsense. Life now is much better than that of the suffering Gupi Xianzuan back then. On the other side, and you unknowingly came to Qinggo Peak while thinking. He is somewhat looking forward to finally meeting the one who is not Sanction. He doesn't know what kind of mother he is. Just when the cold moon flies down, suddenly there was an untimely and sweet interaction from below. What kind of business can there be? Han Yu Hong looked down. He thought that Yun Qingqiu was a serious line repairer from the ancient times, but he didn't expect that this person was a passionate prodigal who lingered among the flowers. The difference was really huge. This situation made him very embarrassed, so he turned around and planned to come back next time. Yun Qingqiu was almost fucked by Liang and Yu. He suddenly discovered that there was a jade sword modifier on the horizon. As if seeing the Uncle Star, the alliance only looks to the sky. Look who it is. This made Han Le, who was determined to leave by the political party, suddenly stopped. He took a deep breath and jumped down from the sky to visit the fairy who came to visit him. Bu Yun was shocked when he saw the human shield coming. His alliance has thrown away all the baggage. Han Le family, I am so lonely. What advice do you have for me, Yufeng? Yun Qingqiu and Lin Xiaoya fought against each other. This is the rumored long-term candidate for the future of the sect, Han Yuan. Because Han Yu is an extremely rice-eating practitioner and rarely shows up, they have only heard of it. But why did he suddenly appear here today? Mu Yun was extremely frank in his heart. They had the same differences in terms of status and cultivation. I really couldn't figure out why he suddenly appeared in the room of relatives and friends. Don't let anything happen to him while he's ballooning. Han Le is not a gentle person. After thinking about it, he still feels that it is better to be straightforward. He came to Yun Qingqiu and asked. This junior fellow student is the new disciple Yun Qingqiu Pai. Yun Qingqiu nodded, wondering why this beauty favored him. But in the next round, the woman said, Lin Qingqiu, I have some private matters that I want to talk to you about. Can you be a doctor in that grove? Lin Xiaoya quickly grasped the key words. Why does 40 take so long to reach the decimal zero? He didn't even know when Qingqiu hooked up with this beautiful girl. Although her face had the effect of draining water, Yun Qingqiu could clearly feel the internal woodiness on her body. Although he really didn't do anything and didn't know this fairy, but he still immediately attacked the ground to give him a way to get out of trouble. If he has something to do, can he talk about it here for an episode? Han Yu nodded mightily, which led to the purpose of his coming this time. Since he was very interested in the zero battle, he wanted to dance with Yun Qingqiu. Lin Xiaoya, on the other hand, directly grabbed his song with her own hands. She was really careless. She didn't even know when he finally succumbed to the fairy's idea. Yun Qingqiu also had no tears in the jade library. He didn't wait for him to speak. Lin Xiaoya then raised her head and took out the ID card fiercely and told him that she was on duty and it was not convenient to be released. If he was fine, please go back. Han Ledao was also clueless and nodded in understanding. And the next second, he invited Yun Qingqiu to go to the woods with him again, wanting to learn about him. Yun Qingqiu was inspired by the lust he painted. Even Mu Yun next to him got goosebumps. Xiaoya, who was directly beside him, clenched his fists. Even the smile on his face carries the meaning of a cold day, and it seems that the whole person is on the verge of breaking out. As he spoke, he slowly raised the cut barge. If you were the first person in the world, I could fight with you. Yun Qingqiu looked at the cold men, and for a moment she didn't know what she was doing. Even though I agreed, I was more serious about it. Liang Enyu quickly walked to the open space. For the sake of fairness, Han Le Zifeng Xiu suppressed Tong Tong Shui. Bing Xiaoya's eyes were downcast. Then Xiaoya would be offended. Speaking of big things, Lin Xiaoya strung out like a foot pattern. The imperial blue spiritual power was milled by water, and its shape quickly condensed into a god-man. Heading straight towards Han Yu. Han Yu turned slightly to avoid the water courtyard. Han Guang glides over and emits the sound of wind. Suddenly the charcoal explodes, followed by rapid hydration and decomposition into small water droplets that squirt together with the hands. South Korea-Vietnam alliance bends backward and continues to sink soil. Not only was he a little surprised, but if he hadn't been so surprised by the fight and his facial features were so sensitive, he might have actually been hit. Not only did he come with a serious nature, Hanla was almost thrown off a dose of horizontal ladder in an instant. Lin Xiaoyao crossed her hands and Lin Lining closed her hands, even though she had stopped the blow. But he was still beaten back a few times. Before he could react, Han Yu once again ordered the governor to write a letter to the governor who was famous. In Lin Xiaoyao's Muguangji, he knew very well that even if he dodged that punch, there would be another blow behind him. If he didn't handle it well, he would definitely be severely injured. He immediately adjusted himself and got into position without pushing or counterattacking. Although Han Yu was very different from what Lin Xiaoyao did, she still rushed forward with all her might. While I was waiting, I suddenly remembered the sound of breaking through the air. A strong stream of steam directly stretched the distance between Yang Ren and others. Han Yu was slightly suspicious of Lang. Yingfeng exploded and detonated Lin Li before contact and then deliberately pushed himself out. It was indeed possible. Liang Envy's figures are intertwined and constantly moving, and for a while it's really hard to tell the winner. Battle and performance preview. Lin Xiaoya leads Ling Ju with both hands. Lin Lirubo when Dang Ye uses the daytime supply. Han Yu smiled faintly. I saw him raise his left arm, also using no stationary. Just when the two are about to collide, Yun Qingqiu rushed out between Liang Yu and held their hands with both hands. He pulled Ling Xiaoyao into his arms and held Han Yu out gently, stopping the fight between the two. Han Yu didn't say much. The small chi practicing crystal could bring oppression to him. This made him even more curious about Yun Qingqiu's power. Seeing that it was getting late, he said a few simple words and turned into a fainting wind and snow. That night, Lin Xiaoyao lay on the bed and tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Obviously she had complained before that the stupid boy couldn't get a wife, but suddenly a woman came into contact with her, and she couldn't bear it. This feeling is like someone beating the carrot that I have worked so hard for more than 10 years. He made up his mind to get closer to Ren Qingqiu. Every moment, there were steps and ways to find a way out. Early the next morning, Lin Xiaoyao changed her clothes and stood in front of Yun Qingqiu. Jiao's beautiful appearance made him fall asleep instantly. Follow Lin Xiaoyao to the imperial palace where the sect practices. Yun Qingqiu accidentally helped him eat something. It's just that since the two of them appeared, other students have no intention of practicing. Many people who are difficult to cultivate really look at the lovely girl in the morning, and there is a heavy feeling in the chest, and they are extremely envious. Just when everyone is singing their hatred, suddenly there was a burst of Xian Huasheng from behind. Is that Fairy Han Yu? Even more beautiful than the rumors say. Oh my god, am I really not dreaming? The owner of the square, Wang Shu, spread out to Hanla and looked straight at the sect's first goddess. Han Yu had nothing to do and everyone ran to the edge of the square, but Lin Xiaoyao kept guarding Yun Qingqiu behind her. Han Yu quickly walked up to the two of them. I just heard him suddenly say, Lin Qingqiu, I thought about it for a long time and had no sleep last night. Sure enough, I am still very interested in you. Although Lin Xiaoyao was very unhappy inside, but there is still a faint look on his face. Qingqiu, what do you think? The corner of Ding Qiu's mouth twitched. He felt that there must be 7 knocks on this matter. So she turned around and asked Han Yu what she wanted to do in the world. Han Yu pointed to the side disapprovingly. It's nothing. Can you treat me as a small forest to protect the snow? Seeing that the fire on Ling Xiaoyao's body only increased, Ling Qingqiu gave him something to say. Han Yu thought for a moment. The so-called visiting you is innocent. I want to try it now. I don't know how to regret it. As soon as this transformation came out, all the Nanxia shield masters felt their heads warm and sat down, and the sound of broken discs came from the heart. Damn it, is it possible that Fairy Tan Yu wants to trade with him? Yun Qingqiu couldn't listen to it anymore, so she agreed to have sex with him. After saying that, he pulled up his show and took a step forward in front of Han Yu. Han Yu Weiwei Ilang took the initiative to lower his performance to the same level. The moment Yun Qingqiu agreed to him, she had already made a plan in her mind. She just wanted to test her own strength. Then come on. After using it to suppress all the zero power, Yun Qingqiu Dongjing's body came up from the grey spring. Hanla looked serious and treated it as a battle of the same level. Only flames quickly appeared on its palms. With the injection of Ling Li, it was quickly understood. It changes into a shot that shoots through the hand. Naturally, Yun Qingqiu also had to put on some pretense. Due to the changes, the leader moved to the outside of the feudal town and spread. The moment the two collided, a burst of energy burst out throughout the Qing dynasty. At this moment, Han Yu Shenqing suddenly flashed in front of Yun Qingqiu and dealt him a violent blow. Yun Qingqiu, on the other hand, used a series of titles to continue to expand to meet the attack. Hanle, who was low for a while, could only defend passively. Even so, he does have a new grave. This junior brother has indeed mastered the pre-sealing technique as rumored. At this time, the Korean Music Club has been appointed as a base. The battle with Yun Qingqiu Jingshan Chuan was back and forth. At this time, the Korean games are becoming more and more exciting. With your strength, you should be able to take the initiative to get closer. After saying that, he immediately attacked him. Immediately afterwards, there was a huge stepping sensation in my hand. Yuan Qingqiu flew out like dew in Qianfengzeng. The heavy species has declined to the ground. Everyone is stupid at this moment in the cold moon. This is just a light push without any bonus. It's impossible to hit. Anti-official Yun Qingqiu sat on the ground and ran away from him. He thumbed his data. It really couldn't be a Han incident. Niu Pai said it below. Han Yu looked at his hands in place. Wolf Lang didn't expect that this battle would end like this. He will pay for his defeat in this battle. If I lose directly, this woman will definitely not believe it. That's why he deliberately talked with other actors like us when he was on the verge of preventing relapse. After the battle, Lin Xiaoya dared to rush over and hug her master Yin Qingqiu. And Yu Xingkun just a moment ago came up with high-end spare parts for foreign businessmen. Then he turned around and decided to leave. Ling Zai supported him and left a message. If you have any problems, you can go to Yun Chifeng to find him, and he will take care of you. After returning home, Lin Xiaoya gave him chicken soup to replenish his health. Thinking of Yun Qingqiu being injured, he felt really bad. In the next few days, Lin Xiaoya has been painstakingly thinking about the mess of acid inflammation. Mu Yun was also very surprised that Lin Xiaoya could be shocked by the use of oxygen Lingju. He was deeply touched, so he studied Yang Yang Gong method more seriously. And Yun Qingqiu was once again attacked by Po Hai. Because Xiaoya had to absorb his spirit every day when he practiced. If it continues like this, I'm afraid its weak body will explode within 2 days. That night, taking advantage of the darkness, Yun Qingqiu came to a secret place. After repeatedly confirming 4 or 5 people, he cautiously stayed in the book for a while. The spiritual thought spread to the distant land of Shuwu, communicating with the divine beasts who signed the soul's 7th month and summoning them. Please continue to help connect Lin Jin Gru Yun. Talking about the big deal, the retail sequel of the hit is gradually revealed. Dozens of thunder blasts were used to evacuate the honey and kill Jiang Liangdu Baishu. Just then a small voice came out. The girl who looked like Luo Li stood there with big eyes. Yun Qingqiu was in a storm, and he clearly summoned a huge disappointment. How could it be these 2 tigers? So he avoided the MRT and planned to send him off in Jiangxi. Luo Li looked around, then turned around and met Yun Qingqiu beforehand. The eyes slowly opened, shining with bright light and surprise. Although in his impression, the master currency did not rise like this, but I still recognized him based on his qi. Shuju happily took it to Yun Qingqiu's side, asked where he had been these days. The sect and the young master were also looking around. Yun Qingqiu turned Shuju's relationship into a bun. It is impossible to go back. I will never go back in this life. Soon, he crossed his legs and stretched out his arms to ask him to check his physical condition. Xiaoqia's body gradually emitted slightly clear fluctuations. The pure color spread to Yun Qingqiu through contact and wrapped the 2 papers. Gradually, intricate patterns of veins appeared on his body. The subtle sounds from various parts of the body are gradually amplified in Data's ears. In just a moment, all the conditions of his body were controlled by Shuju. This is a very defensive method. You are a human accident. Yun Qingqiu slapped her neck and scratched her. My mother is your uncle. Through Shuju's exploration just now, he felt that this sentence about the body was like an empty sentence. There weren't many lifts, and it didn't even look like he was alive. And the 50 strands of water that the body originally possessed were forcibly taken away. The yang energy in the body was almost lost. It can be concluded that it was taken away by Yu. Logically speaking, Lan was completely destroyed, but because of Yun Qingqiu's Hunchuan, the original god statue regained a little vitality. But recently, there is a strange force that is constantly extracting life force, and the benefits of life are once again gathered here. The green and autumn colors of the clouds are gradually becoming more peaceful. It seems that we must find a way to do it. At this moment, Shuju suddenly attacked the Buddha's lower body. He patted his chest randomly and assured his master that there was no need to worry. As long as he played with him, he could alleviate the crisis in his life. Star Autumn Lotion. There are so many jade apples in the flower. Wait a minute. Then the version is empty-handed. He doesn't want to use the method of dragging the jungle to heal and let the data be exchanged. Data's originally serious face had a hint of anger. This is not good, right? Yunqing put his money into the machine, and the thin man couldn't help but drink. I have raised you for 5,000 years, so I want to use some of your good things. But you still dare to refuse. Shu Zhong blushed and turned away for a long time, but finally agreed. There was even a hint of daring in his eyes. Okay, that's great. He's about to take action right now. Yun Qingqiu almost jumped when she caught Huang. I pinched Data's little face and kept rubbing it a few times. You have the nerve to call me a mythical beast this time. You can't even think of anything unexpected. Why is he late for Lisheng? Who the hell said that the only real experience is that thing? Don't you know how to write? Give it to Lao Fangqiang. He put his finger to his mouth to break. Then he carefully lowered himself to the level of jade. Then gave the land to the owner. Then Yun Qingqiu took out the scroll from his sleeve and asked it to wake up all the needed medicinal materials. Use your finger to remove the space and slide it a few times. The message, Secret Mom, appeared immediately on the donation axis. There is no good confirmation. Data rolled up the scroll and handed it to the spirit clearing ball. He said cautiously that at present, the little master has sent out 10,000 modified palm silver, and each one is equipped with a full set of air conditioners. Don't let go of even an inch of your life. You want to see people alive, and you want to know them even if you die. As soon as these words came out, Yun Qingqiu's stewed stone became a piece of grass belonging to me. Should the little idiot be so stubborn? He even wrote a book to read with his fingers. Among the clouds, there are indeed a few strong men who foresee the flight. Xiaoshu is spreading the net everywhere. He lowered his head and thought for a while, fearing that his identity would be hidden even more carefully in the future. After the third elder saw Yun Qingqiu's qualification certification results that day, he decided to return to Shengmen immediately to inform him of the matter. At this moment, he has gathered the elder Zhong Zhao together. Tang Hua was still a little excited. Stan wanted to point out that they underestimated this kind of form that day. Today, Yun Qingqiu not only learned the art of pre-sealing, and there are more and more schools dressed up. A kind of self-awareness was even tested. Through his various outstanding performances, the third elder couldn't help but suspect that this kid might have found a professional method to break through the double-voice mutant spiritual route. But the second master was dissatisfied with this. He believed that the pre-seal was originally practiced by He Fengming. He was just Xie Mao who met Shahaozi. As for the apprentice school that defeated him, it was completely careless. As for the test numbers, they are only set for ordinary addresses. There are many deviations in the route of the bargain. Sanzhong Nao was speechless by his words. It just so happened that Han Yu came in and he dared to criticize important people. Today he came to practice and met Ping Zong. Because he lacked the energy to break through due to the incident, he decided to leave the seclusion early. The boss was overjoyed when he heard this. He must have been about to break through to cut off the order and enter the middle. To be able to reach this level after just 2 years of entry is truly worthy of being my apprentice. The leader of the gangster suddenly felt refreshed. Even if he needed anything, he could ask for it. Hanle had no intention of hesitating and immediately made his request. He hoped that the world-honored one could bring Yun Qingqiu Dai Yun Chifeng to the island. Through a brief confrontation between the two, he can feel that he may be the strongest among the disciples in the heart. Eating and waiting for genius should not be wasted. The leader stood up and floated it up. After all, Songmen didn't have the ability to restrain the two sides with one bell, so he had to settle the matter first. Seeing that the big Chinese test was imminent, he asked Hanle to go back and prepare well. Another point, when the sky dawned, Yun Qingqiu decided to go back to find Lin Xiaoyao immediately. As soon as I came in, I saw two people doing something. Because Nu Yun received a family-level letter from Sister Jisha, she needed to rush to get the reward money to help. After confirming that there are no problems in the line, Mu Yun took out a storage ring and packed all the luggage. Just as he was getting ready, the little duck's cold reminds him that he still has money to pay for beauty. There are still many ambitions. Lin Xiaoyao was a little speechless. He really felt uneasy, so he suggested that Yun Qingqiu come with him. Yun Qingqiu had no objection. Wuolin City Chamber of Commerce's transit city must have some rare materials there. Lin Xiaoyao's breakthroughs continued quickly, so he decided to stay and continue practicing. The two of them quickly arrived at the prosperous city of Lorraine on their bicycles. As soon as Mu Yun landed, he took him and ran forward. At the same time, a media girl with a tall figure kept escaping from Cheng Wen's mouth. Mu Yun waved at the corner of the store when he saw the implementation of Jie He, and pulled Yun Qingqiu to solve the confusion with the crowd. He first took the two of them to sing the rice song in the city. It wasn't until it got late that I took them back to regret. Yun Qingqiu also didn't expect that his senior sister would actually be the eldest lady who implemented the Chamber of Commerce. But what made him very curious was what happened to Master Sister that prevented him from returning her love for so long. Being dumped in a hospital means a lifetime of intrusion. The surrounding areas of Ruoling City are rich in lingqi and the land is fertile and rich in medicinal materials. After decades of accumulation, the solid wood Jew mansion has gradually become a place of eternal single medicine. In order to promote the development of local medicine refining, groups will organize single medicine competitions and use high rewards to attract large families to participate. And their Chamber of Commerce is only at the level of Shongqian. There are no particularly powerful alchemists. For the alchemy conference, they only maintain a micro level that is too low. However, some time ago, the master's secret injury relapsed, and Mingyi everywhere in the city urgently needed Yang Ningguo to prepare a prescription, and this medicine happened to be the prize in this medicine training competition. Impatient, he could only ask Mu Yun to come over for help. Although he is a fire-eating person, he cooks the fire spirit root and is very good at controlling the fire attribute. Although he is only half-trained, he has a lot of intention in practicing it. Mu Yun proudly took out his storage media. It groped inside carefully. As the smoke gradually dissipated, the object gradually appeared clearly. It was a pair of one-piece sand-covered underwear with lace. The design was extremely large. Just looking at it made me think about it unconsciously. He was so confident that he didn't even see it. If you can't help but turn your head, this is a surprise for me. I have that one, and I don't like it either. With this sentence in English, Mu-Yun's eyes moved upward for a second, and his expression changed rapidly. There was a burst of grabbing fire and he almost ran into the room first. He dared to hide the thing in a hurry. Her red face shrank on the chair. If I said, "Isn't this my sex?" Luo Yuan just waved his hands and rushed to nod, while Yun Qingqiu was silently deep in the eyes of the great animal husbandry. I didn't expect that I would be so busy in the little things that I was waiting for. Mu-Yun hid aside and was trembling. He hesitated for a moment and chose Chong Huan. He wore it to slim down his figure. As he said that, he pulled on the clothes to show its elasticity in front of the two of them. As soon as this flower appeared, both of them got it. Could it be that such an oceanic wood garden is still hidden? Early that morning, Luo Lin, the housekeeper who had implemented the Chamber of Commerce, knocked on the door and specially invited Mu-Yun to the backyard of the Chamber of Commerce to prepare medicine. Ren Mu-Yun also rescued the wall bed early and made sufficient preparations. What happened yesterday was a bit embarrassing. Today I must reshape my image and show off my skills in front of everyone. Under the orders of the housekeeper, a family is busy doing things. The backyard was quickly tidied up. Mu-Yun was also satisfied with this, as he didn't have to work anymore once Luo Lin came. At the same time, Luo Yuanji also came to the backyard. Xiaoying stood behind Qi Yuan. It's up to you these days. Come on. Mu-Yun dared to take out the pre-healing that he had prepared a long time ago, turned around and handed it to Lu Yard. This was the gift he had prepared. Yesterday's lip accident. If you wish carefully, you will be prepared and opened. The people from the agricultural area sprayed someone in the same letter, and the backyard was instantly confused by the smell of the people. Mu-Yun explained with some embarrassment that because Qing Yufeng was always at the bottom in sect competitions, he wanted to improve his score for the machine flash line order. So during this period, he would go to the line order when he had time. Now that the world is in trouble, we can only come up with emergency measures in advance. Luo Lin happily accepted the pre-healing order. These orders should be enough to keep the Chamber of Commerce running for a while. He made a gesture to the poor people in the yard, and everyone's minds were connected, and they all walked out together. At this time, Mu-Yun took out a key to the rescue from the kitchen world. Yun Qingqiu's eyes are like shields and stones, curiously surrounding her and wanting to highlight them carefully. Mu-Yun put on a robe that looked like Wei Kun's and saw a layer of air conditioning quickly surrounding him. Each other took their time and put various medicinal materials into the medicine. Even when I was in the courtyard, I couldn't help but hold on. Mu-Yun Lian was as if he had painted a person. The one in front of me can't hold up for 5 years. If you use this kind of talent and affection to such an extent, there is no one in the alliance that can hold up the same level of enthusiasm. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of wind rang in everyone's ears. The smoke dispersed and the horse actually drove. Mu-Yun closed his eyes and walked out in a flash, with a little black eyes. Lu Yuan only came forward to express concern. He had just boasted so much to Shadi. Why did it explode? Mu-Yun smiled and pointed at the waistband on his body. This was bought for him by his master. It has the effect of fire prevention and heat insulation. Please then quickly go to the top of the medicine and wait until you feel better. Mu-Yun continued practicing very seriously before. After several more baptisms in the furnace of war, comment after comment under the guidance of Luo Yuan. How come this is becoming more and more flat? If I continue to stand, I am afraid the courtyard will be tired. Luo Yuan was only afraid of being bombed and went to deal with matters in the Chamber of Commerce, but Yun Qingqiu was not afraid of being bombed. His focus fell on the top of the medicine. It can be kept in the hands of the small world for so long. This transparency is definitely not antibody. After half an hour of paving the way, Mu-Yun finally entered the state. Those refined medicinal materials gradually turned into the form of single medicines. After taking one, a strong single fragrance comes out. The slightly sweet order fell into Mu-Yun's hands. Yan Kinki results single medicine, bright color, and substantial texture. At his age, he can practice pointing out what Shongcheng is like. If Mu Zhoufu finds out, he will definitely try his best to make trouble. Soon Mu Yunbian put away the singlet and saw that Yun Qingqiu was also a little interested in practicing silk fabrics. So we formed an alliance to search in the kitchen world. After a while, the silk tiles on his belly were changed by him. Qianlengzi. Only then did he finally find the respect of a disaster protector. Here are all the chains given to him by the 4 elders. Yun Qingqiu was even holding the coupon claw in her hand, but her eyes were staring at the ground uncontrollably. It's you who isn't pretending, and it's you who is pretending to be a nun. It's incredible. Little world is really arrogant in her heart. Or courtyard of, if you don't want to pile up a lot of clothes. I shyly warned him that if he looked at it again, he would complain to Xiaoya. Yun Qingqiu felt embarrassed and immediately turned his attention to the scroll. But you have to still be practicing in Bu Lin. Before he knew it, he had been watching it for 4 or 5 hours straight. He stood up and felt sluggish. Although the content of the chain was not complicated, for him, it was already deeply remembered in his mind. At this time, Mu Yun was still practicing medicine seriously, and Da Shijie was busy. Yun Qingqiu had just walked out of the backyard when he smelled the scent of a single medicine refined by Ichie. Shu Deki passed through the left building and came to a building. There were 3 large pieces of paper hanging on the door saying, Chai Yao stop. There are more than 10 requirements in it. Many pharmacists are manipulating the flame meridian to practice medicinal materials. Yun Qingqiu Dongzang hoped to finally see an uninhabited medicinal field, and then he walked over. A middle-aged waist trainer next to me wrote about the past. Instead of being very arrogant, you are a new waist trainer. You look a bit wild. Yun Qingqiu glanced at him, but what if I said, that middle-aged medicine practitioner is the co-director of Da Sheng? What are you doing here? I'm going out. Ruo Lin heard the noise and ran over with a cold. He immediately stepped forward and asked Master Zhongming what was going on, and the one with the famous account is now the most powerful bite master here. If he is a bit arrogant, he will be kicked out. Luo Lin Ganbang mediates this. This young man is the young lady's younger brother and a distinguished guest of the Chamber of Commerce. The identities of Zhong Ming'ai and the young lady were not affected by Ji Shu Yuan. It's just that Yun Qingqiu felt angry. If Luo Ling hadn't arrived earlier, he would have filled his stomach long ago, because after a while, he could only cover Yun Qingqiu in a corner. His hands are suitable and he asks Yun Qingqiu to have more hands with blood. And Yun Qingqiu didn't want to embarrass the little housekeeper, so she told him with a blank hand that he had no room, and it didn't matter where he practiced. Yun Qingqiu wiped it clean very carefully. Who do you really want when Zhongming is acting like a dog? You can't even hear the slightest sound of Qinwei. Yun Qingqiu moved her eyes when writing, and a command was running in her hands. If she hadn't been afraid of causing trouble to senior sister, she would have thrown her into the furnace long ago. At this time, the few people who were slightly away from each other were not only a little surprised, but also saw that the young man in front of them was so unfamiliar that he could directly give birth to Guanyan for the first time. As soon as this transformation came out, it immediately spread to Zhongming Dalu. He loudly drank the 2 of them and ate a portion. However, he still didn't take Yun Qingqiu into consideration in his heart, and Ruolin was afraid that Zhongming would continue to cause trouble, so he stayed in the whole place for the time being. What's more, he knows that not everyone can be in the medicine training room. He can just wait until Yun Qingqiu's fresh experience is over, then comfort him and leave. It feels like the temperature of the flame is about the same. Yun Qingqiu recalled the steps of practicing medicine with her eyes on the wall. Her mind moved slightly, and she was so stupid that she suspended a few medicinal plants into the medicine, then smashed them into pieces and throw them all into Lu Zi. Ruolin just wanted to remind him, but he thought it was only one night. He is not a Yao practitioner, but he still knows some basic knowledge about Yao training. It is best to refine the medicinal materials one plant at a time. Concentrating on the body chain is the guide to death. It seems that this junior brother is not only a layman, but also does not even know the most basic steps of refining medicine. Under the heat of the flames, several medicinal materials gradually began to fuse together. Soon the shape of a single medicine gradually emerged. Ruoling looked at the whole person and practiced so many medicinal materials at one time, but he was still successful. Those flames were very obedient under Yun Qingqiu's control. Even his techniques are elegant. On the other hand, Zhongming didn't know about it. According to his calculation, the young man either turned the medicine into ashes or not at all. There may even be low-level operations like exploding crossbows. He said that just when his party ignored him, Zhongming made up his mind to tell him with actions. If only there wasn't someone blocking this point. Relying on its decades of experience in high school students, a single medicine drug with a full fragrance is used to prevent and relieve symptoms. The chain keys around are all looked at in such a strange way. Recently, a bottle of upper-level keys cannot be Master Zhong. It is really amazing. Zhongming was so refreshed by this flattery that he felt that his life had reached its peak. Realize your will. But suddenly he found that Luo Lin was not looking at it. Ding Di and Qingqiu, who Fa has been supporting wholeheartedly. Zhongming reported to his brother with both hands and recorded a very sarcastic smile. Let's see how long you can last. After a while, a group of alchemists also focused their attention on Yun Qingqiu. Even Zhongming Lin's smile gradually disappeared. He felt that this kid was a little too smooth. A few minutes later, a fresh stream of medicine came from the main base along with the clear smoke. Yun Qingqiu moved his fingers slightly, and Dan Yaobian, which exuded a faint mist, fell into his hand. The world of training samples present is a great loss. I actually practiced it. You are a horse. Start joking. And the first time I practiced medicine, it was of upper-level quality. This is simply unbelievable. Only Yun Qingqiu glanced at the light medicine with low hammer, sharp eyes, and it was only of upper quality. Then he caught him and threw him out in front of everyone. He was not of top quality. He spent all his training time Try it again. Luo Lin hurriedly picked him up. It feels distressed when it is eaten in the palm of its hand. If one of them is turned into a first-class product, it can be worth half a month's salary. How can you just throw it away? Yin Qingqiu turned around and took out some medicinal materials from the medicine cabinet and said nonchalantly, I'm done with training. What should I do with a bill? Try the medicine training around you and divide it into points. You told me that the single medicine of high quality is a waste bomb. Zhongming was even more angry. To him, this is a bare-winged repair. A few minutes later, in everyone's room, a single medicine with perfect luster and smell was brought to life. At first glance, you can tell that this is a low-end foam quality single contract. It turned to look at Luo Lin. Do you want the injury? If you don't mind, take it away. Luo Lin immediately stretched out his hands in excitement. He wants it, we want it. Yuan Qingqiu casually threw the bill to him. Luo Lin even carefully put it away. He was not even familiar with it and showed it to everyone. He didn't say anything to the party official and ran to find the eldest lady. At the same time, the ruler of the fallen court stayed in the backyard and watched quietly as Mu Yun Chain pointed at Shan Shan. Mu Yun is also very serious. He knows that this medicine training conference is related to the condition of Grandpa World, and he must not give it up. And as long as you can practice one more upper-level biomedicine, the operation of the injury club will be easier. It is very nervously looking forward to developing an upper-level system. I didn't expect it was just a very ordinary courage. He is very afraid that if he plays the market, he will delay the event. It is Ti who allows the world to bring back the person who used to practice meticulously. Everyone is willing to point to Qingwei and bite his head. The face of the yin layer tells him that the alchemist changed his temper after learning that his grandfather was ill and wanted to undermarry him. He even took it as a risk. If he didn't marry him, he would regret leaving, and Mu Yun is the best practice he can find currently. But judging from Mu Qian's situation, it is almost difficult to get that kind of medicinal materials, afraid of having no choice but to hammer the table. Are we really going to lose someone important? He couldn't help but recall some of his past events in his mind. The big lei beads fell from his eyes. Do he really want to submit to that guy? At this moment Luo Lin ran over very excitedly. He was so tired that he kept taking pictures of the couple. This made Luo Yuan jump. He thought there was something wrong with the Chamber of Commerce. Luo Lin Ganman adjusted his breathing and told him that the Chamber of Commerce was stable. Saying this, he took out a premix from his arms. If you only want to open shogi with some curiosity. A strong scent of elixir came to the store, and the two of them were immediately excited. This was a top-notch elixir. When he came to the hospital, he only asked him where he got it from. He was thinking silently in his mind, but he couldn't do it with the power of lighting. Could it be that the flow mask that once threatened him is back? And as soon as Ruolin mentioned him, he immediately said, it's not that house. Then I couldn't help but tell people in some serious words. I realized that people who worry like this are because their relatives are poor. As soon as these words came out, both of them were dumbfounded. After all, they had never heard of actually practicing shaking before. Besides, he was just asking Mu Yun for advice. How could it be him? Seeing that neither of them believed it, Wakabayashi decided to take them there to see. But I haven't gone in yet. I saw a group of groomsmen going crazy at the door. None of them wanted to believe that it took them 20 years to practice hard. Offshore could not compete with a little cat head who didn't even understand basic common sense. Even Zhongming, who is in a shed, is so angry that he is strong. Luo Lin looked around at Zhou but did not find the voice of Ming and Qingqiu. So he pulled a few chain medicines and came over to let them describe the tension. After listening to everyone's narration, both of them went to Shigan to express their anger. It's really unthinkable to use ground blocking. At this time, Yin Qingqiu was strolling on the street. He came to a street stall selling novels. After listening to the boss's introduction, but without saying anything, he picked up a yellow book set. I was planning to spend money for a group of 16 people, but I didn't seem to have a single picture on my body. Guaranteed that his security guard sister would hit him in time. I helped him fill it up without saying anything. By the way, I dragged him back home. But as soon as I got home, the door was closed. Without saying a word, the three women gathered around her and looked at her with icy smiles. This shows that Yun Qingqiu is only looking at the acceleration of the jump. Isn't he going to have a real battle so soon? The lights haven't faded yet. Luo Yuan only became stronger and came to him first, and asked him very seriously if he was a practicing pharmacist. Yun Qingqiu just smiled and quickly gave him a negative answer. However, Lorraine, who was standing next to him, interrupted him. If anyone in Lorraine can master a bottle of top single medicine, then he will leave. Besides, even Miss Lianmu can't do it. How could he not be the one? Yun Qingqiu suddenly felt different. He forgot that he didn't expect that even Jingyan's small world could do it. I originally just wanted to do some dishes casually. Could it be that I was doomed again? At this moment, Luo Yuan suddenly asked him to perform in the movie in front of important people. Mu Yun on the side was also very curious. He followed Chiu Yun Qingqiu next to him to show off his medicine training skills. Yun Qingqiu changed her sword disguise and agreed. He is running smoothly without any hesitation. Wait for a strong flame to appear in the top of the head to start electrons. In everyone's surprised eyes, a top-quality single drug will soon become the most popular one. Yu Qingqiu picked it up casually and threw it towards Luo Yuanji. Luo Yuanji moved and the contact was hurried. After seeing how good he was, he immediately decided to leave the matter of participating in the competition to him. He saw it holding Yun Qingqiu's hand with both hands, with a look of excitement and expectation on his face, and even a little disdainful of the agreement. How could Yuan Qingqiu withstand such an attack? I agreed immediately. Beloved Liu Renji's dream is quiet and bloody, so I want to play quickly and want to wipe and call Xiaoyu free. A Xiongdao who was cleaning embraced Yun Qingqiu into his arms. Yun Qingqiu's mind also began to keep hearing the loud noise. But suddenly he laughed and started crying. The wooden clouds and Lorraine shield stones below are also the first pair. Yun Qingqiu's gesture in response to the two of them was that they should leave. Then I gently put my hand on his shoulder and listened carefully to what he said. After leaving the courtyard, I only waited to complain to Yun Qingqiu at night. Those chambers of commerce are all looking at his results. I think she is a girl who will definitely not be able to do it. The drug practice test at home was also handled publicly, and the original handcrafted drug test was even more adult-oriented and forced him to take it down. Yun Qingqiu and Mu Guang were so surprised that he even forced her into marriage. He silently remembered the name Liu Jiao in his heart, then helped the world wipe away the tears. Don't worry. I will definitely hold the conference. I will definitely deal with all those who bully you and hurt you. I straightened my face in the courtyard and rolled quickly. An unprecedented feeling came over my heart, and Li Hahu, who has seen him, if you wish to indicate that you will decide to hand over the task of participating in the competition to him. Since that day, Yun Qingqiu has been assigned to go to a separate chain. You can practice your courage freely by yourself. Don't do anything for me. Moreover, Luo Lin comes to rely on his boss every day with a dotted line made by the implementer. This made him feel that this kind of behavior was like a middle-aged girl's initiative to please a wolf. But it's impossible to conquer yourself quickly. The whole family is just the world and the world, so they shouldn't be so messy, right? Just as he was about to leave, he seemed to suddenly remember something. Turn around and tell Yun Qingqiu that if you need anything, please be sure to tell me and the injury club will try to help solve it. Yun Qingqiu's mouth twitched and he almost shot himself. He did encounter a problem, and it was not just an ordinary fight. According to his understanding, in previous chain medicine conferences, as long as a second-grade high-quality single medicine can be produced, the first one is that the Holy Circle is in my. But now it is of top quality no matter how it is done. Suddenly I find that it is somewhat uncontrollable. Yun Qingqiu is bored. Nowadays, people with no boundaries are looking everywhere. The top quality of the 16-year-old store will definitely attract their attention. He doesn't want to go back with them. He still wants to stay here with the young lady. I really didn't expect that not knowing how to become weak has become his biggest problem now. Ruo Lin was a little confused by what he said. Yun Qingqiu didn't expect him to be of any help, so she beat him away. Then I held it several times in various styles. The results are all the same as before, and they are all top-notch singles. In a fit of anger, he decided not to do it. Instead of worrying about this, it's better to go out for a walk and relax. Maybe you can get something out of it. By the way, you can also collect materials needed by the requesting party. It soon came to the Black Stone in Luolin City. Although this place is dark, it is much more efficient than the Chamber of Commerce next year. Her crooked ways soon attracted the attention of a proud man. That Guanbanzi man was forbidden to walk over and block Yun Qingqiu before he could speak. Yun Qing suddenly appeared in his life. For the last meal in North China, he came to draw stars from the double bottom. The man's colleague who landed was also stepped on by Yun Qingqiu. Yun Qingqiu looked very sincere and asked him where the largest Black Chamber of Commerce was. The man's fierce Gongdan's eyes are pure and clear, and he shouts loudly to let him go. Yun Qingqiu exerts more fierce pressure. As long as it exerts a little force, it will turn into a lung strip. The man cracked his mouth, gritted his teeth, and counted down the positions of his Chamber of Commerce. Let go of your feet with Renking Qidong. The man then groped for an opponent from behind. Unfortunately, before I could take it out, I turned violently and my body flew out uncontrollably. He didn't stop until he made a sound and wanted to hit the wall. Everyone in the micro-official position is eclipsed by the great scriptures. Return to the original sense honestly and continue to create words, waiting to find the next dance. Soon he found the biggest injury in the Black Stone. As soon as I came in, I saw a woman wearing a fox mask. The woman quickly swept her corpse away. Seeing that he was wearing ordinary clothes and was still very young, he immediately classified him as a dishonest person. The woman politely asked him whether he wanted to buy me or sell it. Yun Qingqiu told him that he wanted to buy or sell it. Without saying a word, the woman decided to take her to the fire-selling area first. Ning Qingqiu knew the routine here very well. This was just to see if he could take out the previous guarantee. If it was Xinjiao Gao, he would continue to consider follow-up services. Yun Qingqiu showed his hands blankly, even if he chose the cheapest trading area. The woman thought to herself that it was indeed a poor place. Only those who could talk to the lowest level would go to the lowest trading area. After realizing that there was nothing to be gained from this young man, the woman turned around and looked clean. Fortunately, the entrance to the lowest education area has the worst decoration, so it's easy to grow. After passing through the silver dark passage, enter the hall. There are window numbers inside. The black cat received the growing tired waste juice and was about to leave. However, after seeing Yun Qingqiu's immediate confirmation, Yun Qingqiu told him that he was going to deal with some items. The black trade receptionist was silent for a moment and he couldn't help but have doubts in his heart. There was a table of ordinary people with very young people. Could they be noble pharmacists? However, it still received it patiently and let it put the order on it for leave. Hei Mao asked Yun Qingqiu to wait, and he immediately took the pre-match. Xiao Sini opened it, and a slightly flickering light came out from the gap. The rich fragrance fills the nose and instantly clears up the dark and groggy mind. Oh my god, this is a top-quality sample. The Black Cat Federation stood up and opened the door of the window and tightened Yun Qingqiu until he was doing hygiene. He couldn't help but think about it in detail. This order was equivalent to the amount of transactions he had handled for decades. If the transaction was successful, how big a performance would it be? However, it has nothing to entertain here. In desperation, it shrank to the size of itself. I heard that those high-end customers are all a little smaller, but if you look at the young man's eyes, your hat will not be lost. He was placed next to Yun Qingqiu's legs. She blushed and said embarrassedly, "Guest, can you please give me a hand? I don't have any experience, but I will try my best." As soon as these words came out, Yun Qingqiu's face was full of dreams. The black cat key shape continues to approach. Then you may like other parts. It doesn't matter if you don't have a new mouth. Yun Qingqiu immediately clicked on the button. What on earth is this black cat reception doing? But Quick Change pushed the black cat reception aside. Tell him that he just needs to help him deal with things quickly. He really doesn't need it. Black Cat hesitated for a moment and immediately stood up. He tremblingly took a few sheets and signed them here. Yun Qingqiu number 4 did not hesitate, and the father-in-law signed his name neatly. Black Cat interrogated and looked at the words on the receipt. He was moved to tears. He couldn't believe it was so easy to become his customer. He asked Yun Qingqiu Zizi to wait for a moment to trick the customer while he fucked her and couldn't run out quickly. After waiting for about half an hour, my feet were numb when I was on the bed in the hall. A richly dressed middle-aged man came to the lobby, followed by a black cat and a kind of steward. He very politely handed Yun Qingqiu's luggage and told him that his mistake was called an explosion, but Yun Qingqiu continued to drink tea. Not even telling Jinming would be too nurturing. Bao Bao looked serious. In a place like the black market, everyone would try their best to hide their name, and his name was even more planned. No one talked about it during the stay, and the man in front of you first asked your name when you met him. Could it be that he wanted to take advantage of you? Based on his many years of experience, he could tell that this young man was definitely not simple. He hesitated for a moment and finally decided to speak out. The director is the president here. I don't know how Gexia succeeded. Huiyin Gang is weak, and the tea in Yun Qingqiu's mouth clings to it for protection. The cooperation lasted for a long time. You thought that the rough-looking man would not be taught by the bear-like golden man, Li Bao Bao. Everyone behind them obviously thought they had heard the president's name, and they couldn't help but laugh. Li Bao Bao turned around and shouted angrily, "A puff of sand 143. The people below immediately knelt on the ground, and Yun Qingqiu also immediately intervened. But I still can't help laughing. You baby, I can see that your parents love you very much. Ha 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 ha." After a long time, Yun Qingqiu finally pointed out the joke. This time he came to handle the goods and waited until he stopped talking. Li Bao Bao immediately moved his expression and invited him to change places to discuss with him. Li Bao Bao leads Yun Qingqiu through the defective broken stalls. Soon we came to a beautifully decorated hall. As soon as I came in, I was greeted by Jiang Huangmen. There are trees in the house, so the black cat is busy before and after the reception, or when the drinks are over, and each one's face grows busier and busier, making the world lively. After doing it, Li Bao Bao asked Yun Qingqiu where this single medicine came from. Yun Qingqiu's big hand turned to dust and reassured him that his origins were clean. He just needed a sum of money to buy it, but Li Bao Bao is not at ease about this. After all, it is difficult to understand this kind of order. He guessed that it must come from the door sign. He has to deal with it alone. Yun Qingqiu Duan was a little speechless. What? I don't feel confident even if I practice it myself. If you don't believe me, can you give me a live demonstration? Li Bao Bao made a mistake first. Then he ordered his subordinates to investigate the case. After a while, the two big men will show off a new leader, and as long as there is a chance to increase the chain structure and enhance the control of fire and spiritual power. After hearing what he said, Yun Qingqiu suddenly started talking, and then she understood what was going on. The previous tattered Yao Di placed in the corner was equivalent to a broken piece of zero energy. Not only did it not have the amplification method to increase the difficulty of refining medicine, it also virtually honed Yun Qingqiu's medicine refining skills. After that, I switched to the advanced Yoding method provided by Luolin and couldn't adapt to it. This made it difficult to reduce the quality of Dan Yao. Bai's father was suspicious and asked him what was different. Ling Qingqiu returned with nothing. It's nothing. It's too good to be top. Are you used to it? Then it ran and flew, and a stream of air spread outward from the whole body. Breathe for a while and listen to the sweat-filled Lingya activities over there. Li Baobao, this young man is really not 100. Immediately afterwards, a bunch of Zhu medicine was fluttering in order to be used as the base of the medicine. After a while, it took the shape of a single medicine. Yun Qingqiu made a clear stroke with her first finger, and the slip that she had finished practicing came into the palm of her hand. Li Baobao looked at this single drug with great interest. It turned out to be Erping Ding Ding Ding's single drug. This means that it proves that the boy is at least a 4th level chain drug test. After seeing clearly the origin of the elixir, it made an offer to Yun Qingqiu to acquire it. Yun Qingqiu bargained with him lazily, despite his calm appearance. In fact, I am secretly taking a breath away. Conservatively speaking, this time I can hit 20,000 hours. I won't have to look at it for a while. Taking this opportunity, it will come up with a list of materials it needs. Yi Baobao picked it up and looked at it, and immediately assigned his assistant to go. Black's efficiency was extremely fast. It only took half an hour to prepare the materials Yun Qingqiu needed. Li Baobao took out an exquisite kitchen world. All the ingredients he wanted were in it. Unfortunately, Nizhu Qianyin Saoku never had it. However, a few days later, he was one of the top speakers at the medicine training conference. With his reputation and strength, I wanted to get him as a close relative. He also gave me this storage detoxification medicine by the way. Yun Qingqiu looked at this object and felt like a mirror. This old man had already begun to think of ways to defeat himself. But I really have some small things that I need him to organize. Yi Baobao listened with great respect. His heart was filled with joy and resentment. The favor of a 4-linked master is much more valuable than snacks. So Yun Qingqiu mentioned to him the implementation of the Chamber of Commerce. Several ignorant villagers were doing small tricks in Andy, which made him feel a lot. He ordered Li Baobao to check those products and deal with them all. Make as many models as you can, and we must let them live to taste the taste of bankruptcy. As soon as these words came out, Li Baobao was a little nervous. He knew clearly in his heart that Wei Gonglua was a force of the Chamber of Commerce and was definitely not the defeat of waiting. For the immortal, there are many chambers of commerce in Luolin City that have colluded with the city lord. If Blackstone suddenly takes action, he will definitely be suppressed everywhere. Yun Qingqiu is disappointed. He doesn't want to listen to this nonsense. Tell him very plainly that there is nothing that can't be done. It can only be done or not done. Please. Then he patted Li Baobao on the shoulder again. He knew that Jinping's single drug deals made him do these things. He was indeed a little tea drinking, so he took out a jade bottle from his arms as a reward and asked him to do it beautifully. Li Baobao hesitated and refused, but he could tell that this was not hurt, but an unquestionable order to make you angry. It opened the trailer very curiously. The next second, he suddenly lost his temper. There were 2 3-screen top-notch singles inside. The man in front of him had a metal connection to his waist. You cover the whole person. He was laid down directly on the ground. He forgot that he didn't expect that he would meet Chao Tiansai in this small Luolin city, not to mention Lorraine City. Looking at the entire Kanglan territory, no one could do anything to him. He judged by his own stupidity that this man was not a young man at all. He must have practiced some profound art of raising words to be like this. The stewards around him looked at each other. They didn't understand why the president of Maito Tokiho would be frightened like this. They couldn't help but start shouting about what was in the pre-level, but the change in Li Baobao's eyes scared them so much that they shrank. Bai Baobao is very aware of his psychology. A weak person with black belly fat can have such a roasted mountain and a stupid finger grip in a small Luolin city. If he declares power at the next level, Mr. Baggage, the branch office will surely be close to power. If adults are willing, he is even willing to trap himself. Yun Qingqiu was slightly shocked. He didn't have such a ticket yet. Just when he was about to leave and tell him his identity, Li Baobao immediately lowered his body and told him that it was not necessary. A small injury on him would not tell his life. In the image, he would definitely save his life. Yun Qingqiu waved his hands and walked out. Looking at his back, Li Baobao broke into a cold sweat in his heart. This kind of old man came to hack 100 names and just let the egg hide the fire. Asking for his name, would you like to die? Until Mu Songtao left, Di Bao calmed down his rapidly beating heart slightly. In the end, as expected, Zhu Hui turned around and was uninterested. Such an adult asked how you were received. Don't you have eyes? His face was sweating under the fox's reception. He was going crazy. Who could have guessed that this person was a big shot? Li Baobao immediately transformed him into the most junior receptionist. Then he turned to look at Black Cat and handed him the position of director of the Chamber of Commerce. The Black Cat wanders in place foolishly, and the happiness is almost gone. Now there is only the last day left for Li Luolin's Cheng Lian assembly. Luo Yuan only came to the gate of the courtyard very calmly. I was too ghostly to suppress my shadow that day, and I was actually treated as if I was a child. He briefly adjusted his breathing. Then Yunqing revised the anti-slow door to be tested next to Yao Ding. As soon as I saw the two of them coming in, I was blindly greeted. Maybe it's because he's watched too much of Emperor's Secretary recently and has unknowingly picked up some of the male protagonist's tricks. 3 pages and 2 sentences turn into 2 heartfelt letters that express resentment and oppression. And he came here this time to take the 2 of them out to relax. Yin Qingqiu ran out without even thinking, with the remaining 3 women following behind. After a while Mu Yun became tired and wanted to find a place to thank him first. So Lu Yuanji left Luo Lin behind. I continued to think about it alone with Yun Qingqiu. Yunqing has traveled and been in seclusion for too long, and is full of curiosity about everything here. What kind of girl's heart is made of floral cloth? A fen oil sold at roadside stalls. There are also cucumbers sold by soup bandits. The 2 of them walked around for a while, and Ruo Yuan's red hair was filled with tears and she vomited, and all the clothes on her sole body were soaked through. Yin Qingqiu became busy when she hit the sword, so she took it down to rest. Then immediately cast please. A refreshing wind blows the snow, and if you wish to point out the beautiful robes, the mountain will be blown into the air. It's a great feeling. Yun Qingqiu laughed and used Yu Fengju to help delete the ban. Isn't this a trap? Soon his hand came into contact with a rose-shaped popsicle. If you wish to point out the result, the soldiers will dodge against Zigzigwen. He has never seen 09 used in this way. Yun Qingqiu said that it was the first time for him to use Minghuan for others like this. Speaking of which, Yuan Qingqiu came into contact with a stupid soldier, Zhao Zhao, who was blocked by him. Luo Yuanji blushed and lowered his head, using it for someone else for the first time. Just then a businessman walked up to the 2 of them. The 2 of them each thought deeply about each other. When I hit it, I was addicted to the smell of some small cleaning. Until 10 o'clock at night, since we met at the intersection of North Street as agreed. Mu Yun waved his arms towards the 2 of them. After seeing Yun Qingqiu's change of appearance, Mu Yun ignored it. Yun Qingqiu laughed and told him that Dajiji helped organize it. But when Ruo Lin heard this, it turned out to be a master's idea. The young lady actually helps others clear their tubes. The woman's face was filled with expressions of concern for her. The young lady usually tried her best to avoid contact with the opposite sex. Now he even cooks and makes snacks himself. This is something that even the old man didn't have before he got sick. Could it be that the eldest lady is in love and a man who can control her appears? This is huge news. The soul of the 8 diagrams burned instantly at this moment. Luo Lin just wanted to ask something, but unfortunately Luo Yuan pointed out that the helpless group could be calmed down afterwards. Luo Lin City is one of the richest cities in Muzhou Prefecture. It is also a famous East Fire Street. They soon came to a restaurant where the Chamber of Commerce was established. Luo Yuan was busy introducing him to the food. It was quite unique. Unfortunately, he didn't bring his junior brother to try it, so she wanted to let Yun Qingqiu choose which one to go to. Xiao Qiu obviously wanted to go to that house. He kept looking inside. Mu Yun looked towards a house not far away across the building. Directly there is a slightly exposed and cute woman in cute clothes, who is flirting with Lan Karen. So I kept shouting, come in objectively. Yun Qingqiu Stewed Stone is worried. I'm sorry. It's a little disrespectful. You can't talk nonsense. Where can I see where it's coming from? At this time, the woman in peasant clothes on the side waved to Yun Qingqiu, little thief, Qiu must have a thief heart but not a thief. After watching for long enough, come in and play. Luo Yuanji and Luo Lin quietly stayed aside to see what he was going to do. But Yun Qingqiu stopped her with her hands and firmly told him that she would never go in. Only Mu Yun was still looking inside, wondering what the quick fight they were talking about was. At this moment, Lu Yuanji's eyes were attracted by the deep shadow, and Yun Qingqiu followed his eyes. I saw a commotion at the door of the 9th floor, and then 2 young men walking out with Jiuji in their arms walked out, and their children made way for them one after another. Laughing and saying, walk slowly, continue to play, and other polite words. If you wish to guide me, Bian Ren has become such a bastard. He said it with a straight face and gritted his teeth. The chain of rumors betraying the Chamber of Commerce can be directed against the president of our Manufacturers Association. These 2 hateful guys actually colluded together, and the 2 people suddenly stopped and walked towards this side with the most similar faces. They heard him approaching Barbara and saying, Miss Ruoruo, long time no see. The old man's health is not bad. The Lorraine party couldn't help scolding the eldest lady in front of her. Oil mask, you bastard. Your injuries will train you for 10 years. You turned to her. It's shameless. The former Yong server on the side went to say, oh, you can't say that to the housekeeper. Good feelings are silent and the wife is silent. If the Chamber of Commerce has already silently worked hard, won't others be allowed to leave? Leave as soon as you leave Nanjing Guochahong. Lorraine pointed at the two of them angrily. Don't be complacent. We have found a more powerful chain key and are waiting to be beaten at the chain key conference. Leave it to sweep the roads, courtyards, etc. Finally, Jiang Muguang stopped at the only male spirit Qingqiu. Is he that boy? Ruolin told him sternly that he is no longer like you. Liu Jiao looked at Yun Qingqiu carefully. She was young and had no noble temperament like refining medicine. The skin of her hands was fine and white, and there were no traces of long-term medicine. Refining, even this fire can replace me. Liu Jiao Yangqiu laughed. It's interesting. Just find someone else to participate. Luo Yang said that you are self-deceiving. Luo Yuan just didn't want to pay attention, turned around and wanted to leave with his companions. Paycheck. With the useless hands of service, the guards behind them dispersed and gathered in their group. Miss Ruo, don't be anxious. We finally meet and have a good chat. Why are you leaving in such a hurry? The previous one, I made a drink check. The information sucked me. Come and see. This is the pharmacist hired by Miss Luo. She wants to level up this bad thing and compete. Do you think it's funny or not? All the people who violated the official position were also in small business. They had never seen Yi Qingqiu, and he didn't even have the clothes or articles of an important teacher. And they couldn't feel the arousal of being strong. It seems that it is true that it was said before that Liu Jiao was married and forced her to have sex, and if she failed, she would retaliate and become disabled. Liu Jiao sneered and said, Miss Luo, even if you have that kind of handsome face, you wouldn't dare to marry her. It's okay, then you'll be punished by Master Luo. Qian Yongfu Yin Yang added strangely. Now that there is still a chance, Miss Luo can just marry Master Yu directly, and by the way, let me help take care of the business. It's not better than just saying it. Speaking of a show in the depths, you can tell it, right? A large number of people around him followed the fire, and the bottom was all unloading cloth to watch. Or the Chamber of Commerce, saying that he is a daughter and he comes to run the Chamber of Commerce. If he has such time, he might as well accompany his wife. Ruo Yuan looked at the chaotic pigs coldly. If it was the Chamber of Commerce's crystal meeting, anyone could take the reward and be bullied like this. At the unexpected moment, there was a sense of warmth coming from the leader. The young man was in contact with his illness. I simply held his hand. I am in the world. A simple sentence made Luo Yuanji count every word. It's great to have someone to accompany you after this. Yun Qingqiu cleaned up the rocks. These guys are going to be finished and they still come out to discuss them. The black market should be operating secretly at this time. Yun Qingqiu, please come in and hold the hand of Luo Yuanji. And all this was seen by Liu Jiao. Luo Yuanji usually would not let anyone of the opposite sex speak out, but now that his hand was held, but there was no reaction at all. A wave of extreme excitement arose in his heart. Yin Qingqiu said loudly at this time, if you want to see the excitement of the Chamber of Commerce, I think you should leave. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to cry in prison. As he said this, he terminated all human resources. The first place in the medicine training conference will definitely implement the Chamber of Commerce. Starting from tomorrow, the Chamber of Commerce will implement the Yang Mingwu Week. In the end, I recorded a core-friendly effect, but I'm really looking forward to your crying mother-in-law kneeling down for me. The surroundings suddenly became gorgeous, and these little devils were waiting to show off. The postal photo is also very angry. He said with a barber, no nameless contradiction, disgusting coinage. Seeing him like this, Yun Qingqiu imitated Liu Jiao's tone. Zhao, what's wrong with Zhao Ci? Wu Liu Jiao, the photo has lasted my whole life, and my name was also taught by a little match like you. Yun Qingqiu smiled faintly and didn't even call the little one's name. Do you want to leave a trail for manipulation? Even the kid has to be careful. Young King Qiubai is full of gestures, and you can't even speak. No matter how you say it, I am too lazy to p. The companion who graduated from Liu Jiao. After all, he was in the second level training, but was he treated like this? After graduating for a long time, he couldn't help but be outsourced. Then you, an 80-year-old man, can't help but do it. Yun Qingqiu was happy when she heard that she was squatting, so I had no intention of coming to this son. The latent suit was afraid that the flow mask would be pissed off, so I hurriedly held it back. Luo was the training medicine that the Chamber of Commerce was looking for. It would just be brushed away. Miss Luo, you have no vision. And Luo Yuan pointed out that Qiu Sai Hao didn't take her flowers to heart. He couldn't help but show the bleeding effect on his eyes. This guy is really bad, and Liu Jiao was also completely stunned by his smile. Immediately, very hands-on. The little one in front of us, the parts are waiting in place, and there are helpless forces in front of them, and he was so angry that he was trying to find out what I was doing. Nowadays, it would be a pity for everyone to be a businessman. One person can do it with his own strength. If you want to stop it once, come up with a zero-phase preparation method to deal with it. Minching ball shield blocked in front of him. I saw people scattered around him. Senior sister, I told you to leave everything to you today. He punched out, and the guards couldn't even reach his clothes and feet, and were instantly knocked away. The hood and the front uniform moved their legs backwards. This guy is so sweaty. There will also be a birth warning. Yun Qingqiu suddenly appeared in front of the two of them and knocked Chen Yongfu over with one punch. Then he pinched his bleeding neck with one hand to lift his breath. Boy, what do you want to do? Let go quickly. Yun Qingqiu's mighty power, my master Jie is also worthy of your kind of achievement. Lian hurriedly went over to criticize Luo Yuan. Shadii Luolin is not a city that can come here. You must not be impulsive. Yun Qingqiu Dingqiu Liu Jiao, it's meaningless if I don't personally let you know what a disabled person is. Tell me, throw it to the ground. Yun Qingqiu, who was lying on the ground without stopping, also turned around. Wait for me tomorrow. Then he turned around and took Liu Yuanji and others away from this place. The main conference was one of the holy places in Luolin City. One morning, a large number of onlookers had gathered in the central square, and Yun Qingqiu encountered some difficulties as soon as he entered the venue. If there is no one, just let Huang Baoboy take charge. Yun Qingqiu felt unhappy for a while. Li Ti threw the soldiers into the water vapor. Everyone around him opened their mouths at his move. Immediately, it automatically lined up in 2 rows and gave up its position at the bottom. Soon he arrived at the location where the Chamber of Commerce was being implemented. He seemed to be looking around but did not find the voices of the 2 worlds. Luolin told him embarrassedly, you want to practice jumping all by yourself right now. You went to the wrong place with a bunch of real threads. My lady knows that you like desserts. In order to keep you in good condition, she stayed up late yesterday and made a lot of them together. I rested late last night, so I might have come a little later. Luolin said at the expense of Qingqiu, Miss has never been so easy on boys. Master, do you want to think about it? Yun Qingqiu nodded while eating snacks. Thinking about it, I have already thought about it. If Lin is a Bagua star, then what is the result of the consideration? Is it possible that the 2 of them are going to have a relationship? Can they eat sugar-washed food? Yun Qingqiu clenched his fists and stared blankly. He must win. Lorraine was also very excited and clapped his hands to teach him. Before he was happy to play, Yun Qingqiu continued, such a good high point must be private. It would be uncomfortable if others get it. Luolin was speechless for a while without fasting. What? At this moment, Shinying caught his eye. In front of me, this woman had a long career in red, and her figure was so beautiful that it was hard to take away her eyes. Mariko also had a red flower on her head. It was the day they went shopping together to see Yun Qingqiu. Wei Qi selected. His appearance immediately attracted Yun Qingqiu's attention, and when Wan Star turned into a star, not only does Luolin have some experience, but she also dresses well. Ms. Li is not like this on weekdays. Luo Yuan only came to sit next to Yun Qingqiu. Is it a good thing to laugh and drink the snacks? Yun Qingqiu's body straightened up, and his eyes occasionally traced the plump legs splayed out by the crowd. The legs were already in the world, and they were really terrifying as silk. Luo Yuanji is dressed up carefully just to match the big flower mori. It happens to be red and it looks auspicious. Yun Qingqiu patted her chest. I am in the circle. The world is waiting to find out. If you are willing to point to the shield stone and knock on the chain, it will turn red. He whispered as loud as he can to hear. Wei Jun's book cover returns with the sound. With the end of the opening performance of the chain conference, under the call of the conference organizer, the joint conference is about to begin. All the practitioners who practiced alchemy also came down from the attic where they were posted. Go up to the main stage where thousands of people are heading. There are also many spectators in the audience cheering for Shinichi's pharmacist. Come on, CAI. You are also very beautiful today. Please be sure to sing and dance after winning the title. Shut up. My brother Liu Zhuang is the handsome one. The appearance of Yun Qingqiu pattern. The eye shifted and the water scanned the video. It happened to be biased against the spread of the conflict in the left bowl. The flow mask is sticking tightly to this side, and his face is covered with powder. He plans to use it well at the medicine training meeting. The rest of the people were also unfriendly to Yun Qingqiu and felt that what he said last night was too popular. Of course, the most important point is that if you wish to refer to this flower of Lorraine, everyone wants to fight. Yun Qingqiu was really moved by these people. He turned around and gestured towards Bixing, who was commanding the road. He only had to do some repairs in the courtyard, and his mother responded to him in a heartfelt manner. I could see all the people on the stage scratching their heads. Yun Qingqiu felt comfortable in the group. He wanted to compare it to 5. He hated me and wanted to see who was better. But there was something that made him a little concerned. The facial expression hats in the big world are a bit unclear. What is the color correcting Fei Hong? But for a moment, he felt as if he had forgotten something important. On the buildings near the square, the big shots in Lorraine City were sitting in high-level offices watching the Lian Yao conference. Master Cheng was the first to ask Xu Weijue who was the most protective of the Lian Yao conference. This year, the flatterer on the side picked up the drink and drank 2 sips of it. From my observation, the most promising person this year is undoubtedly Ma Fei, the second-level electric waste of the 2-time CIO. This person is concentrating on professional training. Some time ago, he pointed out that he borrowed the second-level uptown to write orders. He must have less strength during this period. The adult immediately felt hungry after hearing this. After all, Ma Fei is her own medicine studio. But the people around him have other opinions. He thinks Ma Fei is weak, but this year he is not the same. I heard that a strong bike trainer came from the outer city. Because of the flow, this person is very good. Another Chamber of Commerce president continued to add that there is CAI. I heard that he was regarded as a serial pharmacist and became a second-chain pharmacist. He is very talented. As soon as these words came out, the smile on Master Cheng's face gradually disappeared. It's because of the intelligence coming from so many people. You must have collected a lot of intelligence. Do you think anyone has hope of seizing the can? When Li Baobao shielded his head, he couldn't help but think of the young super Lian Neosha. That gentleman secretly assumed that it was a business marriage, and he was so disrespectful to Luo Yuanqi, so he was undoubtedly angry. It's better to pay for a breath of alcohol than a baby. If it is smelled in the Chamber of Commerce, can everyone pay attention? I practiced a little in groups and thought about it for a while. The newspaper was talking about the person with the photo, but he was quickly refuted by the important person. After all, the news that the man was forced to get married and left the house had already created a new situation. Flo Maski also accompanied Li Baobao and smiled secretly in his heart. I'm afraid that guy won't even know about it later. He was destroyed and disappeared like a river lantern. His self-confidence suddenly swelled. Yang Yang told him that he was talking about the young pharmacist Lin Qingqiu. Dear Chamber of Commerce presidents, I suddenly feel cold in advance. Then they all laughed together. They all thought that Li Baobao was completely joking. The former brave man also laughed at the fight. As for the fight, the boy was still smelly. But when it came to practicing medicine, he gave Liu Jiao and Tixi all the cards. Then he looked at Master Cheng and asked him to handle it personally after the Lian Yao conference was over. Cheng Zhu thought it didn't matter, so he naturally agreed. The pigtails present were all waiting to get rid of the property that had been lost. Only Li Baobao knows in his heart that the matters ordered by Yun Qingqiu have begun to be scandalized secretly. Find an opportunity to give Master Cheng another favor. These ugly people will all be gone in a short time. They will starve to death here. Let's see how long you can still laugh. I think the young men of the Ice Tears group will probably be hit by their doubtful lives later. I just don't know if that adult will be willing to leave a contact with me after the matter is completed. If it can really be reported to the big picture, I can just be a dog for the rest of my life. After a period of martial arts and 7 years of running, the training meeting officially begins. Then, the staff started to introduce the medicine practice poems through Eiger. Every chain member raised his voice and had a large number of fans or added fans to cheer and applaud to build momentum. The slogan was also an opportunity to imagine. CAI, all of them are bad except you. You can sing, you can make medicine, and you look pretty good. When the official announcement came, Yun Qingqiu was ranked last, intentionally or not. Yun Qingqiu waited for him to finish the introduction and drank some water, yawning and shaking. But everyone in the microcosm seems not to think highly of him and thinks he is too grand. In this chaotic atmosphere, Luo Yuan just stood up suddenly. She didn't patronize Ji Yu Changhan's slogans like those female fans. She just put her hands on her chest, predicting that it would be the status in her heart. Yun Qingqiu painted a heart with both hands to express receipt. The chain key that originally got one was critically hit when it was drilled, and its good self was only temporarily obscured. Ming Qingqiu shook his head helplessly. Why bother? He had already been tortured in Hai City just now and had not eaten enough dog food. Even the host had to pause for a long time before starting the next project, the lottery. According to the rules, the player who draws the number 1 is the first player to receive subsequent numbers at once. The shadower immediately takes the lead in his heart. But what Yun Qingqiu didn't know was that the staff had already been bribed and manipulated. The one Yun Qingqiu draws will definitely be used for good, and he will be diverted to Zhao Zi number 12. Yun Qingqiu looked at the number in his hand and already understood what was going on, but there was a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Even if others didn't do anything, he still wanted to give him a slap. This time is better. You all should stop playing. After drawing the 1,000, the serial numbers began to be announced. Lin Qingqiu's name was the first to be written on it. All the practitioners must collectively turn their attention to business. This boy is actually the first. They all know in their hearts that the further forward they are, the more they will lose. This boy must be being counted against. If you only want to hold on to both powers angrily, it would be better if the Qingqiu Qiuzhong were chosen to practice clearly. How could there be such a coincidence? Luo Lin was also angry and fell down. Sanlan's hands must have made her skirt so hot. Even Mu Yun is very confused. He understands that there is a lot of pressure to be the first one to play. The medicinal protection refined by Yun Qingqiu is known to the medicinal refining stone at the back, so that they have time to prepare a more complex outline. Luo Yuan only watched the boy's voice nervously, just said lightly, "I believe it." Yun Qingqiu's explanation for other people's banquets. Do I look so weak? Just because he looks young and has no reputation, it can be concluded that it is a weak disease. These people are so simple-minded and will definitely suffer in the future. He walked into the negotiation room very confidently and didn't have to wait any longer. Now as a senior, I will give you some official love. However, Yun Qingqiu did not realize that the fundamental reason why others looked down upon him was actually because he had this dream attempt. Yun Qingqiu ignored everyone and then, under the gaze of thousands of people, take out a raw iron show and it will look the same as shown in the picture. Even the door of the room couldn't help laughing loudly. Is this person a douchebag? He actually agreed to come to the training meeting for someone who dislikes money. The chairman of the Chamber of Commerce upstairs laughed so hard that he was scared. Ha 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 ha, I finally understand. This guy is an undercover agent. It is the Chamber of Commerce that will be destroyed. If it is lost, Li Baobao poked his nose at the group of people. He can smile now, but you can avoid crying later. But under the gaze of thousands of people, they only saw him take out a raw and savage iron body that looked like broken bronze bones. He suppressed the ridicule in his eyes. I just glanced at the auxiliary medicinal materials on the shelf next to me. Then he took out the materials he needed from the kitchen world. As he passed through his life, all the medicinal materials disappeared along with his spiritual power. Several people have seen that Bo Bang's refining medicine is 1 pound. Mo Guopi, Ying Guankao, and Yin Shang are all high-level medicinal materials. Does he want to use this broken pot to make high-level paper? An alchemist secretly gathered Ma Fei, the favorite for the championship, and asked him what he thought. Ma Fei told him calmly, what else could he think of it? I really don't know if this kid is stupid. The mouth burst into the house with his waist and bottom, and it can't provide any increase at all. You don't know what you can do, wait for the good show, Ma Fei said so. Liu Jiao was already starving in the ground, but what he didn't know was, this shabby medicinal cake is the lung skin that Yun Qingqiu specially brought from Haishitao. It is definitely Fu Xingfu. After the experiment, the quality of the medicine can be greatly reduced. Number 4 does not have to worry about the quality being too high and unable to be controlled. As the temperature in the fortress rises, the condensed light grass slowly decomposes into fine dust particles, flickering in the flames and emitting a beautiful dense light. In the referee's alchemy bioguangi, the condensed light grass is very fragile. It can be dispersed with a little warm-up, and the condensed object will also be destroyed. This kind of luminous situation is basically unforeseen. The more camp lights there are, the better the alchemist's season of control will be revealed. But with so many camp lights, I'm afraid even some old alchemists in the city can't do it. Like the fiery red flame fish inside, the Da Nance medicine that was just refined is also residual medicine. As time goes by, the leaves of the ancient medicine become more and more clear. Everyone in the audience seemed to accept the mistake. They didn't understand what kind of terrifying refining technique this was. They had never seen this scene before, but Yun Qingqiu continued to practice medicine without caring. I was also under his control like a well-behaved child. This is not medicine training, this is simply talk. Gradually, the sound of speculation disappeared, and the scolding also stopped. Everyone's affairs were placed on those 2 colors. Luo Yuan only looked at his dazzling dark color with excitement. How was it? The medicine practice didn't go very smoothly. Miyun is also looking at the mud. This is the strength that only a 3rd level chain can have. No, it is even higher, or under the spotlight, but it needs to gradually take shape. A single purple medicine that makes the earth gradually appear in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone couldn't help but talk about it. As long as the 2nd Street Urban Quality Healing Unit is available, it won't be blood-sucking. The alchemists were a little nervous, and the few herbs they selected should be the ingredients for refining 2 bottles of advanced monooxygen blood coagulation kits. But the last one that appeared was a purple medicine. Liu Jiaoyin showed a smile. As long as playing with breasts is the lowest level of the second grade single medicine, the difficulty is only a little better than the first grade single medicine. He actually used this kind of over-the-top medicine to compete. It took him a long time to practice this crappy bowl. The audience was overjoyed for a moment. What the hell, I waited for a long time to watch this. In the midst of the commotion, Yang Qingqiu used his reversal method step by step. Another single medicine, royal medicine, rises upward from the bottom of the medicine. The texture is red and the fragrance has a faint smell of blood. After asking about the smell, the soul, body, qi, and blood are normal. The master of Lianchao, who was visiting next to me, instantly had a complete summary of the hair department, just like a double single, and it was also a blood coagulation single. Ning Shui's single is already more difficult than the ordinary 3-body single, so I'm afraid it can directly lock in the first place. However, Yang Qingqiu's own desire to show off is not that strong. It's just because he is too skilled. Reading medicine is the color of collapse in all aspects of the school. You can win the victory with a very difficult third-level medicine. In the future, I will train in additional second-level medicine. How much do you want to win to be satisfied? Don't be so irritating. How much can Lu Zi, who is so broken, still be able to pull off such tricks? Wu Kairen also stood nearby and didn't know what to say. Normally, the waist training conference may be held for 3 days, but this time it will end in 30 minutes. The referee was also at a loss. This guy not only pinched a group of pharmacists, but he also pinched an experienced pharmacist. Yang Qingqiu put the order on the jade plate and handed it to the host. If you have practiced well, please check it. The host took the jade plate. Does this phase effect still need to be checked? He read the words and gritted his teeth to receive the final score. My personal opinion is 10. The rest of the ratings also gave full marks out of 10. The host and the audience were still a little bit unable to calm down, and they all whispered to each other. This is very important from the beginning. If the chain behind is broken, it is not equivalent to being used alone. In the host's reluctant eyes, Yang Qingqiu quickly put away the 2 single pills. Then he smiled and was more cautious about the recording quality in the audience. Luo Yuan's face turned red with joy, his eyes showed that he had received it, and it was hard to express his excitement. He had done it. Moreover, it is the real meaning of Mariloku and Tiaoda. If the following inner group training has no ability to slow down, Shadi is so handsome. The host quickly took out a flag with 10 points and placed it on the medicine training table. Yang Qingqiu was in charge of this matter, and the others became challengers. Liu Jiao almost collapsed. In order to be a woman in public, she deliberately manipulated the lottery. She hoped that the second player would be able to win over the supporting players for a year. But looking at it this way, she became the first animal union. Please, then the host announced the second one, stay for cheating. He was suddenly shocked. How the hell are you going to do this? He has to be pinched. As long as he goes up there, he will be the first to be embarrassed if he takes a photo. His hand suddenly patted her shoulder. It's your turn to keep your breasts. Go ahead. Don't even think about grabbing the can. Just show your style and look like I'm waiting for you. Take a picture of the creature's pitiful appearance, style, and please. This person clearly wants to see his jokes. Liu Jiao bit the duck soul and dispersed. I thought he was just an ordinary kid. Never thought he would be forced to go to Chengdu like this. My legs were bleeding and I struggled to get to the ground. I lowered my head and said feebly, I'm so angry. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the queue was already in a hurry. The host looked at the flag helplessly and then looked at the other chain biters, the third one. The third pharmacist who appeared showed his hands to everyone. He had something to do at home and said goodbye. Anyway, there is the first person who is embarrassed by his power. The host continued to suck the next person, and the voice of Qi Quan branched out. I remember the host just threw the list to the ground. Divided into questions and answers. If anyone wants to learn, just tell me. If you close your face when practicing, you will have a bitter look on your face when you pick up. No one wants to be the first to be embarrassed. It's not surprising at all compared to the baby. This adult really didn't save his face. In the end, the host had no choice but to go on stage and tell everyone that the rest of the contestants had all the power, so the champion of this chain should be. When you fall, you have to adapt to Qingqiu. The results of Qingqiu's laughter and rivers must be lifted above your head. The secret details of this power are only like flowers that shake Luoxin. In single combat, Ji Yushao, the girl who fell into FTV's life, has cautious eyes and looks at the star on the medicine table calmly. Countless girls have ambitions of grey things, they like to scream, they move their arms together to protect their sweat. Young Master Xingqiu is invincible. He will push him for the rest of his life without waiting for death. He is handsome and charming, he refines the medicine, we are all little clouds. Several Lian Yao lost their virginity and got into trouble. Not only their backs but also their accumulated fans were like this. Yang Qingqiu was startled by the female fans who were calling her among the audience. I've been through a lot of strong winds and waves, and this is the first time that something like this has happened. But he still underestimated the power of female fans and went so far as to launch a frantic pursuit and demand 1,000 hugs. He dared to run wildly with the road guide to guide him. I ran a whole street. Finally, he ran to an abandoned water tank by the alley and hid in it. Yun Qingqiu looked at the various messages left on the clothes. She forgot and didn't expect that the end of the brushing would be a bit miserable. These are the clothes Xiaoya wore herself. How can she explain it when she goes back to do it by herself? In the water tank of this blind house, the two of them were just leaning against each other, with two slender pre-kick punches on both sides of Yun Qingqiu. Yun Qingqiu swallowed the flames and took off the mold. Because the two of them were too close, he didn't know how to position his eyes. The consciousness on the other side of the courtyard was like this. It was the first time I had left Nanxing in such a state. My heart involuntarily accelerated. Luo Yuan turned his head to look, and accidentally discovered a yellow book coupon that had slipped from Yun Qingqiu's arms. As the book slowly slid to the ground, I happened to come across a certain photo that made my blood boil. It was only £1 at first, and then my breathing started to go wrong. The Gu Neng Guan Yu girl gathered together in such a small space, and the atmosphere was so charming. Immediately, its breathing became faster and faster, and the beautiful and demonic cold water reached up to Yun Qingqiu. Lao Hai suddenly looked up from the sky. He closed his eyes unconsciously and slowly moved closer. Yun Qingqiu was a little panicked. What kind of situation is this? This is my first time to experience it. What should I do? At the time of crisis, there was suddenly a strong sound of monkeys coming from outside. I just saw them stopping here. Search quickly. After hearing the sound, Luo Yuan stopped moving in the kissing area and held the water tank vigilantly. It quickly thought about how to deal with it. In that moment, if you wish, only the condensed energy in your body will burst out, and you will be biased throughout your life. Yun Qingqiu's male instinct came to light, and he felt a dizzy feeling in his head. I'm dead again. The moment the command to surrender broke out, the water tank was shattered into half a dozen pieces. The people searching suddenly turned into Jiang Muguang and Chichi gathered together. Next, the fingers of the courtyard are pulled to welcome Qingqiu. The moon rises and we are about to evacuate. Dozens of sword flashes rise up at once. Falling into the courtyard is not enough to hit the ground, so you can only use 0 pins to resist it. Distribute airborne electricity to generate violent impending sparks. Just when they were about to leave until now, 7 or 8 more modifiers jumped on top of the slander and attacked. Former Yongfu stood below to raise 12 people. Luo Daibi, you can really run. In the courtyard, every cat scanned the market coldly. He only lived in the center of the radicals, but his junior brother still practiced close proximity. The situation was not easy. In desperation, he had no choice but to jump down with Shidi. Qian Yongfu shook the paper mountain and walked away with a smile. I didn't expect that you actually found an expert. However, what I accepted this time was quite impressive. Not only did I receive the most beautiful woman in Luolin City, I also got a powerful love interest along the way. Liu Jiao Construction took a step forward for a moment, thinking extremely loudly in his heart. What about the blogger? What if he lost his mind after killing a group of practitioners? In the end, it didn't fall into his own hands. She slowly pointed towards the courtyard to mark that it still belongs to me after all. But suddenly he stopped, folded the paper circle slightly and pointed at the two of them, looking at the two of them walking up a mountain. I'm starting to think about you guys having sex in a water tank. As you look down, there is a famous emperor's novel on the ground. Precise and stable perspective. Damn it, you two actually brought the best-selling book to support you. It can be said that his heart was hit by 10,000 alarms at this time. Luo Yuan just said it slowly. Junior brother, are you trying to get him so hot that he drinks it? Why do you say goodbye like this? And Yun Qingqiu pulled the index plate to help cover the large intestine soil. The woman with the flow mask is going to cry. If her mother still treats me as a facial mask, President, please take action. The previous one was clapping with clothes. Split Changmeng duo. It's better to start earlier. Just in case, it also specially prepared other Yuinsho this time. As it said, the red mist was lifted up by the red mist wearing a black costume and a mask. However, it can be seen from the dress of the table that they are all black market people. Seeing the way those people came, the former alliance of heroes gave up their positions. Then there was a look on the road. Did you see it? Give up. He knows people's strength. Luo Xiaojian knows it very well. Luo Yuan just bit his lip. This gangster actually found someone from the black market to live in the town. I'm afraid this time is really a shame, he said to Li Baobao with great confidence. Brother Baozi is in big trouble. After he succeeds, he must focus on it. However, Li Baobao did not know how. I saw him quickly walking towards Yun Qingqiu. The point is, I'm worried about your bottom line. I'm here to eat it. I hope the master will learn the crime. This kind of trivial thought is not worthy of an adult's action. I'm going to leave now. The former hero was dumbfounded. Hei Shidao knelt down for Yun Qingqiu. What the hell is this? She couldn't understand what she saw in front of her. In politics, economy, and tribes, the people they brought were decorated with ignorance. But no matter how hard he tries to explain, there is no way to avoid the imaginary person who always comes to Shenzhen. After a while, the former servant and others had been beaten to death, and Li Baobao privately requested that they live with each other. Yun Qing didn't refuse even if he got the chance. It's just that Lu Yuan just looked at the scene in front of him and was a little confused. What on earth is going on? It just so happened that they came back to implement the Chamber of Commerce. One of them ran away from Jimang Hospital. Isn't that good? Miss, the president's condition has worsened. I have already asked for public opinion, but it will take some time before I can. If you only heard the news, you would be suddenly frightened. The whole body was suddenly shaky. How could it be? It was not a little stable. Then he immediately looked for Yang Ling, who was coming from Yun Qingqiu. Yun Qingqiu was worried and wanted to go with him. After all, he was also a practicing pharmacist and knew a little bit about medicine. I feel a little hesitant when I fall into the hospital, but Grandpa's injury is too dangerous, I'm afraid. Before Dad could finish speaking, Yun Qingqiu breathed out in her arms. Don't be afraid, just keep me. The eyes that failed him when he complained and pointed at the shield. This prison ceiling is the best set for him, but Yun Qingqiu has an inexplicable and strange feeling. Maybe one day you will also be able to sing me electronically. As soon as the two came to Wuqian, they felt that there was something to talk about, and the Korean business minister was spraying. On the bed, an old lady, Rong Zhengshu, and Mr. Xu were lying. Didn't he know that he was suddenly being ridden? Young Chuzi observed for a while and felt that there was a strong sense of life coming from the surrounding ice. It seems that this old man is not in love, but Grandpa is actually a cosmic spiritual creature. Luo Yuan only dared to rush to his side and give him medicine. The old man pointed at him. No need, the cold poison has entered the sea of qi and plunged into the river. It should be today. In the courtyard, I just endured the humiliation. In this case, he has to return to Luo Shengong and ask his father for help. The old man told him with a straight face that it would not be so easy to arrange a map containing such names of the Q clan. The people who fall into the courtyard are the ones who come from it, Ging Yidao. In fact, there is no antidote for bad poisons. You tell me and I will definitely find a way. The old man looked serious. This kind of cold poison could only be known by Bing Yang and Cao Mantai with their own eyes. After hearing personal advice, Yun Qingxiu and Luo Yuanji fell in love with each other at the same time. They were not even qualified for such extreme retail contact. Mentioning the young Zhu Yu, the old man had a look of deep awe on his face. It was rumored that the strongest among the young Zhu Yu was awarded the title of Book Ju. His prowess came from English, and his aura was comparable to that of Wu Yun. The young man Zhu Shueshu is extremely popular and extremely poisonous. The rumored holy unconsciousness is far inferior. The corners of Yun Qingqiu's mouth twitched. What's the matter with Shu Jue's glue ball? He was riding on it. Even if he was angry, he would run towards it like a cat. Then when he touched his head, he would jump up and lie down inside to spread glue. The end of Yanqingqi seems to have some major reasons for the decline of the Ming dynasty and the past 10,000 years. The old man continued, in such a retail store, ordinary cultivators will never be able to see him in his lifetime. Probably only Wu Bianji can have the acquaintance of his own language. He was silent in the courtyard. Wu Bianga is the #1 in the acupuncture world. Is there really no way? Yun Qingqiu thought briefly for a moment. After all, he is the grandfather of the world, so let's peel it off for him. Yun Qingqiu is having trouble. I seem to be interested in that foolishness and braininess. As soon as the flower appeared, both of them turned to look at him. They couldn't believe what they heard in their ears. Just wait for me. After saying that, Yun Qingqiu opened the door and walked out. Because Xu Yu and Mao Lingli were too violent, if they directly used some fire in front of them, not to mention the old man, even Luoling City would be burnt to the ground. After Yun Qingqiu took off the feather, he quickly took out a small object and poured it on the fire. The feathers in his hands were so powerful that they transformed into a feather with a transferred position. Please continue to use his fame and fortune to work hard and make it look like an ancient heirloom. In the courtyard, I just sat in front of the bed very calmly. I kept saying angrily, Grandpa, please don't let anything happen. But the old man didn't have high hopes. Xinyan Zhuquan has such a high standard. They are even more secretive about their feathers. They regard them as the family's luck. How could they give away the feathers so easily? I think the little kid must have seen it wrong. I just want to delete the director. I don't know how to answer. Tears couldn't stop falling. Grandpa put his hand on his and patted it twice. Then slowly we got back together and passed away in the same year. The bitter effect of wishing. Seeing that the Korean wife is getting more and more prosperous, the old man took away his only #1. It's a pity that he couldn't see you get married. And he couldn't help you choose whether to choose. I really hope someone can take a good photo. At this moment, the door was pushed open suddenly, and Yun Qingqiu ran in with a decorated concoction bar, saying that it was a family heirloom. The predecessors said that the feathers that came with it were personal advice. He didn't know whether it was true or not. Red Dimension Rain Category Retail. The old man can naturally feel the high-end Rain Category Retail. Kan Yi's power is also higher than. He had a headshot on the spot with his soul, body, and body fighting power, and his eyes were shot. Liko Laoshu transformed into his shell on the spot. Even though he is so powerful despite the pressure, he is actually an actor from a young middle school student. Yuan Qingqiu deliberately pretends not to understand. Is it useful? The old man's financial support is all written on his face. This is what he has always wanted in his dreams. Now that Jing has appeared in front of his eyes so easily. Probably only Wokao can bring the mood of returning to law at this moment. Then Yun Qingqiu gave this tune to the dull Luo Yuan. If you wish to pierce your eyes with the palm of your hand, it will be the cute look of Yu Futong's small mouth and golden dandelion. When I was in the courtyard, I only had both hands for the master to let her see. The old man often held the feather in his hands because of the lack of protection of the righteousness conquering chi plate, and he almost shed tears with his expression of excitement. As a result, with Mao, a burst of flame swirled outwards from the old man's hand. The temperature in the room suddenly rose, and the frozen Korean girl became beautiful and swallowed in an instant. An excited nomination. Time flies to the sky. Poor Qingqiu's building immediately pulled the courtyard finger and pushed it out quickly. A wave formed quickly and enveloped the entire building. The old man has been rescued and treated. If you wish, the excited Tochibana will speak for you. Holding Yun Qingqiu in her arms, she kept convulsing. Yun Qingqiu patted and comforted the young student who was on the prison list. Isn't it a good thing for the senior sister? Why are you crying again? Luo Yuan only buried his head on Yun Qingqiu's shoulder. He was also troubled. Why did he lose all the pressure on the tree in front of the wetland and completely became like a child? Yun Qingqiu touched his face with Qingqing's hands. Good baby, don't cry anymore. The expression on Luo Yuan's face is very complicated. You must know that you are a major event for Qing Yufeng. The person in charge of the Chamber of Commerce can handle you alone, but I don't know why. In front of it, I feel like I can let go of all my burdens and release my courage as I please. Luo Yuan pinched his cheek with your fingers. I am older than you. What do you call me, baby? How embarrassing. Yun Qingqiu smiled and asked her how she could do that. The courtyard finger is a color-correcting sweep-style flaw. Just protect the courtyard finger. Isn't it weak to simply clean it? Yun Qingqiu's eyes are big. The senior sister in the courtyard nodded her head in a seductive manner. Qing Song suddenly felt a little confused. The background is a bit crooked. How can I say that you are also a big event for me? Luo Yuan only trimmed his red face. Although he didn't say much, he was thinking in his heart. You still know that I am your senior sister. It's really too bad to tease her again and again like this and make her talk about random things every day. Now she's talking about memorizing lessons. Yun Qingqing found it hard to deal with her resentful eyes. He could only follow in and stand aside, silly who's Dharma station. He really didn't know how to deal with this situation. After a while, Lu Yuan's emotions gradually faded. He reached out slightly and said, that feather is your heirloom, right? Such support was given to us. Yun Qingqiu had no choice but to find a reason to hide away, and told him to pass the current hurdle first. Anyway, there was a chance to fight in the room when the things were not in use. But in his heart, he knew very well that data processing is very fast. If he wanted to, he could make a bunch of them and pretend to be cool on the street, but it might lead to chaos in the acupuncture industry. Luo Yuan only responded with a ring and nodded. This is rare in the security bureau, and the world is not unusual. At the same time, a strange idea came into his head that they would marry each other. I have the nerve to say this kind of thing out of my mouth, and I'm just thinking about it. Yun Qingqiu suddenly put his hands on Luo Yuan's shoulders. Looking at it carefully, I was shocked when I landed in the courtyard, and my heart beat rapidly. Yun Qingqiu's face keeps approaching. Luo Yuan's Hang's eye mask moved rapidly. Qingqing bit her lip and closed her eyes. Feeling that Yun Qingqiu seemed to be showing off his aura, he was speechless. This guy was taking advantage of him again. He really thought he wouldn't be angry. At this point, Yun Qingqiu suddenly looked at him with a serious face, and said 5 words in his mouth, a kind of cold poison. I fell into the courtyard just because of the cold. Because the cold poison in the old man's body dissipated so quickly, it had already invaded his body without even realizing it. But he was so focused on Shadi that he didn't realize that he was alone again. Yun Qingqiu took out a key point. Fortunately, he discovered it early. All you need to do is remove the world chain. As the flames fly in, the important people are wrapped up in the middle. Goldman Sachs operation and skills are harmful to the road. This is actually more cosmetic than the level shown at the Lianyao conference. Soon, take a warm and scalding red orchid medicine and you will be ready. He holds the single in his hand and loses a few. The single is as follows. After being admitted to the hospital, he only wanted to continue his career. He didn't know how terrible Wetland's medicine training level was. He had just prepared his skills and ended up taking care of him. Yunqing Qiuzi is Xiao Xiao. After all, he is the top single model in the 3 halls. He doesn't want Nguyen to only see his old age, so for the sake of insurance, he has to serve him personally. So he came to him and opened his mouth with his hands. I sent that single medicine directly. Luo Yuan could not help but glance at Yunqing Qiu. Do you think I am a child? Just like Tang Wan, Yunqing Qiu carefully observed the pulse of the falling finger, and asked it to catalyze the single pulse quickly. When it was about to spread throughout the body, there would be a belly of heat flowing in the body. The feeling was most obvious where the pulses gathered. The world needs the number of times the heat flow appears when Milo gathers his standard skills. Come to him quickly after the heat flow stops. Seeing that Yunqing Qiu was so serious, he decided not to be careless when he was assigned to the hospital and quickly ran to the unattended boulder next to him. After taking the single drug, a stream of heat flowed through the body. Vincent's heater was not oily either. After falling into the courtyard, I only took off my red robe. The hair-pulling pen will cause the heat flow in your body to appear one level. He stepped on the bed with his legs up. The zero force moving in the hand is slowly absorbed and quantified. As the temperature of the body increases, the bamboos kept slipping away from the missing body. After a lot of extra work, I finally called to explain. Just as he was about to change into clean clothes, he suddenly thought that Yunqing Qiu would check the marks later, so he took off his coat again. In order to display the marked symbols, he had to wear some necessary undressing and curling. Not only does he have some secular practices, but he is obviously just a junior fellow student in the world, yet he still wants to get close to each other like this. After a long time, he weakly poked his head out and said, I'm too embarrassed to go out. You'd better come in. Yunqing Qiu didn't think much and immediately strode to the door. Okay, then I'll come in. When he looked up for a moment, his whole body was shocked. Seeing the combat power of Luo Yuan finger cross cultivator in front of me, wearing a suction hand on the body, it is like encountering a pre-body impact, especially the pair of extremely demonic large intestine legs that are perfectly recorded at the moment, and the nose wings are swinging to suck, making it difficult to start. Yunqing Qiu unconsciously tested her saliva. Fortunately, she had strong concentration, otherwise she was afraid of how to become a great Buddha. Please, then he even shed a nosebleed unconsciously. He looked forward to express concern, but he waved his hand. Unexpectedly, these bleeding made him happy. I saw the guidance from Silu Institute and didn't say anything more. He only paid shares to himself. Although there was no selling trade here, there was a warm current passing through, so he turned into an arrow. Yunqing Qiu went to the west entrance to get air conditioning. This sword-tipped breast is a bit exquisite. After hearing the music, I felt very relieved. Nanjing Qiu immediately explained with his bare hands, it's nothing. The number of times the heat flow appears is the hiding technique of cold poison. That is, the cold poison is hidden in the abdomen. Yunqing Qiu raised his head, with an upright look on his face. Next, he needed to pay close attention to the intersection of cold and poison, and immediately let the heat flow surrounding him rise and fall. So next, I rubbed his eyes and kissed him reasonably, without any abnormality. Thoughts on dividing. The fingers and cheeks in the courtyard turned red quickly. I was probed by this boy. I was put out. Now I have to be touched. I am not hers now, and Yunqing Qiu's expression is pure, and she controls Lingling in her hands. I'm in the world. Come on, the oxygen fan who only fixes color in the courtyard. When I said it out loud, I felt it was too weird, so I added, don't mess around in shitty. If you touch me randomly, I will come up to you in this life, and I can't even get rid of you. The warning of being sent to the hospital was originally meant to be a serious warning, but after saying these words, it really became one where there is no danger. Yunqing Qiu suddenly became angry with her new beauty, thinking that Chi is not very far away. But I dared to shake my head and remind myself, no, it can be so unbearable. Yunqing Qiu gritted her teeth and finished reciting the name. The scenery in her eyes is refreshing. The heaven and earth are righteous. The sword head is in the transition period. Good, the heaven and the earth are in the right place. The world is gasping for breath. That's not right either. I can't remember that he turned into a lazy mother-in-law. Lin Qingqiu caught a cold and her accountant Lin Li was sent to the hospital to accuse Hua Lin Li of eliminating the poison. The warm current after the shower light entered the body also caused Liu Yuan to have a cold labor, and he couldn't help but make some strange sounds. He hasn't taken a breath yet. Yun Qingqiu Binyo immediately put a pill on other parts of his body. After Lin Li catalyzed, a burst of cold air from the west came out. At this time, the road workers were already deserted, and Yun Qingqiu closed her eyes as soon as she was concerned. The new Crown mainland tried her best to help eliminate this layer of cold, but happy time is always easy to lose, even though Yun Qingqiu has tried hard to reduce the effect. Followed by shouting, Nandu gradually disappeared in the courtyard, only to rise up. Suddenly a bowl was completely spread out in Yun Qingqiu's arms. Yun Qingqiu carefully observed the world's reaction. He had already adjusted the weight of his smile appropriately. It shouldn't be like this. He suddenly rose from the courtyard, and felt an evil force rising from the top. The secret numbing spell extended from her face all the way down until every inch of her warm body was dissatisfied. Yun Qingqiu gave a fierce pound. This is Luo Shenzhong. Thousands of years ago, there was a Luotian clan in the world of needle cultivation. The lantern madness level controlled by their water spiritual trees once had a place in the world of needle cultivation. The girls from the Luotian clan have their own exquisite arts and crafts, elegance during the holy festival. The Luotian clan strictly controls the blood bowl. After a girl is born, the Luotian curse will not hurt her and restrict her behavior. Only on the wedding night is she allowed to release the crowd. Rumor has it that the god-falling curse will manifest itself when there is excessive physical contact with the opposite sex, and once there is a line of silence with you on the moon. The god-falling curse will trigger a vicious curse and punish both of you. However, as time went by, like most sect families, they quietly withdrew from their top position. Now, it is not known where the Luotian clan has come. All in all, when you are overly intimate, a yellow card warning will appear for the falling god curse, or a red card will be shown directly for treatment when the falling god curse is in person. Yun Qingqiu was very puzzled that Luotian Ju Wei suddenly appeared. He didn't seem to have done anything. However, the moment he returned, there was a look of pain on Luo Yuanji's face. The secret numb words appeared like the sound of the ancient camp. The words separated from the Luo Yuan paper and turned into black water. The shape of the water bomb rapidly changes into the shape of a dragon. Then the second shot was directed towards Lin Qingqi without saying anything, for sentences. Yun Qingqiu was deeply immersed in the divine palm. Her claws instantly became stagnant and unable to take a step forward. The water made a harsh and sharp sound. And she kept moving forward angrily, thinking about the pig sand. Yun Qingqiu holds her hands tightly. Qingming's water mass instantly rises to sight Qingyang. I'm afraid the Jindan emergency repair room will shut down the machine on the spot if it encounters it. It's a pity that it happened. He looked at the big event on the bed and said slowly. This is not an ordinary trance. It seems that the big event has a story. As soon as the words fell, those fish-like words disappeared quickly on it, and the Luotian was broken like this. Yun Qingqiu's eyes almost went dark. What the hell, I didn't break the body of the big world. I just helped to deal with the poison and polished it a little. Then Luotian was broken like this. Yun Qingqiu has no tears in her jade library. What if the world finds out? How can I explain to him? The person was unconscious at the time, but he was conscious. This is a good thing that cannot be explained clearly. On his crazy shoulder, Ruo Wanxi suddenly gritted his teeth and let out a painful cry. A mouthful of old snow made him unable to climb out on the spot. Yuan Qingqiu didn't care about anything else. I dared to run forward to check his physical condition. I was so stunned. Once the inability to practice is lifted, the appearance will also be destroyed. How do women like this survive in the chaotic acupuncture world? Nowadays, I have zero profits and no regrets. I am asking, the sea of qi is about to become violent. How can we solve it? Yun Qingqiu turned over the various experiences in his memory and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. A trip to Qingyang Middle School. I saw him take out a preview. Put the blood of the green rock and snow into your mouth, and slowly suck it out. Use his powerful spiritual power to quantify Huang Bao's power. Then he took out Luo Yuanji's face, cradled his arms and legs, and used his mouth to drain the blood from his face into it. Feeling the moistening of his lips and his slightly searching eyes, he could feel that the smell was very familiar. It was his lost enemy. The eyelids that opened quickly closed again on their own initiative. He placed his hands on Yun Qingqiu's neck and moved his lips and tongue slightly. Yun Qingqiu didn't have time to take into account the various feelings at this time, and tried hard to control the Western-style blood of Zhu Quan to repair the damaged parts of Luo Yuanji's body. Yun Qingqiu took a white breath and absorbed the excess power back into his mouth. The housing fund can't bear too much, so this is fine. After the break was completed, Yun Qingqiu's horse head was sweating profusely. A faint light flashed slightly on Luo Yuan's legs, and a small hardware flashed with a faint light, imprinted on the skin slowly. Isn't it lying on grass? Yun Qingqiu was completely stupid. It frantically used its hands to frustrate Luo Yuanji's legs, as if it wanted to frustrate it. However, this does not seem to be of any use. One of the desolate factions stayed on the inner layer of the air leg. Yun Qingqiu looked at the scene in front of her at a loss. The big world also belongs. 2 days later, Yun Qingqiu sat alone on the door of the room, silently thinking about everything that had happened recently. He held a piece of medicinal material to replenish vitality on the sole of his feet. In the past 2 days, the old man's vitality gradually recovered and improved. Luo Yuanji completely got rid of the window merchant of Luo Shenru. Zheng Yumelo's physical awareness received a huge reminder. There is another spiritual idea. The senior sister also belongs to me. Yun Qingqiu is a little crazy. She was single in her previous life. In this life, she just woke up and got 2 lives. Moreover, she was blessed by heaven and left behind spiritual beauty, because it is a fairy with the body of Qian Yusheng, who is 100% able to practice needles and swords, and can move thousands of miles. Because it is prediminished by the Luoshan clan. Her legs can play for thousands of years, but they are not enough. I couldn't bear to think about it. Yun Qingqiu smiled bitterly and shook his head. It's a small matter to explode. It's not difficult to improve the system, but if he wants to upgrade the system to the level of Genshin impact, Yun Qingqiu recalled some of the most important data. Li Mai's demon body is driven out of the city. Xian Lin Yushan, the spirituality of these 3 rare systems must also be women who have not experienced the truth. The spiritual points are not ordinary blood. They are not their own wives. How can they be hated so easily? I don't know if it's breathable, so I can only use a short device for the time being. As for whether this was a trivial matter, what really made Yun Qingqiu feel helpless was that he didn't know how to deal with the relationship between the two. Together one is not RRRR, but he has also heard that when he really loses his energy, he is not only a little confused. He didn't know how long he could live, so he decided to call it a day and give it up. When Yun Qingqiu was thinking about Peaches, suddenly a small shadow of the clouds hung inside. If you wish, you just want to get behind Yun Qingqiu and have some fun, but Yun Qingqiu suddenly lies down and realizes that the group is facing you. Yun Qingqiu's power doesn't need to be multiple. Naturally, he can see it clearly. If you would like to give me some advice, help me live on the group board and sit next to him in detail. Junior brother, what did you see just now? Yun Qingqiu laughed loudly, dared to change the topic, turned around and threw the question to him, asking if he was feeling better. Luo Yuan just lowered his head in a complacent manner, dragging his body to the ground. His body was no longer dark, but his body became more relaxed. Moreover, after waking up, Yi Leju's breasts were slightly darker. I heard that the most effective way to have breasts is to be touched. It was difficult for Ji Yu Cheng to secretly sneak into the wetland, although it is very good, but I think it is unlikely. After all, Shadi stares at his face and head the most. If you only want to turn your head and leave Yun Qingqiu with a beautiful testimonial, the curtain falls on the Western Ocean. Warm light shines on his hair and cheeks. His clear thoughts are blown by the wind. The western sun is stained by fever. The strategy is beautiful in the morning. Yun Qingqiu was in a daze for a moment and couldn't help but the stagehand gently touched Luo Yuanji's cheek with his fingers. I was forced to end up in the hospital just a little while ago. I didn't know if it was an illusion when I was hurt. He vaguely remembered the scene of the 2 of them in the news. Yun Qingqiu only touched it slightly, then withdrew his hand with a blushing face. If you only want to tease some feathers but don't tease them, this is considered. Yun Qingqiu once again interrupted the topic with a smile. The world and the old man are getting better. Ruo Yuan only gave him a positive answer without hesitation. Yun Qingqiu looked away again. For the sake of my help, why don't you ask senior sister to give me a chance to forgive? He really felt a little guilty and hoped that the world would be able to forgive him a little if he found out that Luo Shenju was betrayed by him. Luo Yuan pointed out that he was busy dying Yuan Liang. What did Yuan Liang say? Your relationship with Grandpa and me is too late. Yun Qingqiu immediately started to ask him how he planned to catch up with his flight. The next second, he suddenly came closer to the courtyard and said jokingly, how about I promise you with my body? It's a pity that the world is 3 years older than you. If you don't dislike it. Before he could finish his words, he took the first step to welcome Qingqiu Xiaosheng. He was already mine. How could this be considered a blow to him? The big eyes of Luo Yuan flashed. What did junior brother just say? Yun Qingqiu Huangmang explained, I said that the world is beautiful and also crazy. The jade body is a perfect joke. As soon as these words came out, I was only a junior classmate. I wanted to tell her a story, but I played it without any words. Speaking of which, junior brother and junior sister, how can they take turns? I just wanted to have some quiet time in the courtyard. Junior brother likes to eat desserts. I stayed next to junior brother to make snacks. I kept making them until junior brother wanted to. Yun Qingqiu continued what she said, the world can also learn from other snacks. Then I will continue to eat until the world is tired of Buddhism. Luo Yuan refers to a person who is anxious to speak out his true feelings. How could he be bored? Yun Qingqiu stopped touching her hand. That would be better. Xiaya takes care of daily life, Shijia takes care of snacks, and we live a happy and decorated life together. If you don't think the plan is clear, then let it take its course. If you are willing to stay with me, then no one will. After a long time, if I want to feel calmer, it would be better to click. But she has no experience in taking care of others. But she wants to realize. Seeing that his junior brother didn't respond, Luo Yuan just turned his head and looked at. At this time, Yun Qingqiu had closed her eyes and fell asleep. Ruo Yuan only looked at the boy next to her. If you eat the land, I will take it seriously. From now on, you will be the only one in my heart. He also looked around when there was no one around and gently smelled the two houses. Women from the Luotian clan are not that easy to talk to. As the old man gradually recovered, the Chamber of Commerce began to operate normally. As for the groups that maintained the work and implemented the Chamber of Commerce, they were all attacked. I experienced the feeling of bankruptcy. Outside the gate of Luolin City, Yun Qingqiu and others were packing their luggage next to Long Niao. Mr. Luo was guiding his grandfather on various matters with Luo Yuan. The old man Qian Dingming Wan grandfather asked him not to miss this little. Luo Yuan only lowered his voice to tell him to whisper. He had repeated this dozens of times since he woke up in the morning. The old man looked serious. What do you know? You know it. If you know it and don't act, this man will become famous in the future. You will not suffer any loss if you follow him. Luo Yuan's face is red. That's natural. The person you likes will naturally be good. The old man suddenly asked, could it be that the young lady's happy little daughter attitude and these words were? In the courtyard, Yin Qingqiu, who was fighting a dragon bird behind his eyes quietly, could stand up to such an outstanding person. Then he raised his head and told his grandfather that he had fallen in love with his junior brother. At this time, Long Niaoshu opened its wings and was preparing to fly. Luo Lin came over to remind the lady that the president was about to leave. After the old man learned about the young lady's thoughts, he immediately went to Yin Qingqiu to have a good talk. Luo Yuan only dared to help Lan and restrain him, telling him that he could handle the matter by himself. The old man laughed, but Mr. Ding still did not forget to remind him to take good care of you. The old man only opened his eyes and stood on the bench in the courtyard. Then he pretended to cough and pretended that nothing happened. Big Bird's very heavenly moment. Yun Qingqiu finally breathed a sigh of relief and left. In the past few days when the Chamber of Commerce was implemented, the old man always had the same words of gratitude to Yun Qingqiu and Xiong Jian. Apart from thanking him for the gift of treasures, all the topics were focused on Luo Yuanji, although he also wanted to tell the old man frankly to let him hold his hand. But he really couldn't tell a god like Zhongxia Lin Yin who broke the Luo god's spell. After a few moments, Long Niao broke through the clouds with a shout, and finally returned to Mr. Gu Yuan with everyone. Lin Xiaoyao is currently celebrating and worrying about Feng Yue Yuo sweeping the floor. When you hear the noise, look up and go. After seeing that it was Yun Qingqiu and others who answered, I was very happy and ran over to give him a big god. He didn't know they were together yet, but the short 10 days without seeing each other seemed like half a year and a half. Nuyu also came over happily to fight. But at this time, Ling Xiangya was a little bit arrogant and even had a faint transmission. Yun Qingqiu didn't know if it was an illusion. He always felt that the hat in Xiaoya's eyes meant something, right? Xiaoya felt something was wrong and immediately ran to cook. After a while, Yun Qingqiu also arrived for the visit. He opened the door first and walked in. I saw Xiaoya cutting the lottery and asked him how he was having fun in Lorraine City these days. Yun Qingqiu also helped him and told him that Luolin City was very slippery and that he would take him there for a walk when he had time. Lin Xiaoya suddenly changed her attitude. I see why you are a little weird today. Yun Qingqiu looked at him puzzled. What's wrong? Lin Xiaoya pointed at her face and neck with a very naughty finger. You are so cute. This picture's love words were so sweet that it could be said to have caught him off guard. After realizing it, he went over and rubbed Ru Xiaoya's head. You can still chat with people. Xiaoya twisted and shrank her neck slightly. I haven't seen you for 10 days. I miss you so much. Yun Qingqiu's face turned red, so good, she actually leaked. But suddenly he had a light in his heart, and he felt that Liu Xia was dripping with flowers inside his body. It seemed that he was going to be pressed again. After Lin Xiaoya felt the sound of soul comforting, he moved closer and immediately closed him up. Tian Yisheng's body will not be a super thin and oily body. The degree of explosion is far beyond that of the big world. The yin kinky color of smoking is just a scam. In my heart, I pray hard for love and hope that this little aunt can smoke less. Half an hour later, Lin Xiaoya walked out of the kitchen with a plate in hand, satisfied with her experience. Only Yun Qingqiu stayed there. The steamboat was empty. I thought that I could catch him from a long distance, but I didn't expect that he was beaten as soon as I came back. Now that she came to the living room, Xiaoya was the first to ask, explanation, Qingqiu, this idiot, didn't cause any trouble for you, right? Luo Yuan just smiled. How could the world be in chaos if he lost his enemy so well? Moreover, he also helped 5 people. Xiaoya is in trouble. How can he help Da Mao? After all, in his Renji, Li Yankinki is a big book editor who can't even write about clothes. The Luo Yuan branch quickly took out a package and said that it was for his junior sister from Luo Lin. Xiaoyao was happy and intentional from the beginning after seeing Li Wu. Luo Yuan only felt full of apologies. Shomai and Shadi were childhood sweethearts, but he suddenly fell in love with Shadi. There was always a feeling that he was robbing someone else's things. Just because I felt sleepy, I brought him a gift from Lorraine City. Ying Xiaoyao was very happy from the beginning. He carefully picked up the wings. A few days ago, there was an elder named Chu in Zhongmen. The clothes he wore during the clarification were particularly beautiful. At that time, he was still thinking about when he would have won. He didn't expect it to be so soon. Yun Qingqiu looked at Kang Weiwei's wives and put down his chopsticks. He happened to mention this topic and couldn't help but add, Xiaoyao, what do you think about the harem? In order of precedence, Xiaoyao is the future eldest wife. I still need to ask for advice. Lin Xiaoyao put the clothes back into the box, took them with her and pushed them back. How else could she treat this? Isn't this a matter of Shi Wei-chang? There are many wives in the town who have been injured. The revisionist world's overhaul is full of anger. He paused for a moment and looked at Xiong Yukinki warily. Why are you thinking about the consequences? Although Yun Qingqiu didn't give a direct answer, she could complain about it in her heart. Who wouldn't want to? A group of beautiful girls are standing by their side, shaking one with their left hand, holding one with their right hand, leaning on one behind them, and making two boxes on their legs. Their cute looks are so charming. It's exciting to think about it. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet, and Lin Xiaoyao suddenly felt that all eyes were looking at her. His face suddenly turned red, and he said that she was not his wife. He did not count such things. Mu Yun raised his head blankly. He might not know where he would be in the future. Lin Xiaoyao crossed her arms and said seriously, if I were the wife of this idiot, I would definitely take good care of him. You want to attack from behind, right? Okay. I'm looking for an intellectual beauty like senior sister. I'm totally willing. It only weighed a pound, and it slipped from the chopsticks in my hand. Lin Xiaoyao continued, a beautiful woman like senior sister is willing to marry you again, right? Senior sister was shocked when she lost her job and almost blurted out the word, yes. Then he made a big wry smile for the rest of his life. His thoughts suddenly became vivid. It seemed that Xiaoyao was no match for him. Lin Xiaoyao picked up the chopsticks in her hands. If she was like Han Yu, forget it. She looked cold and unfit for someone to watch fireworks. It made people feel inexplicably uncomfortable. By the way, what did you do to him? He came to see you again in recent days. After entering the courtyard, he only raised his head and saw that Han Yu was an official disciple of Nagato. Didn't he stay in seclusion? What does he have to do with his junior brother? Mu Yun described the previous events very enthusiastically, but he said it was word for word, and no detail was missed. Then he added, Xiao Qiu is a girl killer. And even Han Yu has done many rounds. Nothing said. Yun Qingqiu blindly goes to the mouth of the first five Zhu Mu Yun. The little senior sister is. There was only a moment of silence in Luo Yuan. I didn't expect the wetland to be so powerful. Lian Haiyu was injured due to his kinetic energy. He also made appointments to meet in the grove every day. I wonder what you plan to do in the grove. Yun Qingqiu immediately went crazy and explained to him that they didn't know each other at all, but Mu Yun seemed to be a big deal. As expected of Xiao Qiu, they broke up so soon and had a relationship of 100,000 years. I wish to get married, Xiaoya, you should be careful. Yun Qingqiu Dunsha frantically fired at Mu Yun. Senior sister, can you stop talking? But he suddenly became cold. Why did the young senior sister ask the two girls to be careful? Could it be that she noticed something? After a while, Ruo Yuan said to Lin Xiaoyao very seriously, Junior sister, should we work hard to improve our strength and protect our strength? Lin Xiaoyao nodded silently. The world is right. Qingqiu must not be allowed to fall to Han Yu. The two women looked at each other, as if they had suddenly reached some kind of consensus. Yun Qingqiu was a little confused. Why were the two of them so harmonious? Originally, he was worried about the two girls who were new trainees, but who would have expected that things would turn out to be this department? Just as he was about to lower his head to eat, he found that there were two plates in front of him. One was filled with tender fish fillets, and the other was filled with intestines with peppers and bones. The table next to Lin Xiaoyao was full of food, and the side of the courtyard was full of chili peppers and broken bones. The two women raised their heads almost at the same time and smiled sweetly. At Yun Qingqiu, there is a cloud platform on top of the mountain. Because it is surrounded by clouds, it is easy to learn. It is the most suitable for lectures, so it is designated as a lecture length. At this time, disciples can continue to come, and hundreds of empty seats are gradually filled. The new teenagers are extremely excited. Today's article is about a powerful Mingjue. If you practice it, your combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. That's because the equipment is important. There was still some time before Lee started class. A new disciple, Zhu Jiyu, took out a scroll and asked everyone to hurry up and show them something nice. It's the new disciple Po Wei Haoqi. Let's get together. What's so amazing about this thing? Zhu Gudong is about to spread out the inner volume of Zhu. This thing is much better than the novel. This is the inner beauty of the sect. I finally got in from my senior brother. Follow Zhu Hui. The eyes of several people were shining, and the alliance scanned the first place in the plot. Unfortunately, there are no photos here, only introductions. Everyone at the top level doubted whether this would be watery. Zhu Jiyu bucks his retort. Laughter. Han Yu's #1 male is worthy of the title of Cross. Not only his appearance, but also his cultivation is very advanced. I heard that he became a single lens only 2 years after he started. The show has done a great job for high school students. The awareness of drug risks will become better and better. People will definitely participate in the 10-year delay. The newcomer next to him also got back together. He also heard a certain senior brother mention that he witnessed the glory of the cold moon a while ago, and he couldn't sleep for a whole night. Zhu Jiyu inquired slightly. Hey, there is no way. Huoming, a disciple of Qingxuan, the leader, cannot be collected. I heard that Mr. Hanle has been out of ordinary recently. Looking forward to it. Please, he continued to recite the instructions. The second place was Luo Jingji. Elder Qingyu Feng Xuanji was the eldest disciple. She was the Jade sister type. She had a tall figure and was extremely good. Especially her pair of jade legs was simply amazing. Mo Mao was convinced that he had a higher fever than Han Yu, and his resistance to peace and fierceness would be reduced. Everyone looked up, but unfortunately it was a half-length photo, and the legs could not be seen. It was a pity that they didn't pay attention to it for the time being. The third place is Lin Xiaoya, a new disciple. It is said that Heavenly Father does not say anything about Han Yu, and his temperament is as clean as incorruptible. He immediately entered the top 3 as soon as he started. Lin Xiaoya had taken Yun Qingqiu to practice in the square before, so many people had seen him. When the class becomes full of people, it's Shuang Lingzhen who is very beautiful and has long hair. It's a pity that he seems to have a childhood sweetheart of Fei Lingzhen. And he went to Qingyufeng where there are not many people for him. The next one is Qingyufeng Muyun, who looks young and cute, dull and knowledgeable, and is very soft and frail. Zhu Hui should have seen her when she first entered. As for the points, there is no need to say more. The people in the microcosm looked at the photo, their eyes resting on the stretched out clothes. They took a deep breath and said in unison, "The weather is evil." Just when he was about to name the 5th one, he was suddenly interrupted by a disciple. By the way, have you noticed that Xing Yufeng seems to have only 3 female disciples? All of them entered the website. The quality of this Qing Yufeng beauty is too high. I also want to join Qing Yufeng. And Yun Qingqiu is really good at it. I'm envious. Zhu Jiyu immediately put away the scroll. Not only did he nonchalantly say that Yun Qingqiu had any envy-inducing secrets, he was just a fool, and he didn't care about his disciples. He just let them go. Where could there be any fire-receiving needles? The picture showed that his strength was satisfactory, especially for us. If it is difficult to repair, we should break down the wall and work hard to repair it. The disciples on the side immediately retorted, Henan Yun Qingqiu is very powerful. Don't be a disciple of Zhang. Senior brother Xu Xiu has been dressed up. Mentioning this, Zhu Gu's face gradually darkened. Kai, Feng Lingling is also his ex-wife Li Hai, and senior brother Xu is not as aware as him of seeing his men's affairs. If it hadn't been for a few years now, you can see that Yun Qingqiu Ling and the advantage are basically at the bottom of the store. Then Lin Xiaoya and his financial haul. So you practitioners are the right guides. If I wait, there will be no hatred for Jindan Daxiu. Why can't we find trouble? The beautiful truth is that when a beautiful girl is tied up, several new disciples nod their heads for the purpose of dividing the East. At this moment, a young man silently came next to them. Is there a seat here? Yes, can the chess table come here? Zhu Jiyu looked up and saw the young man Po Wei Yangshu, otherwise he would have remembered something about you, Qingqiu. Yun Qingqiu nodded, you know me. Aunt Zhu couldn't resist the disgusted Ban's bare hands. She didn't recognize her and had no place. Let's do it later. Zhu Jiyu is a disciple of the second elder and has never dealt with Jing Yufeng. It's the senior brother who takes him to practice in the school. He will definitely not give Yun Qingqiu a good look. Others, out of extreme psychology, do not allow him to do well at the top. Yun Qingqiu didn't bother to argue with them. This kind of course can't teach anyone anything. If it wasn't for earning credits, there would be no reason. Soon he passed by a few people and came to the back. Some disciples couldn't help but the West School was very loud. Ha ha, you see, any Jiahua really made it to the end. Zhu Buyi was also smiling. He sat with him all the way there. Come, let's continue. Now that we really want to continue to maintain the beautiful girl's bondage, the disciple suddenly raised his hand and pointed forward. Hey, look at that beautiful girl with big legs and weak TV. Everyone's eyes were suddenly attracted by Xin. Aren't new disciples allowed to learn? If you want to know why he waited, is the purpose of the young girl next to him. Also, Lin Xiaoya heard that he attacked Ji Jin and invited his family to come to class. Could it be that his appearance at this time was a breakthrough? Even when people think about each other, it is a bit unbelievable. 3 of the top 4 beauties on the list appear at once, because the disciple escaped after the oral examination. It was really a coincidence. I wonder if Hanle, who was the first to be kidnapped, will show up. The appearance of the 3 young ladies from Xingyou Peak immediately attracted countless attention, and the 3 of them were looking for Yun Qingqiu's figure at the same time. The people in the hospital couldn't help but wonder why he was so reliable, and Lin Xiaoya couldn't help but look behind him. She couldn't help but look at me clearly. His arms were counting without stopping. There was no need to think about the world. That big idiot must have wanted to make a small show again. He was so careful. After seeing their voices, Yun Qingqiu calmed down and made heartwarming gestures with her hands. Lin Xiaoya and Lu Yuan were both furious at the same time. This guy actually did such a thing in front of so many fellow disciples, but both of them were shy and embarrassed. Mu Yun looked around. He was embarrassed by a group of people. The back was pretty good too. There were too many people. Let's go there quickly. Seeing the 3 people about to walk over, Zhu Jiyu immediately gained the courage and momentum of the ancient clan. He said to these people without any news, Fairy Zhu Hui is here to listen to the class. There are still a few empty seats here. If you don't mind, please come here and sit down. If you wish, there will be no courtesy. It seems that these people want to do great good. He does not want to speak in front of Yun Qingqiu and other difficult cultivators, which will make him feel uncomfortable. Lin Xiaoya grabbed Luo Yuan. Lost the solution. The location here is really good and you can see more clearly. The back part is too confusing and we can't seem to do it. Zhu Gu's why not cage mouth. He immediately helped to wipe the table shadow. Yes, the location is very good. You can clearly see the actions of only the reward customers. I was sent to the hospital just because of the whole family. That's what Xiaoya said. But, Jianluo Academy only hesitated. Zhu Jiyu and other disciples were so happy that they almost exploded. They helped to launch together. The location here is sufficient. Please come here to do it. After finishing tidying up, they actually spread out and sat down, separated by 2 spaces from the actions of Lin Xiaoya and the 3 girls. They did not hesitate to watch from a distance to show their respect for the 3 beauties. Not too happy yet, Lin Xiaoya returns to Yun Qingqiu. Qingqiu comes this way. Yun Qingqiu stood up and walked over. He looked at Zhu Jiyu and others who looked like they were telling the truth. Didn't they just break the guard for a while? Didn't they just do it? Why did the boy show so much fame all at once? In their eyes of envy and extreme hatred, the 3 girls who looked like Yun Qingqiu walked next to them. Lin Qingqiu deliberately turned his head and said to them, what he did here was indeed good. No occlusion was achieved, and the desktop was also very fast. I remember that during the ancient squatting period that week, I didn't fight. With Zhong Ren's crazy eyes, Yun Qingqiu got in between the 3 girls. On the left is the white-bellied and beautiful childhood sweetheart. On the right is the long-legged Jade Jia who is checking the pressure of the crowd. Behind is the little incident with the world. In mind, Jia Ren gently exerted his strength and was not tired of it. Seeing them like this, Zhu Jiyu and others had a long relationship, the atmosphere of lost love and the long words of love, and the whole Chu Yuntai was full of erotic atmosphere. At this moment, a young man in front of him stepped onto the platform, glanced at Shigeto, and nodded with satisfaction. The newcomers were very excited and everyone seemed ready to learn. The great Zero-Ju technique for new beginners to learn is the low-level Zero-Ju technique that comes with the sex techniques. But in order to give them the motivation to practice, they have skills that can be used at critical moments. Master the ability and decide to pass on the most cost-effective one among the second-level products. Chinese is just a disciple who has completed his training. After that, he stayed in Chinese and became an instruction. He is usually responsible for taking the place of the elders who are in trouble. I saw him raising his arms to try out this amazing skill. His arms and shoulders were wrapped in flames, and he was showing off his strength. Yun Qingqiu can bear the boredom. This person seems to be proficient in mastering it. In fact, he is just a little tired. It is estimated that the other elders have not seen through this piece of spiritual magic. This seemingly simple spiritual magic often hides Qian Kuan inside. Nian Qian's performance is really blue-eyed. He doesn't want to watch it again. This is when he took out the yellow-covered novel from his sleeve, and when he was about to flip through it, his arm slightly changed. He looked to the right. If he could only be on the table, his fingers would gently fiddle with his singing and dancing from time to time, or for naughty reasons. What was the junior brother doing? Yun Qingqiu hit him with Xiuzi, lowered his head and whispered, "This person's talk is boring. I have learned. I am in a daze with nothing to do." "Really? Then let me chat with you." A pair of big bright eyes looked at Yun Qingqiu. Although it was a preview, the cuteness at this time was not inferior to that of other girls. Yun Qing nodded and had a meaningless chat with him. But while we were chatting, reality uncontrollably moved to his eyebrows and legs. Luo Yuan only raised his eyebrows, but one of his eyebrow legs suddenly lifted up and was placed on the other thigh. The board slid downwards, and the entire large intestine leg was exposed to Yun Qingqiu's sight more and more clearly. It can be said that it is a leg in the true sense. Sticky wrists. Yun Qingqiu couldn't help but think to herself. She knew she was looking at her legs, but deliberately raised her legs. Could it be that she was provoking? If faced with the provocation of his future wife, Yun Qingqiu is completely honest and shy at the moment. How will they meet in the future? Yun Qingqiu looked at the court with an accusatory look, touched her lower handle and said, "It would be nice if I wore a leg ring. My legs are long and thin and white. I would also like to have a leg ring for decoration. Just thinking about it makes me happy, but for the world, white should be more suitable than black, and it will be more popular." Luo Yuan only gave Yun Qingqiu a roll of his eyes for saying such words so straightforwardly. He looked like Jian Xiu, and although he didn't match his words, he was already thinking about whether he should try it or not. Luo Yuan's eyes turned slightly, and he waved his little hand towards Yun Qingqiu, shaking the ground, and came over to whisper to you. Yun Qingqiu, the king of Haoqi, leaned to the right and heard Luo Yuan whisper, "I want to play tricks with you, Moo Moo." Wow. As soon as these words came out, Yun Qingqiu's jewed stone blushed. This legendary sound with sharp little firepower can intensify the lethality in your ears. It is completely a situation that only exists in dual cultivation of truth. Yun Qingqiu's waist is strong enough to leave quickly. Oh, it was too much to hear such words in his ears. He couldn't stand it. He felt that his energy was being sucked out a lot. He saw Yun Qing's slightly shy look. "If you wish to point your eyes and mouth, your brother will laugh. He seems to be saying, how about I let you provoke me? Do you know how powerful it is?" Yun Qingqiu is too much and dare not look down at the courtyard for the time being. Ling Xiaoyao on the left let out a sigh of relief, raised her arms and stood at the desk. "That's it." The shield stone looked at Yuan Qingqiu. "Let's go." Yun Qingqiu smiled and said, "It's nothing. Let's take a look." Lin Xiaoyao was confused. "Look at me, what's so good about me?" Yun Qingqiu smiled faintly. "You look good everywhere." Lin Xiaoyao shyly patted Yun Qingqiu Deitu. She accidentally felt something. Lin Xiaoyao quickly twitched her hand. A blush spread on her face. Her face and ears turned red. This guy actually reacted to her. Yun Qingqiu went crazy during the shield. "Sister, your hands are so damn slippery." Lin Xiaoyao was shy, but she felt extremely happy and resentful in her heart. The reaction showed that she had met someone. That's great. This guy has thoughts about himself. Yun Qingqiu felt that her spiritual power was draining away again. It would be great if both sides were together. His federation concentrated on silently playing Sinner chess to prevent being squeezed to the point of walking back to the joint road. And Mu Yun had listened to this zero-solution explanation for the fourth time, and it was still completely different. She felt that she was completely different from the previous guys and brothers. Mu Yun pressed Yun Qingqiu's shoulder with his skill, and it softened. He felt that Yun Qingqiu was the tallest among them. He always gave him a deep feeling that his strength should be more than what he showed. In short, he chose to please, so he could ask Zero for advice in private, and maybe they could make friends with him. Yun Qingqiu felt extremely defeated because of the enjoyment. She originally thought that Xiao Xian would be confused if he had to start over again, but the situation was completely different from that of Xiong Xiong. "There are two beauties on the left and right for me, and there is one behind who is squeezing his shoulders. Isn't it so cool? It turns out that repairing can be done so quickly. Why didn't I notice it before? This is so comfortable. I will continue to practice in the next life." But at the same time I felt comfortable. My eyelid suddenly jumped, as if something was coming. He closed his eyes and leaned comfortably on the table. Yu Tong was a passionate pretender. The disciples were eating dogs and goats in pain and watching him having fun with two beautiful girls on the left and right. There was also a massage in the back. Just wait for a fucking moment. Gods are just like this. How did he increase his favorability to this level just a few days after joining? Zhu Jiyu was also sore and uncomfortable. Damn it, the beauties before the bond were all trying to please her. What on earth does this guy look like? As soon as he finished speaking, he thought that the beautiful cultivator who controlled the flying arrow was biased. The yellow ring flew under his feet and shrank into an earring before returning to his ear. Han Yu played with her hair slightly and walked to the left. Yu's sudden appearance surprised everyone. Even Jiangku's moon set was a mess. After all, even Tai Chi rarely saw this fairy. But he appeared in the main hall at this time. Could it be that he was here to observe his work? The power of breaking the stone is enough, and the power in the hand also burns brighter. The surrounding disciples were even more excited when they saw Zaniban. They couldn't help but say, "This is too helpless. With such a temperament, I am no longer the first one to be tied to the order." Unlike several other beauties, Hanla appears very rarely. Even the binding order doesn't have a flower image. Everyone wanted to keep his face in their minds, with their eyes almost glued to it. However, under everyone's sinister gaze, Hanla got ahead of Yun Qingqiu. Why does Fairy Han Yu also complain to that guy? Before and after, the four beauties in the middle school, at least she can break the hearts of everyone with envy and hatred. However, this is Yun Qingqiu, but it is Tan's pigment. He felt the heat gradually rising on both sides. Han Yu turned around and nodded slightly to Yun Qingqiu. They met again. During this time, his cultivation was going smoothly. Lin Xiaoyao also forcefully lifted her smile. Qingqiu comes to see you again. She is also the famous Jiqi girl in the school. The junior female staff is pretty good. She can even come here to accompany you. Are we a little redundant? Yun Qingqiu Yijin, Yang was busy filming Han Yu's prison sentence. Han Yu incident, you a good person? Han Yu looked confused. What is this? Issuing good person cards like learning from the clouds and clear autumn. Lin Xiaoya and Luo Yuanzi breathed a sigh of relief, but they still had to do something. Lin Xiaoya pulls out Zhu Zi and never passes. Xiao Mingming is very intimate. Qingqiu eats a little, just use a small spoon to taste the fruit in Luo Yuan. It is also delicious. The two women were in one position and another, completely announcing to Han Yu this man's ownership and ability. After a while, Yun Qingqiu's mouth was filled with food that Jiu Nana couldn't bear to taste, but Liang Enyu still hasn't. Han Yu looked at the two of them differently, hesitated for a moment and took out a box of cookies from the kitchen ring. Picking up a bare biscuit and putting it over, his face was filled with confusion. It's already like this, and you're still here to pour it out? Yun Qingqiu sprayed the rice directly. She lowered her head and stuffed the food into the river and squirted out. A lot of pulp was forced into the nasal cavity and the spray was lifted. Continuously, strong voices interrupted the music set, and the sound of the music set was maintained. I found that everyone present was not looking at him, but at Yun Qingqiu who was cooperating. Look at the beauties next to you, or the Shintong guy patting Yun Qingqiu's shoulders, or help him get into the water anxiously. There was also a person who carefully helped him wipe the house on his body. What kind of cultivation is this? This is Xiaofu. Yuetao's mouth was sour, and Jian Keben was furious and smashed it on the desk. What are you doing? As a former Korean music transfer author, looking at Yun Qingqiu in the future, I don't understand why sharing cookies will cause eruptions, and what does the look in my eyes mean? After thinking about it for a few seconds, he silently took out a mosaic hand sword with a bear pattern in the middle. It was very girlish. At first glance, it looked like he was stabbing a young girl after she returned home. The arms were slightly raised, and the innocent expression on his face seemed to be dealing with differences in the literature and medicine table. Lin Xiaoya and Luo Yuan's eyes were filled with resentment. They had not yet broken out. They just looked at Yun Qingqiu with a gentle smile and seemed to say, "What are you looking at?" Next, the small world of Muyun is bustling, but it doesn't show how big it is. With steaming eyes, I'm looking forward to how Yun Qingqiu Dao will choose. Yun Qingqiu's eyes are bulging. Sister, you going to hurt me? This kind of tattoo hand donation is usually given to the king of Qin as a token of love. You use this thing to wipe it for me. Jian Yun Qingqiu didn't answer, and Yu Qing stood up to help Kui wipe the shit, and the eldest sister who took care of her younger brother gently. The sound of the new year once again mesmerized the entire Izuntai. The beautiful girl who ranked first in the middle school beauty list. Almost all the girls actually helped her wipe her cheeks. With her own hand roll, a position flashed across Yun Qingqiu's forehead quickly. For the first time, quickly use your eyes and light to watch the reactions of the two wives. Then the alliance avoided Han Yu, and I loved the eldest sister as much as all my colleagues. Including this time, we have met 3 times in total. Are you so enthusiastic about geography? What do you mean by taking care of me so much? No, this is not care. This is murder. How stinky it is to swallow. Isn't it because I didn't satisfy you last time? I'll find an opportunity to make it up for you. Can you hold on for a few more minutes? Yun Qingqiu's brain was racing. She exhausted all her mental power and had a flash of inspiration. She looked at Lin Xiaoya and said softly, Xiaoya, I don't know why, the oranges that passed through your hands are so sweet that I don't want to swallow the flames. I just want to enjoy the short sweet time at this moment, you won't blame me. Lin Xiaoya was in a daze while recording sex. This was the first time this idiot said such disgusting words to him. He bowed his head in a pretentious manner, was a fool, what nonsense were he talking about? So many people watched it. After fainting and repairing, I touched Lin Xiaoya's head. Look at Xianglu's courtyard sister again. I didn't know what happiness was before, but now I do. The so-called happiness means that someone is willing to make desserts with his own hands and not leave with his own hands. I am too happy to refuse. It is all your fault for making me so happy. Now all I can think about is what you just said. After being admitted to the hospital, she only gave birth to a child in critical condition. She whispered in an embarrassed voice. I will also ask, junior brother, please don't look at me first. In the end, Yun Qingqiu looked at Han Yu with a stern look on his face. Thank you, no need. I have Xiaoya and senior sister to take care of me, so I won't do it the same way. Completely different attitudes still expressed their stance. After hearing Yun Qingqiu's lies, Lin Xiaoya and Luo Yuan are only in a foolish mood, and Yi Hanyu is white. He took out his hand sword and continued to help wipe the pulp of the fruit. Mu Yun couldn't help but feel worried. Xiaoqiu was indeed a mechanism. The feeling of clearing the ball was so busy that I cleverly solved it with the trick of the girl from Chiluo. Sister's face was flushed, and he finally breathed a sigh of relief. This is so exciting. Back then, I was trapped by a group of experts who were close to each other. There was no one like this. Thanks to the Emperor's uncle's rich content, I must blow it up. There will still be more cards in the future. There is a kind of situation where everyone in the same class has wide eyes. Zheng Nima, he has been gradually deceived by this situation. There are also many people who have lied and realized the truth, seemingly knowing the reason why they are single. Han Le, who was rejected, was not sad. Instead, he watched quietly from the side, his mouth opened and he seemed to want to remind Yun Qingqiu that he had not wiped it clean. But he was afraid that Yun Qingqiu would be unhappy and did not speak. She looks like a gentle little daughter-in-law, very attractive. In the past 4 lifetimes, I had saved a group of people who were very arrogant, but they were actually drunk by the 4 beauties of the sect. What the hell is this Peach Blossom? He was in a daze with his over-consciousness. Even after scolding him, he forgot what to do next. He was so angry that he felt so happy that he finally figured it out. Before, when he saw the new disciples being quiet all day, he thought he was well prepared to study. Love is like being treated like a bitch for many years. I don't know anything from the back. And everyone is silently watching other people's displays of affection. As an outstanding disciple who has graduated for many years, he now has half of the knowledge to become an elder. He actually eats dog birds. His mouth is sour and the anger brewing in his chest is getting stronger and stronger. I couldn't bear to change my suit, so I threw the double coupons on the table again. It's so good to be a freshman. Stand up for me, those coughing guys. Who are you from? Which mountain peak? Which Presbyterian church? Before Yun Qingqiu could say anything, other new disciples rushed to get it. He was Yun Qingqiu of Qingyufeng, the disciple of the 4th elder Xuanji. Yun Qingqiu's name is very famous in Chinese, because he first had a double-voiced mutated spiritual lamp. Then he became a disciple of the 2nd elder Qing dynasty for a month. Even his professional teacher forgot about it. But what puzzled him was why this little girl was so good. Could it be that there was something that often happened to her? The girls next to Jian Yun Qingqiu looked at Yun Qingqiu distressedly, and he felt even more confused. Good guy, you can continue the mine for 7 days. Come and guide me as soon as the class begins. Do you think this is a place where you can run wild? It's a waste of time to test. Booth goes in. Such a person is really supported by the sect. The other disciples also nodded their heads, and they were all cheering for the moon. The entire Izuntai shield was extremely selective. Yun Qingqiu didn't understand what she had done. Why did these people seem to hate herself so much? I don't know if it was an illusion, but he seemed to feel that the surroundings were burning with hot flames. A group of demon cultists were releasing the fire of anger. When the atmosphere was at its peak, Lin Xiaoya and Luo Yuan pointed out the new address of the fruit shop. Those disciples noticed that they were staring at the beautiful woman, and their voices gradually became quieter. I tried to smooth them out. Finally, Yang Hua giggled at Liang Nu. Yu Dao twitched his mouth. These bullshit new disciples are just rubbish. They are still so locked up even though they are so thin. But do you think he really wants to use flint? But suddenly she found that Han Yu was looking straight at her. The consciousness on Yu Dao's face disappeared and was replaced by a silly smile. Fairy Han Yu is so beautiful. She deserves to be my girl. When Yu Dao woke up, Han Yu was the leader behind closed doors. He didn't believe that two people with such a big difference in status could succeed. Han Yu's visit to Azuyantai this time was probably due to the fatal consequences of the leader. He listened to observe the new situation and the character's quality. If he didn't handle this matter well, it will be troublesome if it is reported. Over the course of his life, Leng Heng launched all kinds of criticism and education. He got so emotional that he called Yun Qingqiu over to talk to others about the criticism. Lin Xiaoya and Luo Yuanqi were worried. According to Chinese regulations, the role of teaching academics has great rights, which is directly related to the credit consideration of new students within Chinese. If the score is too low, it will even be transferred to miscellaneous images. Luo Yuan only looked at Yun Qingqiu worriedly, hoping that he could endure Yu Dao's harsh criticism and would be in trouble if something happened. Yu Dao looked at Yun Qingqiu coldly. I have been in Chinese for several years and have never seen arrogant people like you. A brief summary of 10,000 words. I will hand it over to Friday tomorrow. Otherwise you will be responsible for the consequences. He deliberately imposed excessive punishment in the hope that Yun Qingqiu would resist so that he would have a reason to punish him. But what is unexpected is that Lin Qingqiu's theory is just a matter of anger. In fact, I have already grown this piece of Lingjue. As soon as this flower appeared, the whole place burst into flames. Everyone's eyes were wide open because of the cold. How can you have the courage to say such big words? This is the Po Feng exhibition, the second grade 0 chrysanthemum. You are a scumbag who has never learned basic skills in several consecutive games. How dare you say such nonsense? Are you just trying to show off in front of the girls? Lin Xiaoya and Lu Yuanqi's dual performance was also a bit incredible. Yun Qingqiu has a good husband and grandson, but it is a bit exaggerated to say that they are proficient. Lin Xiaoya listened to a class attentively, but she only learned a little bit. If she is familiar with the application, she still needs a lot of current affairs. He also knew how difficult this zero Ju was, and it took him a lot of time to get his energy up. Yu Daojing looked at Yun Qingqiu like a heavenly person. He was worried that he couldn't punish him properly, but now it's a bit interesting, so he must show it in front of him. Yun Qingqiu Duan is a little hesitant. Is this a bit inappropriate here? Faced with this deliberate sculpture that was looking directly at him, he felt a little unhappy, so he would give him a box. With slightly blinded eyes, it's a big country to deceive the mayor of Shengmen municipal government. If you can't show it, you need heavy work. Yun Qingqiu's eyes showed a slight sign, and he took a step back. His voice had a little resonance. I have indeed mastered it, but my body is not suitable today. How about I practice for a while? Yu Dao looked at Yun Qingqiu with a smile. Those subtle movements were no longer possible. The dead are indeed going without punishment. If your body doesn't cause any problems, okay, then tomorrow's Yanwo Chang show will be fine. If you pass, I will directly give you the evaluation at the end of the course. But if you fail, as long as it is the course I am responsible for, you will fail. Yun Qingqiu's voice makes you understand. Is this too serious? Change it to another one. If it's not enough, how about shutting my sister-in-law up? It's become more popular now. In exchange for doing dirty work, now I know I'm scared. When I just uttered wild words and pretended to be cheating. Okay, since you are so willing to work, then add this. If you fail, you will fail all the courses, plus clean the toilet. If you pass, I will give you a professional evaluation. Plus I will clean the toilet and apologize to you. The monthly package did not give Yun Qingqiu a chance to bargain, and directly announced the end of Get Out of Class. At this time, Zhu Biyu and others felt secretly happy. Our anger was finally relieved a little. He admired Yun Qingqiu very much. He also felt that this kind of course could be completed in one day. It was absolutely amazing. He planned to go over and remind him of the 10,000 word review. I found several girls comforting me like red babies. Dunchi's face was as dark as a fast state. Several friends next to him grabbed Zhu Jiyu and said, "Don't look. It will be uncomfortable for a week if you don't look. It will be uncomfortable for another month if you look at it. Let's go. Anyway, tomorrow will be unlucky this time." One day, the training ground was full of people practicing Lingju, a new entry point, and various zero-Ju attacks continued to dodge. The higher the assistant is, the one who rotates in the training ground to scan the training status of new disciples. A burst of fire burst forward, and his eyes were instantly swallowed up by the flames. Next to him came a recorded sound of Xinchi shouting to each other. Great, it was a success. How can the Daoyang Bureau still be like this? At this moment, a violent fireball like a fire dragon rushed forward. The firelight instantly hit the wooden suit. The red flames filled the sight. The wooden suit man instantly turned into dust. And came back. This is the correct method of actual combat. You are practicing. The corners of Yu's lips were drawn out, and he was angry at the same time. At the same time, he was serious about the hidden power displayed by the flames. He said that he was a first-class middle-level spirit, a relatively basic fire attribute spirit. He could learn it by himself in just 1 week. The difficulty is not very high. And the damage is corresponding. The power is not special either, but what Ren Qingqiu used was completely beyond Bao Yang's opinion. Yu Dao thought about it, and then slowly walked forward. Looking at Yun Qingqiu, who was being yelled at by the 3 girls Jing Yufeng, there was another feeling of soreness in his legs. Boy, I see you can still use a bottle of High World Spirit Scroll. The Broken Wind exhibition is in good condition. The teacher said that today's condition is not very good. Of course, Yun Qingqiu said the same thing. After all, he has to be played by 2 women every day. It's a bit hard, isn't it? But UDI doesn't care about this. He has already given him a day and asked Yun Qingqiu to show it immediately. If he fails to pass the test, all his studies will be unreasonable. Yun Qingqiu didn't say anything more. He walked alone to an eyepiece, stretched out his palms, released his spiritual power outwards, and the doctor floated, forcing the wind to slowly wrap around his arms. Graduation Set carefully noticed the state of Yun Qingtang. The direction of zero case in the body was very different from that of Po Feng Zhong. If it weren't for the airflow that disturbed the arm, he would even think that Po Feng Zhong was another zero. Could it be that this company may have adapted Ling Ju? But Ling Juqi would be able to get away with it so easily. This kind of thing can only be done by Chinese elders. At this moment, the disciple suddenly exclaimed that this guy actually had 14 islands of miscarriage energy on his arm. The moment it turns around, it has already broken through the wind. There will be a short prelude to the force transforming into the airflow wrapped around the arm. When it encounters a certain degree, it will change to the point of slashing, and the airflow wrapped around the arm will change. The number is the number of subsequent slashes. Generally speaking, Po Feng Ju can stimulate the air channels of the stove. 14 channels are almost the limit. However, at this time, Yun Qingqiu actually stimulated 17 channels of airflow towards it. This kind of extreme difference can only condense 13 channels of airflow at most, and the combination of 13 channels is already quite large. If the operation is serious and improper, it may even cost the entire coin. However, the guy in front of me looked relaxed and carefree, and the airflow gradually became more and more diffuse. Yu Dao strives for big eyes. If you can spread out the airflow at 17, you can stir up the wooden suit. If you are 17 and the airflow can spread out today, Yu Dao will eat this wooden suit on the spot. Immediately afterwards, the 17 to airflow slides through the air and moves forward quickly. The airflow is transformed into a 17 to slash. The white light exchanges tactics in the air. The sound of breaking the wind appears faintly. Under the display of the machine, the arrogant person turns to the left and the eyes are broken. The selection field was suddenly filled with Chinese people. The second-grade Ling Jue actually came out in actual combat. She was still 17. Luo Yuan only blinked his eyes. Although they had seen each other once last night, they still seemed incomprehensible. Ling Xiaoyao took a deep breath and adjusted her mood. I remember that when I was a child, an old man with a traumatized life brought Qingqiu to Ping'an. The knowledgeable old man at the hearing said that the zero energy they carried was quite high-end and might come from some big families and powerful forces. But when he was asked, he got nothing. Yu Dao's expressionless eyes and mouth were gently closed, as if he wanted to break the atmosphere of results and Dan, but inside he was in a state of despair. Dan's mind was filled with the words of yesterday's conflict. Why is it that Huang Wei is completely pretending? This guy is deliberately restrained. It's okay to pass the evaluation of the customer service, but the matter of my sister-in-law's toilet is not something she wants to embarrass herself in. Her mind was running very fast. She suddenly thought of something and suddenly raised her head. She took out a 10,000-word essay. If this guy can't come up with a 10,000-word brief discussion, then he has an excuse to make a fool of himself. Since he can use Po Feng Zhong, the couple in the new Central Division will definitely not write that brief discussion. When Zhu Jiyu heard that Yu Dao didn't yell for prison escape, he could push away the crowd and walk over. After Peng Qi pointed at him, he walked over and said, "Senior brother Ji, this is Yun Qingqiu's simple. I almost vomited blood when I took the Yu Dao. This guy really wrote a 10,000-word summary. Her mother has already learned breaking wind palm. Why is she still writing a summary? You are poisonous." I turned over the moon a little and found that there were more than 5 self-criticisms of 10,000 words each. What the hell is this situation? It's a bit fierce to get a monthly condom with a generous thumbs up. The only one being punished these days is the artist Yun Qingqiu. Why are there 5 of them here? Review. He flipped through the pages quickly and found that 4 of them were of his elegant military training and zero energy. At first glance, he looked like a beautiful girl. At a glance, the ones at the back of the brief description were all zero energy. Many disciples can see the content of the review even if they look up slightly from behind the moon cover. After looking at the target, the opponents almost understand it. You, girl, help me. Yun Qingqiu looked at the paper and saw that it was very poor. She turned around and was shocked. Please help me write a summary. Luo Yuan only looked at Yun Qingqiu with gravity. I was afraid that the wetland would be blocked and I would be in trouble if there was a punishment, so I helped write 10,000 yuan overnight. Lin Xiaoyan nodded. I also thought he couldn't write. I covered my back at night and brainstormed 10,000 words. Turns out he wrote. Miyun is also a gas pumper. His eyes flashed. If I knew you guys would help me write, I wouldn't have bothered. I wrote all night long. All I can think about now is I'm sorry. The three women looked at each other and looked at Ming and Qingqiu. They seemed to be aggrieved and complained about why they didn't tell them. Yun Qingqiu's smell came to make Yu Dao dirty the toilet. He even made a 10,000-word self-reflection on replacing water, even the pain in it. What she didn't expect was that several girls also suffered and wrote for her, and she was filled with questions. The hand of the moon glove is tightened, and the scissors slowly deform in the hand. The scissors are bleeding, and 0 Ju has also passed. If I talk nonsense again, Mankan will just stop it. But cleaning the toilet, how can I stand in front of my heart after I just do this? What else can I do? I can only continue to be shameless. I am not a human being. Yu Dao raised his head and gave a rogue smile. Yun Qingqiu, let others take charge of the writing. This is the rule of Second World Chinese. He then looked at Lin Xiaoyaluo Academy's Muyun. What are you thinking about? This is Yun Qingqiu's summary, but you wrote it for him, thinking that returning home is. Luo Yuan only frowned. It's just senior brother. My junior brother wrote the summary himself. It's our fault that we ghostwritten it. We have nothing to do with junior brother. Don't run away from your own losses and immediately interrupt Lu Yuan's words. Do you have the right to speak here? Are you looking directly or am I looking directly? Yes, Wu Zunjie will continue to protect you. It seems that you need to go up to Yu's Hongmen to deal with it. Today, none of you can escape. You will all be punished. As for you, Yun Qingqiu, haha, you are waiting to be sent down to smash and lie down. Yun Qingqiu bit Yu Dao coldly, and he could ignore it if he offended him, but he actually talked about his sister. Yu Dao was so proud that Yun Qingqiu from Babu took action so that he could have the opportunity to die. Just when he was about to continue provoking, a light and cold voice suddenly came from beside him. The monthly value of everything is that the acting is considered as a mistake, so I am also guilty of a mistake. Yu Dao Dajin didn't even notice that someone appeared next to him. When he turned around, he turned out to be Han. Chu Wei's disciple was shocked. Han Le actually helped you write a brief review for Qingxiu. Yu Dao went crazy. Han Yugui is a disciple of Changluan Guanmen, and he actually helped this kid write a self-criticism. What's the point? Han Yu stood next to Yun Qingqiu, with no expression on her eyes, and her voice was neither happy nor sad, which was a little confusing but not painful. Graduation set up, Wei Wei said. Of course it doesn't count. Han Le nodded. Wei Wei. I just heard that you wanted to punish other people. Is it because I am a Nagato disciple that you are protecting me? The invisible aura on Han Yu's body forced Yu Dao to be speechless, and his forehead was covered with sweat. Han Yu had been hiding behind closed doors. You are a typical practicing otaku. But you appeared at this time and even targeted yourself. It was really a setback. Wash your wrist first when Han Yu is active. Wrist review is written by my hand. The more he tricked him. After all, Fairy Han Yu was the most promising disciple of the master. If he said something to the master, he might have to play directly, but the Yu Dao alliance nodded. Xiao He's fortune-telling is clear. I hate studying radiation. Junior brother performed well and got full marks for coursework. As for cleaning the toilet, I will do it. The Zuntai toilet is absolutely clean. Junior brother is welcome to check. This matter is too poisonous and gentle. It is completely different from the previous account cancellation. In addition, junior brother Yun, I will also personally apologize to you in the future. If I am used in any place in the future, and the financial management opens the door, senior brother will definitely help you deal with it. Yu Dao has a secret plan in his mind. He needs to get through this level now. He will have a chance to take revenge later. Otherwise, how will he be able to reverberate in the Chinese language in the future? Yun Qingqiu laughed and said, okay, let me try my brother's advice. But I have some knowledge and I didn't explain it clearly. The toilet we bet on is not the toilet in Chutai, but the entire Zhongmen. Yu Taoduan's face turned green in shame. The eyes of the entire sect's juniors and brothers are not a joke. Thousands of people in the sect will be cleaned until the year of the river and the month of the river. Yun Qingqiu just looked at him indifferently. It was because his brother wanted to return. The moon condom wanted to attack, but before Ding Junzi, Han Yu's face was expressionless. Did he sigh and take it off? He struggled internally and finally bit out a few times. Okay, I'll sweep it. Yun Qingjin then continued, it won't bother you if you are light and windy. I hope to get dirty. Senior brother, don't dare to enter. The moon peach soul is so deep that it almost spits out a mouthful of soil. The Chuwei brothers felt cold tears in their hearts. Sun Fencheli felt more and more uncomfortable as he went through menstruation. Instead of eating dog meals next to him, which was the worst, it was better to concentrate on cultivating food. And Yun Qingqiu also has one more person to become a good person. Bao Liang will go first. Back at this moment, Yun Qingqiu felt that there was a murderous aura behind him. Many powerful Chinese pigs rolled out of the pigeon head. Something bad was going to happen. The girl was about to collapse. She managed to fool her yesterday. I'm afraid it won't be that easy today. He was in pain and didn't understand Hanli's operation at all. The two of them didn't have a huge hatred, so why should they cause it? Miyun obediently stayed aside to get out of the way, holding a Bagua star as a member of the Shishou group. Yun Qingqiu's shoulders were slapped by Qingqing. Yang Gu Xiangwei paved his nose. Yun Qingqiu and his like were cold men. Qingqiu, if you really have an affair with Fairy Han, I will help you write a 10,000-word essay. Yun Qingqiu turned around and was about to explain. Luo Yuanji's finger gently touched Yun Qingqiu's mouth, smiling and saying, Junior brother, there is no need to say anything. Xiaoyao and I both know how to drink men. Ling Xiaoyao lost her temper and said one after another, I said at first that it has nothing to do with them, but they are looking for you again and again, and I can't help but look at you. Fairy Han is still looking at you. That look in her eyes makes Han Qing more silent. Luo Yuan only smiled and continued to answer the conversation. Not only that, I saw Yu Lian in that posture. I think it must be such a fairy to be worthy of the room. Xiaoyao and I will not run away like light bulbs. Yun Qingqiu was very crazy. When he dared to hold on to two girls, wait a minute. This is really a misunderstanding. I have only met him a few times. How can there be any messy relationship? Wait a minute. That Yun Qingqiu turned around and immediately begged for mercy. Han Yu world, please say something. I'm about to die. Han Yu's eyes flashed with tears. She missed the cheetah and pointed to the grove on the side. I really still care about it. Can you be a grove for a while? Yun Qingqiu directly put it on the spot. At this moment, he felt like setting fire to the mountain. Ling Xiaoyao turned around angrily, confused. Let's go. Luo Yuan just smiles and nods. He opens his eyes to Yun Qingqiu and gets along well. The world is waiting for your good news. Yun Qingqiu will print the deep arm of two members of the girl club. Muyun Construction also left with the two of them. The only remaining clouds are Qingqiu Yati and Exploring Love. Just then Hanla came over. Can you come with me to the woods? Yun Qingqiu twitched her lips and said, okay, I'll go to the woods with you today to have an in-depth conversation. I want to see what you really want to say. The official saw that there was a small wave full of Daohua which was called the Lover's Wave. There are many secret truths about love and speed that are not true here. Yun Qingqiu immediately blushed when he got here. If he really went in, he wouldn't be able to explain it, so he went to the pavilion next to it instead. Many fellow students who passed by were very different and stayed on the roadside to live in the clan. When did Fairy Handler make sense? Han Yu ignored those instructions and generously led Yun Qingqiu up to the next floor, found an empty seat and sat down. Lin Qingqiu said speechlessly, Sister, what do you want to say? Han Yu took out a peach blossom that the sailor downstairs picked up and brought it to the back of the old man. It looked like Yin Qingqiu. I'm not that old. I can't support any big sister. I may even be younger than you. Yun Qingqiu shines up and down in the cold moon. Nian Rong makes good friends. The deep wind is full of dangers. No matter how you look at it, you are 178 years old. I dare to ask the fairy to lead it. Han Yu looked into his eyes very sincerely. 15. Yun Qingqiu was shocked. I can have long legs like you at 15. No matter how long you are, you can still feel what I am doing. Han Yu lightly understood that running and touching his thigh might be an exercise for the Qing family to practice their body skills. Then what's going on with your breasts? After saying that, Yun Qingqiu and Wang Wuzuan were mad for a moment and actually said such crude words, and they were secretly disappointed. It was quiet for a few seconds, and Han Yu gently floated on her breasts. I have the feeling of practicing physical education and have two eyes. This should not be surprising. Yun Qingqiu was speechless. She was so excited that she said it was inappropriate because of Thailand. If it had been any other girl, she might not have slapped her in the face. But Mr. Han Yu answered seriously, isn't it a bit too upright? Speaking of which, the sea is actually somewhat similar to the land he owns. I'm dizzy and trembling. If I were my little apprentice, we could talk dirty together, but it would be troublesome if I meet a girl like this who takes everything seriously. I don't know what it means at all. Before he could speak, Han Libian spoke first. Judging from your age, I should ask you to give birth to a baby. But he suddenly paused again. He seemed to think that there was some business in teaching students to sing songs, and he wanted to make his tone a little lighter. Qingqiu Ji. Yin Qingqiu dared to die and refused with nothing. He didn't dare to take it seriously. He almost knelt down in the underground prison. If he spent his whole life teaching in front of his wives, he would probably have to buy the goods in person. Han Yu saw Yin Qingqiu's crotch and raised her eyebrows slightly. Don't worry, I don't have any feelings for you. But he suddenly changed his mind and said, no, you look quite pleasing to the eye. It's also a double transformation and one spiritual root. It would be suitable to practice dual cultivation. After a while, I will be old enough to find you. As soon as these words came out, Yin Qingqiu was almost shot to death. She felt crazy and lustful for a while. She looked at Han Yu leisurely. Han Yu was confused. If you have anything to do, just say it. Please. He heard that Han Lechu was in seclusion and rarely went out. He wanted to see what the little war girl had to say to him. Han Yu closed her eyes and sorted out her thoughts. Kang Lanyu has not sent any tasks recently. Can you please mention it? I heard that in the past few years, there have been more and more factions in the Xiuzheng world who want to repair the association. In order to prevent unrest, the major forces in Kanglan Jade jointly organized a foot massage order to coordinate the dispatch of light forces to the central gate of the area where the mission was delivered. The middle sect will then send those tasks down to the disciples to receive and complete them. All the major middle sects will gather to cooperate. First, you can stir the swash plate to achieve stability in the area. Secondly, it improves the disciples and allows them to develop their strength. Having experience of life and death combat will also give them a huge boost. Those who perform exceptionally well in the Horned Demon Order mission in Fudan will receive sect rewards and will also be promoted to SNSD. He is even qualified to enter the Kangan territory, and the ancient corrections jointly controlled by the big names go in to find important technologies. In addition, the Horned Demon Order will also serve as an important extra point for Kang Lanyu to modify the bondage of young people. After boarding the bondage order, you will get a huge amount of customs in Kanglan Yu. As long as you wait for the machine to be tied up, your books will fly into the fields, and even the porridge door will be exposed. If a disciple who is bound to a contract is selected by a sect, a large amount of resources will be distributed as compensation in exchange for the disciple. And the good will be regarded as a support for the sect. Moreover, the rewards for each type of binding are extremely attractive. For example, when practicing single binding, the master will be required to block the side of the hand anywhere. In short, foot-touching collar has extremely high requirements for both individuals and people. Yin Qingqiu couldn't explain the misfortune. He said so much, so what did Sister Hanshin mean? Han Yu said very seriously, although Hu Yuan shares have a place in Muzhou Prefecture, they have been radicalized in recent years and have not been listed for a long time. If this continues, other companies will inevitably take over. My entry-level score is 2 years old. What should I do after trying it? At this time, Yoli, a disciple who was dressed up, came over and looked at Han Yu. He was in a special mood. She turned out to be the Chinese goddess Han Yuxian. It quickly places a menu on the table. Come on, two of you. Have some tea. Yin Qingqiu glanced at Qingdan, broken sound tea, urinary tea, and the earth leaf tea at the back. Never heard of it. Yin Qingqiu hydropower refers to it. This, I guess, was pulled out from the corner of the mouth of the disciple who was dressed up. This house or some other ghost invited the goddess of the middle sect to drink this cracked tea. She shook her head and left. Go ahead, ask for less. 2 cups of dark tea will make you less. Yin Qingqiu pushed 1 cup in front of Han Yu. The world only wants to be lofty. I admire you. But this is in line with me. I can go to you, 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 I can go to you. I am the 30 roots of water, wood, and earth, and you have the ice peak 0 root that is mutated by water and wood. I will one day be a high-level 0 Jew. If the two of us practice together, we will definitely be able to make higher progress. Yin Qingqiu's eyes were slightly fascinated. The world should be able to find people with the same spiritual roots as Yunli. It is not cheap spiritual roots that can be used to cultivate together. When Yang Han Yu continued to add, when I was fighting with you, I found that your aura was particularly strong behind your chest. It should be very long-lasting. I don't like to practice for a short period of time. It's best to endure the Yu festival together. Yin Qingqiu looked at Han Yu strangely. The more she heard these words, the more strange she felt. When I thought about it carefully, it was almost the same as Shuangxiu. Could it be that he wanted to suck me too? In response to Yun Qingqiu's question, Han Yun and Yang Yoji paused for a moment and looked at Yun Qingqiu and said very seriously. You look blinking, don't let me bother you. Yun Qingqiu is very different. You mean to cross me and be handsome? You are my words. Hanle didn't know how to answer, so he nodded awkwardly, a little unclear. Yun Qingqiu looked at the scenery outside the window with a deep expression. He was chosen by Yang Ji as a powerful faction. Although he felt a little wrong, he had to say that he was indeed very discerning and he was willing to accept this challenge. Han Yu was silent for a moment, otherwise he would feel that this person was a bit unnecessary. After a while, he took out a small pre-collection from Yiruan and put it in front of Yun Qingqiu. This is the Lingjing pill. It is a concept that can increase the level of breakthrough for the mayor, who has just entered the middle gate. However, the single path of the settlement fund is for those who need drugs to receive breakthroughs, so you should be able to use the rest. Han Yu paused for a moment and hoped that he could believe in the support of animal hunting again. This single drug Yun Qingqiu method of not knowing how to love can be used to hide it. After thinking for a while, Yun Qingqiu also took out a moon fire. I don't like to owe others anything. Here are some Qingqiu Zero medicines that can help you clear your mind and prevent fire hazards. The discovery of the difference between South Korea and Vietnam is related to the strong excitement of the medicine box emitted by the core. The value is even higher than one's own three-body monotony. It will not be alone. How can an entry-level address be so good at farming? And Yun Qingqiu smiled faintly. As for the foot mask order or the juvenile treasure, I am not very interested. I am very satisfied with my current cultivation life. It is getting late. I will be early. After taking him away, Han Yu picked up Yu and Qingqing and opened them. Inside is a pile of extremely high-quality forming sheets, which are very good when you smell them. In addition, there is also a book in it. Fankang book industry of the Han Yu festival also strives for greatness. The Lian family ignites a trace of Su Hong. This book has. After returning to the Qingyu seal room in the afternoon, Yun Qingqiu stayed at the entrance of the courtyard for more than 10 minutes, still gritting his teeth and walking. He is in a very good mood. The lonely friend he hired last time was just a good husband. This time, the two of them are dead. It is not easy to lie about love. Yun Qingqiu couldn't help but dare to explore. Sometimes being too charming is also a sin. Entering the attic, he first went to Mu Yun's door and knocked on the door. After the door opened, Mu Yun looked at Ning Qingqiu, who looked ugly and miserable. Yihua hit Xiaoqiu. Didn't you go on a date with Han Yu World? It's over. Yun Qingqiu was almost shot to death with one sentence. Toothed brother Mo Dong, small world deeply says. Mu Yun Danbang changed his mind. I'm sorry. What does Xiaoqiu want to do with me, really? Yun Qingqiu took a deep breath. How are Xiaoya and Da Shijie doing? How are they doing? Mu Yun told her that both of them were a little excited. They would go to the room after dinner. Xiaoya did not practice and the hospital sister did not go to the bathroom with me. I said that things were not going well in autumn and winter, so I decided to think of Dafa to go back. He scratched his hair anxiously and decided to go to the little spirit care room on the first floor first. Zhangqie knocks on the door to avoid making any noise. Come in. Yun Qingqiu Yileng, Qingqing pushes Tai Men's probe. Lin Xiaoya was packing something in the room. Before he could speak, Lin Xiaoya spoke first. I thought you were staying out for the night and not coming back. Lin Xiaoya crossed her delicate legs and thought long and hard about Ying Qingqiu. It was really unexpected to come back so early. He dared to explain in a hurry. How could he not come back? Xiaoya, you misunderstood. He just sat down next to Ling Xiaoya, but he pushed him away in disgust. Mother Moen, you smell of Han Yu, give me the original. Ling Xiaoya arranged her clothes angrily and looked like she didn't want to take care of her clothes. Yun Qingqiu took her head and held a small bench and stood opposite Ling Xiaoya. Xiaoya, don't get me wrong, we really have nothing to do with each other. Look at your pale face. Don't be angry. Ling Xiaoya Hang has hooked her all her life. Girl, it's so cool to see you happy and I'm happy too. Why should I be angry? Yun Qingqiu then said, it's nothing. I didn't take the initiative to look for it at all. But Lin Xiaoya was even more angry. That's enough. You want to say that it's the world that's wrong, isn't it? Yun Qingqiu felt a pain in his head. He was silent for a few seconds and took out one. It was accumulated into a beautiful storage space. He originally planned to give it to her as a birthday gift. At present, it seems that it is more important to date the girl first. Xiaoya, look at what this is. Lin Xiaoya turned her head to show that she was not looking, but the grey light reflected by the sunlight was dazzling, and he couldn't help but steal her sister-in-law's affection. After seeing the ring, his mouth opened slightly. Is this the storage world? This storage world is beautifully designed and worth a lot of money at first glance. It is expected to fly and can hold a lot of beautiful clothes. His dream is that he can't believe it. One of them turned out to be Lin Xiaodan had some singing skills and seemed to be hesitant about accepting it. Before he could choose, Yun Qingqiu directly put the Chu Wu ring in his hand. Lin Xiaoya put away a large pile of clothes she had packed and looked at Yun Qingqiu with her face in her hands. I am really not angry. I will ignore you when I am angry. I am just sad and jealous. Hao Qingqiu is slightly confused. Eat it, that's right. Bing Xiaoya lowered her head and looked at the kitchen world on her finger. Yes, I ate by mistake. My Qinglei master was taken away by another woman. Lin Xiaoya looked at Yun Qingqiu aggrievedly. What can I do? I want to stay with you forever. What if you don't come to me if you are angry? I am not targeting Han Yuan. I am afraid that you will be taken away and it will never work again. Yun Qingqiu looked at the Anran girl and felt slightly distressed. Xiaobian leaned forward and picked up Ling Xiaoyang's little hand-dressed model. What are you thinking about? You are my favorite little cutie. How could I ignore you? Lin Xiaoya shook her head redly. Oh, it won't be good if others hear it. Yun Qingqiu smiled darkly. Then we can do bad things quietly and don't let others.